So hey guys, how are you all? Welcome to Cospeech. So we are back with a brand new movie on what if Naruto was the third son of Kaguya and the future of the clan movie, but before we start, be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Now let's begin the story. The Otsutsuki clan, the ancient clan that originated from another world and traveled to the elemental nations. The war-torn land would soon have the peace that it graciously desired. The one to bring the peace would be none other than the matriarch of the Otsutsuki clan. Kaguya Otsutsuki, the rabbit goddess. Consuming the fruit of the Shinju, she became the first user of chakra, the energy that shinobi would later on incorporate for warfare. Bringing peace to the lands, the goddess would soon give birth to two sons, Hagoromo Otsutsuki and Hamura Otsutsuki. The two sons would go on and try to bring peace among the people in their own way. Hagoromo would go on to teach the civilians the ways of ninshu in hopes of bringing peace. Hamura would succeed his mother and become the new clan head and ruled the clan as the patriarch and move the clan to the moon. Kaguya, due to being the one that ate the fruit, her life was extended to an extent in which it was as if she was immortal. Kaguya had sealed herself off. The decision Hagoromo made angered her and the rabbit goddess after witnessing the aftermath of her foolish son's decision. The humans forgot his teachings and soon used the power of chakra for war. Her nursery had been ruined. Hamura Otsutsuki had passed on with his teachings, which would soon become the celestial decree. Passing on, misinterpretation of the decree ignited a civil war between the clan, and without knowledge of the matriarch of the clan's location, they fought. When Kaguya awoke from her sealed state, she arrived to a battle between the last of the main family and the branch family. Stopping the battle, the goddess enraged demanded the leaders of the families to stand before her. Demanding answers, her Byakugan activated and the veins surrounding her two eyes added to the intimidating effect. Both heads gave her their respective answers and her rage was driven further. Her people were fighting because of her son's foolish decree. It was time for them to leave this cursed land. Her people suffered. They fought among themselves for the betterment of those mindless savages. It was time they returned home. Kaguya ordered her people to prepare for travel once more. It was time they returned to their world. Kaguya moved to the bottom of the castle that her people had moved the transportation machine. The walls shone with seals as they opened up and the machine was visible. Making her way to the machine, the lights flashed on and soon the entire room was illuminated. Power coursed through the machine as a portal soon opened up and Kaguya looked at it for a few seconds before making her way towards the portal, and soon she disappeared. The clan had instructions to follow her back home and they would rise up in power once more. Kaguya was sitting in the clan compound located in Japan. It had been a few years since they had moved back, and now the Otsutsuki clan was the most influential family in all of Japan, and to blend in with the new era, Kaguya had established the Otsutsuki Industries. Otsutsuki Industries quickly became one of the most influential company in the world with amazing new advances in technology and medicine. It was amazing what chakra could be used for, but the fact that she created a company for her clan was simply for the family to gain some money. The Otsutsuki clan did not have much from before, but now with chakra in their bodies they could now stand at the top of their group. The Otsutsuki clan were a group of half-demons. Though they do not know which demon their other half was, they now possessed one of the greatest powers that the other world could offer. Chakra. With chakra they could access senjutsu and utilize their magic with the chakra, then they would no longer be at the bottom of the food chain. Kaguya was very happy with the results as she gave birth to another son. This one she swore to herself that she would mold him into the perfect clan head. The name of her third child was Naruto. Though it had two meanings, one was the topping for ramen known as Naruto or fish cake, and lastly the true meaning of the name. Maelstrom, a storm that would cause chaos and destruction in its wake. Her son would be that, he would be the one to cause destruction to the enemies of the clan. For her plan to work, she began the young Otsutsuki's training once he began reading. By giving the boy knowledge and literature, she was able to begin the boy's training in the art of sealing as soon as possible. Fuinjutsu was one of the greatest things they had created for combat, as they were not as powerful as some demons. But with chakra they were able to take it to the next level. The art of sealing was the rite of passage for all members of the clan. The training of her third son reached new heights as the boy worked on strengthening his body and working in the art of sealing. The boy was intelligent for his age, oh yes, when it came to seals he was a prodigy like no other. But when it came to academics, he lacked the drive to learn such things, as he dubbed it as useless. Though he still managed to learn the necessary subjects in the world's educational system for him to attend high school. That was not all he had taught the blonde. Kaguya desired her child to become one of the strongest able to stand up to the other factions. This she chose to train her child how to utilize chakra. The new source of power for the entire Otsutsuki clan. They had not been able to wield it before, but now with the fruit eaten the amazing powers were passed evenly among the clan. In the use of chakra, The heir to the Otsutsuki clan was taught all the mother knew and the knowledge the entire clan had acquired from the other world. Due to her son's foolishness, the humans were able to change the use of ninshu to ninjutsu. They had changed the idea of chakra into one of war, and so they began developing ways to kill one and another. Though not good for their end, the Otsutsuki clan benefited from the humans' idiotic actions, and due to that they had expanded their knowledge of combat and warfare to new levels. With that, they were able to create new techniques and improve weaker ones the shinobi of the human world created. The ways of warfare flourished alongside the humans as they utilized the gift of peace and turned it a weapon for warfare. Ironic, her son was truly foolish to believe they were able to be contained by simply beliefs. Kaguya knew her son was too trusting, and thus the humans took her son's good intentions and turned it around. The Otsutsuki clan now held power among the yokai. With the new source of power, their influence and position among the yokai skyrocketed and now were just about or were more influential than Yusaka herself. Kaguya held more power than the nine-tailed fox that she could easily destroy her with a single technique. The newly gained powers from the fruit had made Kaguya one of the strongest beings in existence, or maybe the strongest. Her powers could destroy worlds and recreate them just as fast, and along with creation and destruction, she could kill immortals, or claimed she could. The power of one of her most prized techniques, the truth-seeking balls, allowed her to destroy anything those spheres touched and turn it to ash. The new range of powers that she held now made her one of the most feared individuals in the entire world. The other factions took notice to the amount of power a single yokai clan now held and began planning to deal with them. But they questioned if they could. The power that woman displayed by simply transporting some of the braver members of the three factions into a completely different dimension and destroying it with her massive truth-seeking balls. The sheer power she displayed struck fear into every faction, and thus they did what anything would do. The factions all did what anyone would. They tried to befriend the goddess. Not that it worked, but her son was another problem, the best way to befriend the powerful clan. Naruto Otsutsuki, heir to the Otsutsuki clan and son of Kaguya Otsutsuki, the rabbit goddess, now turned the age of 17. The clan heir had sun-kissed spiky blonde hair and two side bangs that framed his face. His hair matched his ocean blue eyes well, but the most prominent feature was the boy's whisker marks on his face. The blonde was tall for his age, and he was dressed in a simple high-collared kimono with the Otsutsuki clan symbol on the back and a pair of loose black pants, and to complete the outfit was a pair of boots. Naruto continued to wait for his mother to arrive as he looked around the room for anything to kill the time with, but before he could even think of something, the sliding doors opened and a beautiful woman walked into the room. The woman had pale skin and long white hair that reached down to her waist, with a pair of lavender eyes, and the most shocking feature she possessed was the pair of horns on top of her head. This was none other than Kaguya Otsutsuki, the matriarch of the clan and one of the most powerful beings in existence. And also his mother. Sitting down, the woman looked over at the blonde with a calculative gaze before she opened her mouth to speak. Naruto-kun, I believe it is time for you to make some contact with the other factions, Kaguya said as she continued to look at the blonde for a reaction. But why Ka-chan? Do I have to meet the other factions? Naruto questioned as he gave his mother a questioning look. I met the yokai faction, isn't that enough? No, the yokai are not considered a faction as there are only 3. Kaguya explained as she never removed her gaze from her youngest child. You will be attending a school that is being run by devils. Make contact with them and see how powerful this generation of devils are. Understood, Ka-chan. Naruto said in defeat as he began making his way out of the room before he stopped and turned to face his mother with a grin on his face. Ka-chan, if I'm going to school, then can I? No, you didn't even let me finish, Ka-chan. Your lunch will not be ramen. Naruto just grumbled as he made his way out of the room and walked towards his own room. He was going to change for the new school. Going in a kimono would just attract unwanted attention from the people there. Passing some other clan members, they bowed in respect as Naruto greeted them in kind, but he was still bummed out about attending school. Academics and him did not get along as he despised learning with a passion, as he hated sitting still and listen to a man lecture them about a subject. He refused to, but if he did, his mother would be unhappy. And if his mother was unhappy, his life would not be happy one. So he decided to endure it and go to school anyways. He could just study with shadow clones if he was stuck on something. That technique the shinobi from the other world created was amazing. It could do so much for him. The uniform for the school was acceptable, but no orange in any of it, so it was a complete downside. His outfit now consisted of a black blazer with white accents over a white, long-sleeved dress shirt with a ribbon on the collar, matching black pants and brown dress shoes. Grumbling the entire time, the blonde walked out of the clan compound with a servant following closely behind, holding his bag filled with the necessary books and other materials for school. Grabbing it from him as he got into the waiting car, The blonde motioned for the car to go and the driver did as instructed and began driving to the destination given to him. The car ride was short as it did not take over 10 minutes. As they were driving around the streets of Kuo City they had passed some students who were looking at the car curiously as it moved towards the direction of the school. Arriving at Kuo Academy, the car had already attracted some attention as the driver hurried out of the car and opened the door for the blonde passenger. Walking outside with his bag in hand, the blonde looked at the school that he would be attending. It wasn't a very impressive building as he had seen better, but it was a above-average school, that was all he would be saying about it. Making his way forward and ignoring the looks of curiosity from the other students, he walked past all of the students and headed towards the main building. Though he ignored the things that they spoke were easily picked up by him. Naruto kept moving and headed inside the office. His destination was his first class. Naruto knew that his actions reflected upon the clan itself. That was one of the reasons why he had to show the students and staff that he was among the higher class. After all, that was what his clan was classified as, one of the most powerful families in all of Japan, and having major influence in the other countries was some major power. He did not wish to make a fool of himself and have the clan be affected by that, nor did he wish for his mother to lose face. That would not end well for him. Knocking on the door, he opened it up and poked his head in. As the teacher caught sight of him, his eyes widened slightly, remembering something. The teacher pushed up his glasses and reached down to the paper on his desk as he read something off of it and beckoned him in. Walking in, Naruto stood facing the entire class with a slight smile on his face as all eyes were on him. "Class, please let me introduce you to our new student, Naruto Otsutsuki. Treat him well," the teacher announced as he beckoned for him to introduce himself. Naruto nodded at the gesture and turned his attention to the class once more. His slight smile turned into an actual one. "Hello. I am Naruto Otsutsuki. It is very nice to meet you all." Naruto began as he continued to smile and took a slight bow before speaking once more. "Please take care of me, everyone. He's so handsome. Those whisker marks are so cute. Damn, not another blonde bastard. Now how am I supposed to get a harem now? Pretty boys are popping up out of nowhere." Naruto continued to smile pleasantly as he heard the reactions from various students. It was really enjoyable to hear. He really needed to spend more time with mortals. They were really entertaining. That, or he needed to find another hobby instead of spending all of his time training. It was hard not to train though. He wanted to reach his mother's level. That would take a while. He knew his mother was the one who taught him the various techniques, and he did spend a good portion of his life in the other world. The elemental nations helped him improve and grow. His control and use of chakra reached a new level there. There he was able to tap in senjutsu, one of powerful forms of magic that Yukai could access. That was one of the abilities he had inherited from his mother. Not only that, but he was able to negate the effect of senjutsu's use, the possible loss of control. By becoming one with nature through a different means other than magic, he replaced it with chakra. It was amazing how powerful he became in the form. Though he was not able to stand up to his mother, he was still powerful enough to handle himself in the world of dragons. "Naruto-san, please take a seat by Issei-san," the teacher directed as he pointed to the boy sitting near the front by a few of his friends. The boy had short brown hair and light brown eyes, around average height for a 17-year-old. He wore the Kuo uniform, but he kept the dress shirt open and he wore a red t-shirt underneath, and instead of the brown dress shoes he replaced them with a pair of white and blue sneakers. Naruto complied as he made his way towards the boy and sat beside him. Noticing that he was being stared at by Issei and the other two that sat around the general area, he decided it would be best to introduce himself. "How do you do, Issei-san?" Naruto asked with a smile as he offered a hand to the brunette, who seemed to be conflicted but took the hand nonetheless. "It's so hard to hate him," Issei cried as he turned the other direction facing his two friends, and tears ran down his face. Seeing the blonde give another friendly smile, he cried harder. "He's just like Kiba," Issei thought. Rias Gremory, the daughter of Lord Gremory and Venelana Gremory, former Biel. Heiress to the Gremory clan and an high-class devil, she was part of one of the clans that treated her peerage members as family, though it was a frowned-upon way of thinking. They were renowned for it. Rias was a beautiful young woman with white skin, blue eyes and a buxom figure. Her most distinctive feature was her long, beautiful crimson hair that reached down to her thighs. A single strand stuck out from the top, and loose bangs covering her forehead and side bangs framing her face. She was sitting in the student council room playing a match of chess with her childhood friend, Sona Citri. Sona had the appearance of a young bespectacled woman in her late teens with a slim figure and her black hair styled in a bob cut. The two enjoyed competing against each other, so playing games was the best for now as they could hardly do any rating games. Rias moved her queen as she turned to look at her childhood friend. "Sona, what do you think about the new student?" Rias asked as she continued looking at her friend and waited for her to answer. Naruto Otsutsuki. Heir to the Otsutsuki clan, son of Kaguya Otsutsuki, one of the most powerful beings in existence. Feared among all three of the factions and is well known for his use of the special energy that the Otsutsuki clan possess, chakra. Sona replied as she moved one of her pieces and waited for her rival and friend to take her turn. During the entire she did not even look up from the chessboard. Have you sent the information of Naruto-san attending our school to Serafal-sama yet? Rias asked as she thought out her next move. Yes, I have sent a letter to Oni-sama. She was frantic when she heard the son of the rabbit goddess was attending Kuo. Sona said with her face blank. Oni-sama reacted the same way. He was about to send Grafia over to watch over me. Rias chuckled slightly. Rias, Naruto Otsutsuki is no joke. If he is anything like his mother, then he could easily destroy us with a snap of his fingers. Sona warned her rival as she took her eyes off of the board and looked over at the redhead. I know Sona, but I can't help but think that if I can somehow get him to either join my peerage or maybe help me in some way. Rias replied with a sigh as she leaned back and had a frown form on her delicate face. I do not wish to marry Riser and I will get out of the marriage. That is foolish, Rias. The Otsutsuki clan is one clan that we do not involve ourselves with unless we desire death. They have the power to destroy the devil faction, and even if we do not cause such a situation in which they desire to destroy the devil race, we will not be spared from the 72 pillars. Sona said with a grim look on her face. It was true. The Otsutsuki clan now held the most power as they were led by one of the most powerful if not the most powerful being in existence, and their clan all had the ability of using Yujutsu in a new form of energy they have not faced before, chakra. Do you think they could do it? Rias asked out of curiosity. Yes, from what Oni-sama said, they witnessed Kaguya Otsutsuki transport them into another world and destroy it with a sphere of darkness that turned everything to ash. Sona informed as she leaned back as well. They are a powerful clan, Rias. It is best we befriend them. If we do not, then if they turn on us we will face near extinction. Then I guess I'll have to train Issei-kun and the rest of my peerage for the upcoming raiding game then. Rias said in defeat, though she wanted Naruto Otsutsuki to be in her peerage. The power that Sona told her that he and his clan possessed left an unsettling feeling in her. That clan had enough power to wipe out an entire faction with ease, as seen from the demonstration of power from the current head of the clan. It was truly shocking that one single clan possessed so much power. The clouds were something Naruto enjoyed watching as it allowed him to think about issues in life he faced. Though it was boring at first when he had tried it with one of his friends in the elemental nations, he quickly realized why his friend did it. With that knowledge in mind, he too used it as a way to think, and to speak the truth, it worked. He was able to relax and think clearly, one of the things he could hardly do with others around or when he was doing any other activity. The current issue he was thinking of was about a promise he had made to his childhood friend. When he was younger, his mother had gotten him the best tutors that money could buy to help him in academics. While he worked in academics in the evening, he was taught by his mother herself in the ways that chakra could be used for. Learning ways to utilize the energy within his body. During this time they had a discovery that pleased Kaguya. Due to the intense training from his mother, he discovered his affinities, as they called it. Fire, water, wind, earth, lightning, yin, yang and yin-yang. With those affinities, he would be able to create life and destroy it in an instant, much like his mother. His childhood friend was someone he had met a while ago when his mother had decided to make some connections with some of the other gods and maybe some Buddhas. Her mother had decided to meet with the Norse gods, her meeting with Odin, the chief deity of the Norse gods. During that meeting, Naruto had escaped from the sight of his caretaker and explored around the realm of Asgard. There he had met a young girl around his age by the name of Rosweiss. The girl had hair that resembled his mother's very much. Though she had hair like his mother's, she was odd for a girl so young to be so serious. Their personalities clashed and it was not pretty, though in the end they had made up. Naruto still thought of her being too serious and the girl in return thought of him as too carefree and laid back. But they got past it and soon they hit it off as friends, with Naruto persuading her into doing some unfavorable actions such as doing pranks. Though she strongly disagreed with the blonde's actions, she could not help but enjoy herself during the time she spent doing pranks with the blonde Otsutsuki. But all good things came to an end, and on the final day they had spent most of the day with each other. In the end they had promised to see each other once again, though Naruto had little time to head to Asgard as he had no business with them. He could persuade his mother to meet with Odin once more, but due to the other god's rather perverted side, she avoided that of all places. When the meetings came to an end, Odin seemed to sport bruises and lumps all over his body from unknown sources, but Naruto had the feeling it was his mother's actions. Then again it was the perverted god's fault for ogling his mother. It ended pretty badly for him. Naruto sat on the Victorian-style couch as he looked at the people around him. He was in a wood-paneled room with Victorian-style furniture and a large bath in the side of the room, and the Gremory family symbol in the side of the room as well. He had arrived at the old building that the Occult Research Club used as a club room, and he was surprised that one of the smallest clubs could use the building further from the main school as a club room. The building was a 3-story tall building with the 3rd story serving as a clock tower. It was painted white with black tiles and vines creeping around the side. Around him were Rias Gremory's peerage members. He had gotten an invitation to meet with the club a little while back and decided why not. It was something that his mother desired him to do. The number of people surrounding him totaled in 6, with one of them being Rias herself. Akano Himehime, the queen of the peerage, had the appearance of a young woman with a buxom figure around the same age as Rias, with long straight black hair tied in a long ponytail and violet eyes. Her ponytail reached down to her legs with 2 strands sticking out from the top and sloping backwards, with an orange ribbon holding it in place. She wore the Kuo Academy girl's uniform, but she had knee-high socks with the uniform as well. She was one of the 2 great ladies of Kuo Academy, a title she shared with Rias. Kaneko Taju, one of Rias's rooks, was around the age of 15 with white hair and hazel eyes. The front of her hair has 2 long bangs going past her shoulders and several loose bangs hanging over her forehead, while the back of her head had a bob cut. And on her hair she wore 2 cat-shafted hair clips on both sides. Like the other girls, she wore the Kuo girl's uniform but without the cape. Though she didn't say it, he knew she was a Nekomata, one of the rarest species of yokai in the world, and that struck his curiosity on how a girl like Rias could have one in her peerage. And in the school she was known as the mascot, odd but it fit in his opinion. Asia Argento, one of Rias's bishop, around Issei's age, with blonde hair and green eyes. Her blonde hair flowed down to her back with split bangs over her forehead and a single strand sticking out from the top, sloping backwards. She, like Kaneko, wore the girl's uniform as well. Yuto Kiba, the knight of Rias Gremory. He was a handsome young man with short blonde hair, gray eyes and a mole under his left eye. Kiba wore the boy's uniform that Naruto was wearing. He had made no changes to the attire. He was titled as the Prince of Kuo, but with Naruto's arrival he was dubbed as one of the 2 princes now. It was odd how fast titles and such were spread around, in a school no less. Issei Hyodo, the only pawn of Rias Gremory and the current possessor of the boosted gear. Issei was around the age of 17 with short brown hair and light brown eyes and standing at average height. He wore the boy's uniform, though the dress shirt was unbuttoned and his red t-shirt could be seen. Though he was surprised slightly that Rias had the Red Dragon Emperor in her peerage, he did not spare him another glacé, as he was dubbed as the weakest one in history. "Welcome to the Occult Research Club, Naruto-san." Rias greeted as she gave the blonde a smile, in which he returned. "Sona would be here to greet you as well, but she had issues to attend to." "Oh, no worries. Now I must ask why I am here?" Naruto questioned as he took a sip of the tea that Akano had placed before him. He worried little of poison, as it had no effect on him due to his body's amazing healing abilities. "I am going to be blunt here, Naruto-san. But why are you here?" Rias questioned with a polite smile on her face, but Naruto could tell that the girl was nervous from the slight shift of movement when he had questioned her from before. She decided to elaborate, though she highly doubted that it was needed. "It is rather strange the heir to the most powerful clan is attending a school in my territory." "Ah, well, you see." Naruto began as he took another sip and a small smile formed on his face. "Ka-chan wanted me to have more experience with the 3 factions, so here I am, in a school run by devils. And also Ka-chan won't be able to stop me from eating ramen here." "I see." Rias muttered as her mind began forming some sort of way of asking the blonde before her for help in her predicament. Though she did wonder about the ramen part, she ignored it in favor of her previous thoughts. "Akano, what is Naruto-san doing here?" Issei asked as he leaned closer to the vice president of the club. He was trying to ask without alerting the blonde. "And how does he know we are devils?" "Issei-kun, Naruto-sama is part of a powerful clan." Akano began explaining as she whispered to the perverted teen. "His mother is also one of the most powerful beings in the world. Issei-kun, Naruto-sama has enough influence to kill us without any consequences, so please treat him with respect." The words shocked Issei to the core as he looked at the blonde who was sipping tea with wide eyes. The teen before him, who he thought as a pretty boy had that much power and influence that he could simply kill off someone such as Rias without consequences, was shocking to say the least. Though he had a perverted mind, he was no fool. The room suddenly light up with a light and a magic circle appeared, and soon in a flash of light a group of people appeared. The group was filled with all women except for the person in front, who was a handsome young man in his early 20s with short blonde hair and blue eyes. He wore an outfit consisting of a burgundy blazer with gold embroidery on the right with matching pants and black dress shoes.
Under the blazer was a white dress shirt not fully buttoned, giving view of his chest. The man was none other than Riser Phoenix himself, third son of Lord Phoenix and Rias Grimori's fiancé.
Not long after, another magic circle appeared, this time in red, and a single figure appeared. It was a beautiful woman appearing in her 20s with silver hair and matching eyes. Her hair, which flowed all the way down to her back, featured a long braid on both sides with small blue bows at the ends, while the rest is let down and ending in twin braids. She wore an outfit of a blue and white French-made outfit with long sleeves and a white-made headband over her head, with red lipstick on her lips. This was Graphia Lucifuge, the queen and wife of Sears Lucifer. "Rias, how good it is to see you again." Riser spoke in a loud and arrogant tone as he spread his arms wide open as he approached her. He noticed the blonde sitting in the opposite seat of his fiancé and looked at him with the same arrogant look that he wore around. "And who might you be?" Naruto did not answer right away as he drank a bit more of the tea and placed the cup down and gave a small sigh and turned to Akeno with a smile on his face. "Akeno-san. Thank you for the tea, it was a pleasant refreshment." Akeno took a small bow and spoke, "Thank you, Naruto-sama." "How dare you ignore me?" Riser screamed in utter rage at the seated blonde. What hurt his pride more was that the blonde before him had an above-average pool of magic in him, so it was most likely one of Rias's new peerage members, and yet he dared to insult him. "Do you know who I am, you reincarnated scum? I am Riser Phoenix, third son of Lord Phoenix. You should be honored that I even spoke to you."
"You do not interest me, please refrain from speaking to your betters in such a tone," Naruto said with an annoyed look on his face as he turned to face the other blonde in the room. One type of person he hated the most were arrogant people. It is better for dogs to know when to bark and when to keep their mouths shut. After all, dogs who follow the master's commands do live longer.
"Riser-sama, control yourself." Graphia intruded as she tried to calm down the Phoenix before he did something foolish. "Naruto-sama, in Sears-sama's honor, please do not provoke Riser-sama any longer." "Very well then," Naruto replied finally as his face now sported a pleasant smile on his face. Riser bit his tongue as he saw Graphia send a glare in his direction. Though he did not wish to take the insults silently, he did not want to anger the strongest queen either. Riser could not think correctly as his mind was filled with rage. Oh, did he wish to attack the blonde, but it would be disastrous if he did. Though he knew little of who the blonde was, he did not care. He was a member of the Phoenix family, one of the 72 pillars of the underworld, and he would have his revenge on the blonde. "Naruto-sama, I did not expect you to be here, but as of now it is a meeting between the Gremory and Phoenix families." Graphia spoke calmly. "The marriage between Rias-sama and Riser-sama must be set." "Ah, I see, I am unwanted here." Naruto responded as he sat up and made his way towards the doors leading to the halls of the building before he stopped and looked at Riser. "Dog, the next time we meet I expect you to learn who your betters are. It is only right that the weak shall bow before the strong, is it not?" "Are you calling me weak?" Riser hissed, his eyes narrowed and full of rage as his peerage gathered around him and readied their weapons and magic. "I am. Yes, I know of your family." Naruto replied dismissively without even batting an eyelash, "but I am surprised that weaklings such as yourself may spawn in such a clan." "You better watch yourself," Riser said as he sent a glare at the other blonde. "I don't care who you are, but no one insults Riser Phoenix and gets away with it. You devils throw around your name like it means something. How arrogant." Naruto chuckled as he turned to leave the room, but Riser simply lost himself to rage and sent a wave of fire towards the blonde. "Riser-sama, no." Graphia yelled in horror as she saw the fire consume the other blonde. She did not fear the fire would harm Naruto, she just feared the consequences of such action against the Otsutsuki heir, no less. The fire vanished from Naruto and he did not seem to be hurt in the slightest. The blonde did not even seem to be bothered from the attack. After all, it was his intention for Riser to lose himself and attack him. He saw a chance and took it for the betterment of the clan. By provoking the arrogant and egoistic Phoenix, he hoped to be attacked by Hai, and he did. Now with the political power he held against Riser for the attack, he now gained a resource for the clan. Naruto vanished in a flurry of sakura petals, leaving behind a group of shocked devils. Naruto sat with his mother at the clan compound. The two sat side by side with smiles on their faces. Kaguya was very proud. Her son had done what she desired. Her son truly made her proud, the fact that her son was able to get a leverage on the devil faction in one of the 72 pillars, no less. Now with the leverage they would be able to gain a bargaining chip for later when they would be in need of it. Teaching her son manipulation was a smart idea. The benefits would be great for the clan. Though the clan was powerful, they were low on numbers. But then again, they believed in quality over quantity. Kaguya drank from the cup of tea that the servants had prepared and she looked at the garden in the compound. Naruto himself drank from his own cup of tea and followed his mother's gaze and looked at the garden. It was a beautiful sight. It was a traditional Japanese rock garden. The large rocks were like miniature mountains and the other rock formations represented the dry landscape well. Naruto-kun, you have indeed put the lessons to good use, my son, Kaguya said with a pleased tone as she drank once more and flashed her son a slight smile. With this we can milk the devil faction of resources, and with this leverage the power we hold will be very useful. Thank you, Ka-chan. The Phoenix dog was foolish enough to allow his rage and ignorance cloud his judgment. Naruto replied with a chuckle as he took a sip once more and a smirk formed on his lips. Ka-chan, how much money do you think a phoenix is worth? I do not know. Kaguya responded with a smirk appearing on her beautiful face, but I do wonder how the Phoenix family will react when the Otsutsuki family declares war for the attack on my beloved son. If they do not pay compensation. That will be an enjoyable sight, Ka-chan. Naruto chuckled as he thought about the future meeting with the Devil faction and the Phoenix family. Naruto-kun, we will call for a meeting with the Devil faction soon enough. Kaguya began as her lavender eyes narrowed as she thought about the devils, and I wish for you to give them a show. It will be the perfect time to demonstrate the power we possess. Be prepared for a little show and tell my dear child. Now may I ask, how powerful is the next generation? Of course, Ka-chan. Naruto replied as he thought about the question. I would say they are weak. They do not spend time training other than trying to find more members of their peerage other than training themselves and what they have. Gremory is the best example of that as she focuses solely on finding help against Riser other than training her and her peerage. Citri has a more tactical way of thinking as she is sharper than Gremory, but she and her peerage do not hold power to support the tactical mind of hers. Devils, always trying to get what they desire through any means. Kaguya said in a neutral tone, truly a selfish race indeed. Ka-chan, about the leverage we hold. Naruto began as he waited for his mother's reaction. Seeing her give him a look and beckoning for him to go on, he spoke. I believe it would be best if we expanded our territory. How so, my son? As you know, the devils command Kuo town and the academy itself. They also share a good portion of Japan. I decided it would be best to take command the country itself for the Yukai. The devils have their own little world and the angels their city in the clouds. But we have nothing, so it would be best if we take control of the area. And more importantly, the Otsutsuki gains more land. Very well then, I shall allow you to take command of the reign in these negotiations with the devils. Thank you, Ka-chan, I will make you proud, you already have. What have you done? The voice belonging to none other than Lord Phoenix boomed across the empty room as he shouted in utter rage at his son. Do you know what you have done? You attacked an Otsutsuki. The heir no less. Do you know what could happen to us? Even if the Otsutsuki clan do not take action, the 72 pillars will. Father, Riser began trying to desperately come up with a plausible excuse for his actions, but he found only one, though Lord Phoenix would not even allow him to speak. Quiet. Lord Phoenix demanded, his voice getting louder and louder as the seconds dragged on. You will go before the Otsutsuki clan and apologize for your foolish actions. Beg for forgiveness and offer anything. I understand, father. Riser replied, his tone filled with a mixture of fear and hatred. How could he not? The blonde bastard had provoked him into attacking him, and now because of him his family was going to suffer for it. Now he had to go before the Otsutsuki clan and beg for forgiveness. The rage in him burned brighter as he stormed out of the room. You will pay for this, Naruto Otsutsuki. Riser thought in rage as he swore to himself he would make the trash pay for what he had done. Naruto was taking a walk in Kyoto, the area where his home, the Otsutsuki clan compound, was situated. Kyoto served as the main base of all the Yukai in Japan, though there was one leader of the entire group, his clan, and their opinion was highly influential. Not only did they hold power over the entire group but also a majority of the supernatural groups as well. The power to kill immortality was something everyone feared, and the only clan that seemed to possess such power was the Otsutsuki clan, not to mention their amazing abilities with seals. If killing did not work, they always could resort to sealing. Yasaka, the acting leader of the Yukai group, was situated in Kyoto with her daughter Kuno, who like herself was a nine-tailed fox as well. Though they were powerful, they did not hold a candle against either Kaguya or a good portion of the elders in the clan. Naruto himself was above her reach as he was personally taught by the Rabbit Goddess herself, and with help from her and teachings from the other world Yasaka's power was dwarfed by Naruto's easily. Naruto-sama. One of the passing Yukai greeted as he bowed in respect. The monkey Yukai was human-like monkey with fur and that led down to his palms, and in other various areas. He was like any other monkey Yukai in appearance, dressed in traditional white Chinese robes, and his hair was tied up and held up high with a head accessory and held up by a needle. The outfit complete by black boots. Good to see you, Wu. Naruto responded with a wave as he gave the monkey Yukai a smile and wave. Woo, is Who around? Of course Naruto-sama. Who-sama is waiting for you. Wu replied as he pointed in the direction of the tea house. Thank you Wu. Naruto replied simply. Of course Naruto-sama. Wu bowed once more. Naruto walked towards the tea house and entered the building quickly. He was greeted along the way, but Naruto immediately looked for Wu. Spotting the monkey Yukai dressed in traditional royal purple Chinese robes with a more elaborate Chinese head ornament keeping his hair up. Like Wu, he had various hair all over his body and a toothy grin on his face as he saw the blonde approaching. Getting up, he went to greet Naruto with arms open and the grin still on his face. Naruto. It's great to see you, Wu greeted as he hugged the young Otsutsuki before him. It has been too long old friend. It is great to see you as well, Wu. Naruto responded in kind with a smile on his face as well as he returned the hug with the monkey Yukai. Yes it has. How have you been? Great, ha ha ha, come my friend. Wu said happily as he offered a seat to the blonde. You have to tell me, how was Kyoto when I left? It was amazing. Without you I would have to say it was the best time ever. Naruto joked with a smile on his face. Seeing Wu roll his eyes with a pleasant smile on his face, all jokes aside, it was no fun without you around. By the way, why a tea house in the first place? I was thirsty. Arriving at the temple which served as the headquarters of the Yukai group in Japan, Naruto entered with Wu by his side. The guards bowed in respect and allowed them in. Naruto headed in the direction of Yusaka's office. He was going to speak to her about the meeting with the devil faction. Though he was not required to speak to her about anything about the meeting, speaking to her about it would be better for them as she could add more to the intimidating effect and provide extra influence. The more power they had behind them, the more outrageous claims they could make and force the devil faction to do just as outrageous things. It would be more beneficial to both of them if they worked together in this situation. By no means were they enemies, but Naruto and the rest of the clan Kaguya included did not accept her ruling due to their pride. They would not accept anyone weaker than them to rule over them. It was foolish and unacceptable in the entire clan's eyes. Knocking on the door, Naruto waited for Yusaka to answer. Hearing a, "Come in," from the other side, Naruto opened the door and walked in. Wu followed closely as he and the blonde into the room. As the two entered, Yusaka looked up at them with a friendly smile and gestured to the seats before her desk. The two both sat down and got a bit comfortable in the seats. Yusaka had two forms. Currently she was in her human form. She was a young woman with a voluptuous figure and golden blonde hair with matching eyes. Her outfit was a shrine maiden's attire. So Naruto-kun, Wu-kun, what can I do for you? Yusaka asked with the smile still on her face. Of course Yusaka-chan. I am here to inform you about the meeting with the devil faction. Naruto answered with a smile on his face as well, and because of that I am asking you to attend. Oh why Naruto-kun? Yusaka asked with her eyebrows raised and curiosity laced in her voice. As you know Yusaka-chan, the Otsutsuki family is a part of the Yukai branch in Kyoto. Naruto began as the smile on his face turned into a smirk, though we do not agree with you being the leader of the branch. We still wish for the best for the Yukai in the area, and we can gain more from the devil faction if you come along. Yusaka pondered on the offer for a little longer before a smile once more formed in her beautiful face. Naruto-kun, of course I will accompany you to the meeting. Once information was exchanged, Naruto and Wu left right after leaving Yusaka to her work. As they were walking out of the room and heading towards the district ran by the Yukai once more, Wu stopped suddenly prompting Naruto to stop as well and looked at his friend with a confused look. Naruto followed Wu's gaze and saw that he was looking at the hot springs. Two rather attractive young women with large assets walked into the springs while giggling about something. The confused expression Naruto wore shifted to a dull one as he continued to look at the hot spring. Nay Naruto, who do you think is in the hot springs right now? Wu asked with a perverted grin on his face as he began walking towards it at a moderately slow pace. That perverted habit of yours is still there I see. Naruto commented dryly as he watched his best friend walk towards the hot springs with the perverted grin still on his face and his intentions quite obvious. You know they added more security on the woman's side, right? Do not worry my friend, nothing shall get in my way. I shall surpass all that gets between me and the heavenly view on the other side. Wu announced with his eyes burning with passion and his face adopting a determined expression. I wish you were that passionate about something else other than peeking on women. Naruto sighed as he watched his friend continue further into the hot springs and sneaking into the building. Looking around the area where he stood, he spotted a shop that sold dango and decided to get some. Though Kyoto lacked good ramen shops, they did have amazing dango. Purchasing a few sticks from the owner, Naruto walked back to the front of the hot springs and waited. Soon enough, a figure was thrown out of the building and landed a few feet away from him. The figure who was thrown out was none other than Hu. He now sported multiple bumps on his head and his body was bruised in multiple areas and a trail of blood leaked from his nose. Bruises decorated his face as well. "Serves you right, perverted monkey," Naruto said with a blank look on his face as he began walking away from his damaged friend. But the sight was heavenly. Hu exclaimed as he jumped up from the ground. All the damage he had received from the earlier incident vanished as he wrapped an arm around the blonde and stole the dango stick he held. "You would know if you peeked with me. Sometimes I wonder if you have a healing factor," Naruto commented as his face adopted an annoyed look as Hu ate the stolen dango stick. Grabbing another one out, he took a bite and looked over at his best friend. "And no, I will never peek as I am not a pervert." "Of course. The sight of any woman undressed will heal any injured pervert," Hu announced as he pointed the dango stick in front of him and struck a pose. "Right," Naruto said as he walked past Hu and continued forward. Fear. It was amazing what a single emotion could do to the best of people. Once fear was present, the true nature of a person would be shown. It was the driving force of the Otsutsuki clan's power, the fear they seemed to strike into the hearts of their enemies and allies alike. The simple fear of them was what they needed to maintain power and control over the ones below them. It was something that Kaguya had taught her son well. And much to the goddess's joy, Naruto utilized the fear of the clan and manipulated it to a degree in which they could solely benefit from it. All emotions were a great tool to use to gain something of desire, and it was one of the first things he was taught. Kaguya taught her son to maintain dominance against the other factions. One would need to be feared. Naruto stood with Yasaka beside him as they were sitting in the Otsutsuki clan compound waiting for their guests. Kaguya was nowhere in sight as she did not like Yasaka very much and promised to allow Naruto control over the meeting between them and the devil faction. Soon two magical circles appeared in the room and in a flash of light, a group now appeared in the room. The group of devils that arrived consisted of 4 members. Riser was among the group. Standing beside him was a beautiful girl with long, black hair tied into twin tails and blue eyes. She had a childlike body with breasts large for her figure. She was dressed in a magic girl costume. Standing beside her was a handsome young man looking at his young 20s with shoulder-length crimson hair and green eyes. He wore a black suit and green tie. Standing behind the man was Graphia Lucifuge, still looking the same in her maid outfit. Naruto had already knew who they were. The ones in the room now were Riser Phoenix, Seraphol Leviathan, Searsex Lucifer, and Graphia Lucifuge. It was hard not to know who they were as they fit the descriptions that his mother had gave him very well. "Ah, you have finally arrived. I hope it is no issue of me being in place of my mother?" Naruto said with a smile on his face. The devils shook their heads. Pleased with the answer, he offered them seats in the traditional Japanese room. They all sat down on the cushions prepared for them with smiles on their faces as Naruto kept the fake smile on. "Now I guess we should start with introductions. I am Naruto Otsutsuki, heir to the Otsutsuki clan. I am Yasaka, leader of the Yukai in Kyoto. It is nice to make your acquaintance." Yasaka greeted with a smile of her own as she gave a short bow to the guests. "I am Seraphol Leviathan, but you can call me Leviathan." Seraphol introduced herself cheerfully as she winked and held up a peace sign across one eye. "I am Searsex Lucifer. It is nice to meet you, Naruto-san, Yasaka-san." Searsex greeted with a smile of his own. "I am Riser Phoenix. It is an honor to see you again, Naruto-sama. And it is an honor to meet you, Yasaka-sama." Riser greeted with a forced smile as he bowed his head. "Now that is more like it," Naruto said with a smile on his face as Riser got up from the bow and his eyes shone with hatred as he stared at the blonde. "Ah yes, now let me cut to the chase here. Riser here attacked me. With that, the Otsutsuki clan now has an plausible excuse to declare war against the devil faction and wipe your entire race out." The words changed the mood to an unpleasant one quickly as the 4 devils tensed quickly and Naruto caught them twitching slightly. Searsex still had the friendly smile on his face, but Naruto could tell he was nervous as the others were as well. Yasaka did not seem fazed by the words as she knew the blonde would play with the devil's fear of extinction first before stating his offer. It was an amazing technique to use, implant fear into their hearts before and they would accept any offer to ensure their survival. The strategy worked best when both sides knew the claim was possible as it crushed all uncertainty and boosting the fear in their hearts. That was how Naruto had planned it and she would not interfere yet, it was just simply going as planned. Yasaka continued to stare with the smile still present on her face. Looks like Naruto-kun was right, they're too scared to try anything, Yasaka thought happily. "Naruto-kun, please, there is no need for war." Sirzex responded with his hands up, trying to get the blonde away from declaring war against the devil faction. If there is anything that we can do to prevent war, we will. Please, Naruto-kun, you must understand Riser-kun was hot-headed and he will be punished for it. Yes, Naruto-sama. I am truly sorry for the attack. I was foolish for attacking you. Please accept my apology and this gift from the Phoenix family. Riser apologized as he held up a box towards the blonde. He was containing his rage, but it was hard with the blonde giving him the smug look once in a while. Naruto accepted the box and gave it to a servant who took it away as soon as the box was in his hands. Ah yes. Thank you for the gift. But I cannot allow you to go without a compensation or a declaration of war. Naruto responded with a serious look on his face. Riser attacked me, and if the Otsutsuki clan does not retaliate, it would make us look weak. And we do not like being seen as weak. Naruto-kun is correct. Yasaka agreed as she got everyone's attention on her. Not only will the Otsutsuki clan be seen as weak, but the Ukai as well. The Otsutsuki clan are a part of the Kyoto branch, and if they do not get anything out of this, then it will not look well for us. Of course, we will pay anything if it means stopping a war between the Ukai and Devil faction. Serafal spoke up as she drew the attention from Yasaka to her. Name the price, Naruto-kun, and we shall see what we can do. Very well then. Then I shall ask for the control of Kuo town and the surrounding areas for compensation. Naruto responded after a few minutes. Done. Sirzex quickly replied as he heard the idea, not bothering to consult with Serafal about it. His family owned Kuo town and the surrounding area, and if they gave it to the family who were angered by Riser, then he could possibly get Rias out of the engagement. That or it would strengthen the ties between the Gremory and Phoenix. It did not matter as both seemed better than war. Naruto-kun, we shall deliver the papers at once. But now that we finally get to meet the Otsutsuki clan, may I formally invite you to witness the rating game between my sister and Riser. The invitation is open to you as well, Yasaka-san. The game will give us an excuse to amend things between the Devil faction and the Ukai, no? A rating game, huh? Naruto mused to himself as he turned to look at Yasaka. It would be interesting to see one, and yes. Ka-chan will be there as well, so an official meeting between the two shall take place, Sirzex-san. I shall attend as well, Yasaka said, giving her answer to the invitation, though she knew the devils were focusing on the Otsutsuki family more due to their power. She was used to it. Naruto beckoned for one of the servants to bring the case she was holding. Grabbing it from her and placed it on the table before him and opening it. Turning the case around and allowing the devils the view of the item inside, he spoke, as a gesture of goodwill, accept this gift on the behalf of the Otsutsuki clan and the Ukai branch in Kyoto. Thank you very much, Naruto-kun, Yasaka-san. We will accept this on behalf of the devil faction. Serafal said as she closed the case, holding the gift inside, and smiled at him. Grafia took the case and held it for the group as she resumed her position behind the two Satans. The gift was quite shocking. It was a statue of a man she did not know who, but it did not matter. Naruto-kun, come closer, I have a gift for you as well. Come closer, please. Naruto did as instructed and leaned forward a bit, and Serafal did as well. Before anything else can happen, Grafia yanked Serafal back and kept her from doing anything else. Serafal tried to get loose from the grip the maid had on her. Naruto simply blinked at that in surprise as he looked at them oddly. It was odd to see such powerful people act so oddly, but he shrugged it off since he and Hu acted like idiots when they were together. It was understandable. It was like the universal law that people of power all had odd quirks and habits. Why did you do that, Grafia? I wanted to give Naruto-kun a thank you kiss. Serafal whined childishly as he pouted like a child. Naruto-sama, I have an request. Riser suddenly spoke, stopping everyone's movements and got their attention as well. Depends on what it is. Naruto responded simply. I wish to have a spar with you, Naruto-sama. Riser announced. Everyone's eyes widened in shock. Before any of the other devils could stop him from going further or even speak, Riser spoke once more. As you know, I am going to face off against Rias in a rating game soon, and I wish to see how I do against someone of your caliber. Naruto-kun, Sirzex began, but he was interrupted. No, I believe it is a great idea, Riser. Let us put everything behind us in a friendly spar. Naruto responded happily. He was very pleased with the request. Very well then. Sirzex said in defeat. It was a foolish idea, but he was no longer in control of the situation. He just hoped the power of a phoenix could stand up to a son of a god. Naruto and Riser both stood facing each other in the training grounds in the Otsutsuki clan compound. Sirzex, Grafia, Serafal, and Yasaka all stood in the sidelines as they watched the two face each other, waiting for the fight to begin. Naruto was very pleased today. The fact that he received territory for the clan, and now he got to show an arrogant fool that he was nothing but a bug for someone to step on. Truly he hated arrogant people. They believed they were untouchable and no one could stand up to them. It was infuriating how high and mighty they believed they were, and to simply put one in place was something that he would gladly do. The look they got when they were beaten to the ground was the best. The utter disbelief was quite amusing. Hu enjoyed doing it as well as it was very hilarious indeed. He and Hu really did have strange ways to entertain themselves. Very well then, shall we begin? Naruto asked. I'll start, you bastard, Riser shouted as he brought his hand forward and blasted a wave of fire towards the blonde. Naruto was already writing kanji in the air with light blue magic as he waited for the fire to come. Once it was a few feet away from him, Naruto merely formed the ram hand sign. The fire did not get any further as it was stopped by an invisible barrier keeping it in place and away from the blonde on the other side. The fire died down after a minute of unsuccessfully trying to bypass the barrier. Naruto rushed forward and sent a punch towards Riser. The devil leaned back to avoid the blow, but Naruto sent another punch at his stomach with his free hand. The punch landed and the force sent Riser back a few meters and he clutched his stomach in mild pain before it was gone due to his amazing healing factor. Seeing as Riser recovered from the blow, Naruto rushed forward and went for another punch. Riser sent a large fireball towards the blonde in retaliation. Seeing the fireball, Naruto opened his fist and channeled chakra into his palm. Water release. Azure Dragon Palm was the name of the technique he was using. A spiraling torrent of water shot out from his hand and met the fireball and a layer of smoke filled the area. Once the smoke vanished, Naruto was nowhere in sight. Riser looked around frantically as he looked for his opponent. His search ended shortly as Naruto appeared behind him and placed him in a hold as he lifted one arm into the air and a bolt of lightning shot down from the sky. Lightning release. Lightning rod. Naruto allowed the lightning to travel around his body and into Riser's screamed out in pain was lightning coursed through his body. Riser coated himself in a layer of fire to retaliate. Naruto released Riser and jumped back. Naruto's hands formed into the snake hand sign and he spewed out a massive volume of water from his mouth and the water washed over the entire field, swallowing up Riser in the process. The water did not escape the training grounds as the seals flared up and a barrier formed around the training grounds and stopped the water from escaping. Tiger snake, tiger bird, tiger ram, tiger. Lightning release. Thunderbolt. Naruto's two hands released a discharge of lightning as he brought them together and aimed it for the water below him. The lightning danced across the surface of the water and electrocuted Riser, who was still in the water. Naruto stood on top of the water as he watched the lightning and water do their work until the water escaped from the barrier. Riser was left on the ground. His body was smoking as his healing factor was doing its magic and his wounds were healing quickly. Riser began standing up slowly as his body was smoking from the lightning attacks. He stood unsteadily on his feet. Riser was panting heavily as rage began building in his body. Glaring at the blonde with hate-filled eyes, he sent a wave of fire at the blonde. Tiger hair boar dog. Earth style. Earth style wall. Naruto slammed his palm on the ground below and a solid earth wall rose from the earth below and stopped the fire from damaging Naruto. Earth release. Hiding like a mole technique. Naruto dug into the earth and vanished as a clone replaced him behind the wall. Riser stopped his attack when he thought it was enough. Once the vision of the field ahead was visible once more to Riser, he saw a damaged earth wall before him. Rushing forward, he pushed past the wall and saw Naruto behind it as he brought a large fireball down towards the blonde. The fireball made contact with the blonde and Naruto was caught in the fire once the fireball exploded. Riser had his flaming wings out as a cruel smirk formed on his face, but before he could even bathe in the joy of victory, multiple figures shot out from the ground and surrounded Riser. Riser's eyes widened in shock as he realized the figures were all Naruto. Two clones grabbed hold of Riser and held him in place as another one kicked him backwards. The remaining one kicked him into the air where the real Naruto was waiting. Naruto's hand was cloaked in wind as he brought it down towards Riser, who was approaching fast. The blow from Naruto sent him back towards the ground. Sealing tags were sent his way as they attached themselves onto his body and immobilized the phoenix. The added force from the blow combined with gravity made the impact with the ground greater and a cloud of dust kicked up and covered Riser's fallen body. Once the dust cleared, Riser was struggling to move as the seals glowed, keeping him down on the ground. "My win, Riser," Naruto said with a smirk on his face as Sirzex and the others approached. Grafia went to check on the condition of Riser. Seeing he was healing, she removed the tags from his body, allowing him movement once more. Riser sent a glare at Naruto but didn't respond as he sent a quick bow and stormed away before vanishing in a flash. Sirzex and Serafal frowned slightly. Grafia's emotionless expression still held. "Naruto-kun, you must excuse Riser-kun. He is like..." Searsex said as he gave the blonde a smile once more. It was a great spar. Of course, thank you. No matter, I did not even get to have fun yet. Naruto replied with a slightly disappointed tone. I believe it is time for us to leave. I wish to see you and your mother during the raiding game, Naruto-kun. Searsex bid his farewell as he and Graphia took a few paces back. Naruto-kun, when you come to the underworld, Leviathan will take care of you. Seraphal chirped happily as she gave the blonde a smile and walked towards her two companions, and they vanished in a flash of light. Kaguya was situated in her favorite spot, the room overlooking the garden in the compound. Her son was seated beside her as he too was looking at the garden. They were enjoying the view of the garden and sipping tea along with it. It was one of their favorite activities to do together as mother and son, that and fighting as a tag team. Naruto-kun, now that we have gained the Kuo territory, you shall take command of it. Yusaka has already agreed to it. Kaguya announced, not even sparing her son a glance. I understand, Ka-chan. Naruto answered, not looking away from the scenery either. The raiding game that the devils invited us to attend, use it as an opportunity to gather information about the underworld. Kaguya instructed as she gave her son a commanding look. Understood, Ka-chan. I will have a clone infiltrate and search for information. Make sure you do, we need to know if they are a threat or not. Rias Gremory, in all of her life she had been spoiled. How could she not? She was the daughter of Lord Gremory and Venelana Bael, and not only that but she was the sister of Searsex Lucifer and the heiress of the Gremory clan. She was practically a princess, she could do what she wanted and get what she wanted without any consequences. Her privileged childhood was filled with everything a girl could want, from horses to pretty dresses and even castles. Though she found her love for Japanese anime and manga when on a trip to Japan one summer with her brother, and it was safe to say she was fascinated by the wonders of animation. That was when she became a full-blown otaku, and that was the reason her dream to attend a school in Japan with her peerage. Her family owned territory in Japan, and much to her joy a school as well. Persuading her parents and brother to allow her to attend the school, they relented after hours of begging and pouting. It was amazing how easy it was to get something she wanted from her sis-con of a brother, just one pout and an acute face he cracked. Rias had came to love the Kuo town and Kuo Academy as she ruled over it with permission from her brother and her parents as well. It was her territory and a second home for her and her cute servants. Now it was all taken from her. Her brother had contacted her that Kuo town and the academy were given away to the Otsutsuki clan as compensation for her idiotic fiancé's actions towards Naruto. Not only that, but her control of the school and power over it shifted to Naruto. Not that she had nothing against him, but she was a devil. Devils were true to their nature, they were selfish, and Rias was no exception. With the land taken away from her, she was now furious about it. Now she demanded a meeting with the blonde. She did not use those exact words, but she got the meeting anyways. There was another reason for the meeting as well. Though she was going to approach the blonde with her usual way, she was no fool. If she did something he did not like, he had the power to retaliate. The raiding game against Riser had been delayed and the time to prepare for the battle had been increased, but she delayed the training trip as well. Rias was seated in the occult research club behind her desk with the rest of her peerage nearby. She did not tell them about the situation, but Akano, her queen, always had a way of finding out. They had been waiting for a little while and it didn't take a genius to figure out that Rias was not in a good mood. Issei was shifting around uncomfortably on the couch where he was seated. The double doors were swung open as two people entered the room. One of them was Naruto himself, dressed in his Kuo uniform, and standing beside him was a relatively handsome young man around the age of 18 with black hair and brown eyes. He was dressed in his usual traditional Chinese robes, but this time his hair was held up with a different ornament with a hand fan completing his outfit. Welcome, Naruto-kun. It is great to see you again. Rias greeted with a slight smile before her gaze fell on the other person that walked in with Naruto. And I believe we have not met. I am Hu, Naruto's partner. Hu greeted as he flashed her and the other members of the peerage a fake smile. Rias decided that Hu received enough attention and went to tackle the reason why she invited Naruto to the meeting. Naruto and Hu took a seat on the remaining couch and stared at Rias with a neutral look on both of their faces. Rias, what is the issue for this meeting? Hu and I were planning on going fishing. Naruto-kun, Oni-sama told me the Yukai branch took control of Kuo. Rias stated as she ignored shocked looks on her peerage members minus Akano. Naruto merely nodded, confirming the claim as he waited for the devil to speak once more. What are you planning to do with Kuo, Naruto-kun? Naruto was quiet for a little bit until his friendly demeanor vanished and was by a calculative one. Rias, my plans involving Kuo and the surrounding lands so not concern you. Naruto-kun, I understand that you control the territory and that you must be careful, but I am your friend Naruto-kun, you can trust me. Rias said as she crossed her arms and showed off her large assets to the blonde who did not even break eye contact for a second. Issei and Hu weren't as polite as the two were enjoying a great view from their positions on the couch. Seduction will not work, Rias. Naruto replied with a slightly bored tone as he smacked Hu on the back of his head, stopping the pervert from looking at the devil's bust for any longer. Ignoring the annoyed look he received from his friend, he simply refocused on Rias. The future plans for Kuo and Kuo Academy shall be only known to the ones I trust. Are you saying you do not trust me? Rias asked, slightly hurt by the newly revealed information. Her face was turned into a frown as she waited for an answer from the blonde. Though she hardly knew him, she could not help but feel a bit hurt. Yes. Naruto replied simply, not bothering to even think of another way to phrase it. The girl's feelings were no concern of his, and if he hurt them he would not care. Though Rias was friendly, she was not someone he wished to associate with. She was manipulative and on top of that heartless in a sense. Though Naruto was like that at times, he had a reason for his actions and behavior. Rias did not. She allowed Issei to die though she had the chance to save him. Like that she gained a loyal pawn. The entire situation made her look as if she was some demonic angel. That sickened him, the fact that someone so selfish could simply play off something like that as if she was doing the right thing. This was the reason he hated devils. They were selfish and only cared for themselves. Naruto-kun. Rias was cut off by Naruto as he raised his hand to stop her from speaking again. The action drew attention from everyone in the room as attention returned to the blonde once more. Rias, I must cut this conversation short. Naruto began as he gave a quick nod to Hu, who was already ready to go. We have an issue to attend to. Please finish this up quickly so we can leave. Rias was not happy about how he had interrupted her, but nevertheless she decided to be blunt with her request as the blonde was this entire time they spoke. I want to ask if you could please train my peerage for the upcoming rating game. I know you defeated Riser in battle, and if you help train me and my peerage then we have a greater chance of winning. No, Naruto replied without a second of thinking about the question as he and Hu got up from the couch and began walking towards the door. Rias was expecting him to think about it for at least a second and not give her an answer right off the bat like that. What do you mean no? Rias questioned as she looked at the duo with a face full of disbelief. Before she composed herself and proposed an offer, how about I pay for your services? Allow me. Hu placed a hand over Naruto's shoulder, stopping him from speaking, and turned to Rias with a smile on his face. Rias-san, Naruto and I have more important issues to attend to other than training you and your peerage. Please, I am begging you here. I do not want to marry Riser and I can only get out of the marriage if we win the upcoming rating game. Rias nearly shouted in a pleading tone. The two were not swayed by her whatsoever. Before any of the two could answer, someone else did. Issei pleaded, Naruto-san, Hu-san. Please train us, I don't want to see Bucko marry that guy. As I said, the final answer is no, Naruto responded firmly as he moved towards the doors once more with Hu following closely behind. It annoyed Naruto that the blind loyalty that Issei shown to Rias even though she had been a factor in his death. After the door closed, Hu's friendly exterior shifted to one of hate as he continued to follow Naruto out of the building. Japan was an island country that had a wide variety of food. But one of the main sources was none other than fish. Fish was in a good portion of dishes and snacks as they had a large portions of it. While many enjoyed fish, there was something that attracted the three males now sitting on the docks waiting patiently for a fish to bite. The sport of fishing itself was fun, it tested many things and patience was one of them. Not only that, it was peaceful. Fishing was something Naruto himself could do and enjoy due to its lack of people in the area. True, the mortals were very entertaining, they were still monsters in their own right. Much of them destroyed the beauty of the world and replaced it with their own creations. The natural energy was not as strong here as it was in the other world. It was a relief that the humans had not gotten to the sacred spots as of yet, and he would make sure they were guarded and safe from human reach. Currently Naruto was sitting beside Hu. The third companion was a tall man around his late 20s with an average build, black hair, golden bangs and a goatee. The man was none other than Azazel, the Governor-General of Grigori. For some strange reason, the man enjoyed fishing for similar reasons. The three were currently waiting for fish to bite as they spoke to one and another about random topics. Naruto knew that the man sitting beside him and Hu was powerful, but the two of them could easily handle him together. Facing off against him as one would take a bit longer, but overall he was confident in both of their abilities to handle him with ease. Though he at the moment was in his sealed state, he could handle himself in combat. Releasing the seal would drastically power him up and surpass Azazel and place himself in a new league entirely consisting of gods and some of the most powerful Buddhas. So, Naruto, this is a new fishing spot you took us to, how do you find it? Azazel asked as he drank some sake that he had brought with him as he turned to the blonde in question. I didn't find it, you did. Naruto replied as he made brief eye contact with Azazel before turning back to the body of water situated before him. They were fishing at a beautiful area surrounded by a forest. Animals could be heard from the spot where the three sat. The sun was shining brightly as the rays reflected off of the lake, giving it a beautiful shade of blue. I still find it fascinating how you have a Feng Wang as unfamiliar. Azazel said as he too looked at the lake. Azazel was a genius. He was able to create artificial sacred gears, which was an amazing feat to accomplish, but he was still puzzled by the creature itself. Feng Wangs were mythological creatures from Chinese mythology that only appeared in areas blessed with utmost prosperity and peace or happiness. Now he was wondering how someone like Naruto could gain the loyalty from such a creature was just mind-boggling. Yu was the name of his Feng Wang, though his was a male or was considered a Feng. The terms mixed together and soon the combination of both male and female names came together. Though the Feng Wang was not a familiar for combat, they were a symbol of virtue and high grace.
That was not all, as the legendary bird symbolized the union of yin and yang. The bird was connected to royalty, as the bird would later on be shown to represent the empress and the dragon representing the emperor. Not only that, the bird was known as the king of birds in Chinese supernatural group, and the last sighting of these birds was nearly centuries ago, so the first sighting of one was none other than Yu, Naruto's Feng Wang. I got a bite, Hu yelled out in excitement as he quickly reeled his catch in. Naruto and Azazel looked at the incoming float in anticipation.
As the Hu continued to reel it in, he gave a final yank as he pulled the fish out of the water. The fish soared through the air as the three to catch the flying fish, but in a swift motion the fish was swept away by a bird with multiple colored feathers. The bird was a composite of multiple birds. It had the head of a golden pheasant, the body of a mandarin duck, the tail of a peacock, the legs of a crane, the mouth of a parrot, and the wings of a swallow. Hu groaned as he watched his catch being carried off by the beautiful bird. Naruto, you owe me a fish. You weren't going to eat it anyways, why not let you eat it? Naruto questioned as he gave his best friend a questioning look before making his way towards the lake once more. Hu followed as he grumbled about the unfairness of the world. Naruto then stopped and turned to face Hu. Besides, it was luck anyways. Is that a challenge, you blonde idiot? Hu asked as his left eye twitched in annoyance. What do you think, you perverted monkey? Naruto replied as a smirk found its way on his face. Hu was a fun-loving yokai. That was something nobody in the entire Kyoto province could argue with. That times when his fun-loving demeanor broke was when people threatened the ones that were precious to him. Much like Naruto, he adopted the ideal of protecting the precious ones close to his heart. Not only was he willing to sacrifice his life for the ones he cared for, he would do it in a heartbeat if it was Naruto. Who from the start of his life was different. At a young age he developed a love for the female body, and it soon evolved from hidden admiration to shameless ogling. During that time in his childhood, he had a few close friends and 2 loving parents. That was all he could wish for, but it was all taken from him by a damned devil. He could remember what happened the day, he would never forget. That day everything was taken from him. Flashback: Amon Island, a minor island in Penang, Malaysia, and was also known as the Island of Peace. Home to a small village of monkey yokai, the village was an average one with multiple buildings surrounding a statue of a bird. The bird was none other than the legendary bird known as the Feng Wang. The legendary bird had followed an ancient cycle as it appeared on the island once every 100 years. Legend said that if one caught sight of the Feng Wang would bless the person with luck for eternity. That was not all that the legendary bird granted. A feather from the bird granted knowledge and prosperity. Though there had only been a few sightings of the legendary bird since ancient times, but only on the island itself. Knowledge of the sightings was never released to the public, as the monkey yokai would keep it a secret to guard the knowledge of the bird. Due to this action the yokai did, their crops grew to new heights annually, and the small village and all of its inhabitants prospered. For a good amount of time the relationship between the bird and the monkey yokai continued until the fateful day of August 9th. It was the day the Feng Wang would arrive, and the village was buzzing with activity as everyone made last-minute preparations. A boat carrying a devil by the name of Habjir Belphegor. Habjir was a member of the Belphegor clan, one of the extra devil clans. His clan, due to their status as an extra clan, they were one of the bottom clans, and that was the reason for this trip. He had heard from one of the foolish beasts about the arrival of the legendary bird known as the Feng Wang. Habjir was no genius, but he did read up on the legend of the King of Birds, which blessed the person who caught sight of it with luck. And now here he was making his way towards the village that he got the location from the captured yokai. Torturing it for information, he was now leading his entire peerage there to capture the bird when it arrived. A piece of information from the yokai pleased him to no end. The village's yokai were peaceful and had little to no combat experience as they only used Yujustu as illusions to keep the mortals away. So in conclusion, the heathens would be easy to dispose of before the bird arrived and he would get a new familiar. Hu was enjoying his day in the forest. Today was his first time participating in the festival of the Avian King. Hu, to say the least, nervous. The arrival of the legendary Feng Wang was the most celebrated day of the 100-year cycle. Offerings would be made and prayers recited as the bird arrived on the Island of Peace. He would play an active role in such a thing as Hu was chosen to be the first one to offer. As the son of the chief, it was his duty to lead the village, and he would by being the first to offer. His offer was a statue of the Feng Wang from wood he had been working on as the days counting down to this day when he would offer his creation to the bird. Making last-minute checks on his work, Hu never noticed the group of devils making their way towards the village. It took a little over an hour for Hu to fully perfect his carving. Heading towards the village, Hu ran as fast his legs could carry him. It was almost time for the festival to begin and he was not dressed in the ceremonial robes. Seeing smoke rise from the village, Hu ran faster as a thought ran through his mind. They started the festival already. The sight of the entire village laying on the ground dead and covered in their own blood was not something Hu expected, yet it was the sight he was granted once he arrived at the village. A man dressed in rather expensive clothing stood in the middle of the group, a cruel smile on his face. The man was not alone. A group mixed with both genders, physical appearances changing from one to the next, stood around the area with the slaughtered villagers, their hands coated in blood. Standing there looking at the corpses of his friends and family, Hu did not speak as his eyes stayed wide. The man noticed him as he turned towards Hu, and the cruel smile grew larger as he ordered one of the surrounding males to go after Hu. The carving of the King of Birds fell from his grasp as Hu was dragged towards the man. Upon arrival, Hu was shoved to the ground and forced into a bowing position as he lifted his head to face the man. The man studied him further as the cruel smile never left his face. "Tell me, heathen, where is the bird?" the man asked as he gave the young yokai bowing before him a hard look. "You primitive savage should be honored. A devil such as myself is speaking to you. Now tell me, heathen, where is the bird?" The other heathens did not speak, "But you will tell me." Hu was still in shock as he continued to stare at the man with a mixture of emotions. The man was not patient as he ordered them to beat the answer out of the young yokai. Fists connected with his stomach and mouth as tears formed in his eyes from the pain. Though he was a yokai, his body could endure more than a regular human's, but he was still not mature, so his body was only slightly stronger than a human's. He couldn't do anything but endure the beating. Soon his vision began to blur as the pain took over his body, but before he could fall into unconsciousness, the man holding him in place dropped him suddenly and the beating stopped. Looking up, Hu saw a young boy with spiky sun-kissed blonde hair with whisker marks on his face, dressed in a white and orange kimono, pelting the men and woman with pebbles. The men went to stop the boy. Seeing the approaching men, the blonde dashed away and began evading them. Two men followed the blonde into the forest, but before they could even enter, they were slammed into the ground by an invisible force. The ground beneath them were decorated by black kanji symbols. More and more of the group went to chase the blonde, leaving the man who had questioned him about the bird. Hu felt his body being lifted roughly as his blurred vision caught sight of the man's face. The man continued to shake his body and demanding the location of the bird, but it never came as the boy from before threw another rock which flew past his face and cut the man's cheek slightly. Turning to face the blonde, the man dropped Hu as he sent the blonde a glare that would make any normal man fear for his life. "How dare you? I am Habjir Belphegor, you savage, I will kill you." Before the newly named Habjir could even make a step, chains shot out from the ground and wrapped around his body and tightened around him. Forcing him to the ground, Habjir struggled to get out of the binds even with his magic. Looking around for the source of the chains, he spotted a man with white hair wearing a simply white kimono with a sash tied over it. The man had his hand on the ground as he slowly got up and lifted his hand as well, revealing the source of the chains. "You will not harm Naruto-sama," the man said as he gave the bound devil a glare before turning to the blonde. "Naruto-sama, are you alright? Please do not run off again." "I'm okay, Shinji," the newly named Naruto called out as he ran towards the beaten boy and helped him sit. Looking at him with concern, Naruto studied the boy and waited for his other guards to arrive. "Are you hurt?" Hu couldn't answer as he stared at the blonde as his vision began fading, and soon enough pain took over his body and he fell into unconsciousness. It was on that day that Hu found a friend. His hate for the devils grew time and time again as he witnessed the crimes committed by the cursed race, and they had the audacity of calling him and his people savages. On that day, Hu swore loyalty to Naruto and promised when he and Naruto grew up he would be by his side. Naruto was the one that saved him and gave him his new life, though Naruto only asked for his friendship, but Hu swore to himself that he would do whatever he could to help out his friend. Hu was currently looking at the statue that he had carved as a kid. It served as a reminder of that fateful day. Though it was not the only reminder he received, there was also the feather from the Fenghuang he had received from Naruto when he had awoken. The feather was red in color representing knowledge, though it was something he did not wish to have right after the death of his loved ones. He had taken it anyways. It was a token of friendship from the blonde. Knowing the power one feather possessed, he had chosen to give it to him instead of keeping it. Naruto was on his back laying in the middle of a large ceiling array with his shirt removed. Kaguya stood over him and looked at her son's stomach and placed her hand on the ceiling array. They appeared. Pushing her chakra into it, Kaguya used her free hand to unroll the scroll beside her and channeled chakra to the right seal on the scroll. Removing her hand from her son's stomach, Kaguya's other hand now had a sealing array on it as she slammed it onto the seal on Naruto's stomach. Naruto grunted in pain as he waited for the process to end. Soon enough the pain ended and Kaguya removed her hand from his stomach. Naruto felt power flood his entire system as white chakra cloaked around Naruto. Kaguya stood back watching the process. She was expecting something like this. With the newfound power of chakra, the offspring of any Otsutsuki needed a certain amount of their power sealed off. The reason for this was because of the two different sources of energies residing in their body. The body was born to only handle one source, not two, and the body of a newborn could not handle the strain of housing both energies like so. To fix the issue, the clan sealed off a portion of the newborn's power and allowed the body to adapt to the two sources of energy. It was an issue that came with the chakra, but it was easy to deal with since the magic and chakra pool of the newborn would act up, but nothing seals could not handle. Sealing a portion of the newborn's energy away, once the physical body matured, reaching the age of 16 or 17, then it would safe to unseal the energy. Once the power subsided, Kaguya looked at new son once more. His physical features changed due to the unsealed power. Naruto's hair no longer was blonde as it turned as white as snow, matching Kaguya's. Now on his forehead was horn-like protrusions extending from both sides. His whisker marks that were once present on his cheeks vanished. Opening his eyes, Naruto blinked a few times, adjusting to his surroundings and the sharper vision he now possessed. Looking at his body, Naruto examined it, but stopped when he looked in the mirror and got a visual of his face. The white hair and horn-like protrusions were one thing, but the most shocking was his eyes. No longer were the blue, replacing them were a set of light purple sclerae and irides with a ripple pattern that spread over his eyeballs. Kaguya was very pleased with her son's new physical appearance. The eyes were what pleased her the most, as she was happy her son inherited it. Enough, Naruto-kun. We must begin your training with your body immediately. Kaguya commanded as she turned around and walked out of the sealing room, but stopped when she reached the door. Meet me in the training grounds when you are done. Of course, Ka-chan. Naruto replied absently as he continued to study his new physical appearance. His mother had told him of the possible changes, but he did not expect so much. Now he possessed his brother's eyes, the Rinnegan. Again, Kaguya commanded as she overlooked her son's training. She was having her son use the technique known as Shinra Tensai, heavenly subjugation of the omnipresent god. The minimum time for the attack to recharge was 5 seconds and her son was at 7. She could not have her son lacking on anything. Shinra Tensai. Naruto shouted as he channeled chakra to his arm and aimed it towards the forest in the training grounds. An invisible force unrooted multiple trees and sent them flying, while some others were only knocked down from the blast. Gritting his teeth in frustration, Naruto prepared for the attack once more. The newly gained power Naruto had just received had boosted his power to new heights, but he could not control his newly found power as well. His manipulation of gravity was not the greatest, and he wished it was easier to master the attractive and repulsive forces. With his new eyes, he found out a few things about them. With these eyes he had access to the 6 paths. The Asura path, the path that allowed him to utilize his body as a weapon by augmenting his own body. The animal path allowed him the power to summon creatures that were immortal and required nothing in return. The Diva path allowed him to manipulate attractive and repulsive forces, or control over gravity in a sense. The human path allowed him to read enemies' minds and yank the soul out of anyone's body. The Naraka path allowed him 2 main abilities, interrogation and restoration. The Preta path allowed him to absorb chakra, and with the time to develop, he could absorb magic as well. And lastly, the outer path, the most powerful path, which allowed him control over life and death as it existed outside the realm of life and death. With those main abilities, Naruto now stood with the most powerful gods and Buddhas. If he trained in the abilities of all the paths and mastered them, then he would surpass the gods and Buddhas easily, and with the power of his eyes he himself could be considered a god. The power to take and give life was divine, and now it was in his hands. He would surpass his mother with the newly gained power and bring glory to the Otsutsuki clan. Naruto and Hu were facing each other. They were currently situated in the training ground hidden by the trees. Hu was still garbed in his robes, but he now had a metallic bow staff strapped to his back and on his waist was a gourd. Naruto's outfit changed from his school outfit, now garbed in a white, high-collared kimono with a black obi, and over the kimono was a pale blue sash that he wore on his right shoulder. On the back of his shirt was the Otsutsuki clan symbol. It was a black and white crest depicting a sun enclosed in a crescent moon. Beneath his robes, Naruto wore long loose black pants and sandals. "All right, on a count of 3. Hu said with a smirk on his face as he got into a loose stance and watched as Naruto followed his actions and got into his own loose stance. Hu, seeing Naruto return his smirk, his very own grew larger. "I don't want you to complain to mommy when you lose, Usagi-sama. You should really keep that mouth of yours shut, Hu." Naruto responded as his eyebrows slightly twitched as he heard the last few words. The reason he was being called Usagi was because of his Yukai portion. He was a Hanyu and the Yukai portion of his body was a rabbit, or better known as a Usagi. Being half Usagi gave Hu a chance to create better and more embarrassing nicknames for him, much to his annoyance. On a count of 3, Hu replied, the smirk replaced with a cheeky grin. 1, 2, 3. Hu charged forward and met his best friend in the middle of the training ground. Sending a fist towards the white-haired Hanyu, Naruto of course saw the incoming fist and leaned to the right to allow the fist to fly by. Retaliating and sending a punch towards Hu, his attack was met with Hu's very own. Using his other fist, Naruto aimed for Hu's chest, but it didn't get very far as Hu caught his fist and stopping it before it could do anything. The two held that position for a little while before they both brought their heads back and sent them forward to headbutt each other. Naruto and Hu shared a grin as they continued to push for dominance, but deciding it was enough, Naruto freed himself and jumped back into the air. Rat tiger dog ox rabbit tiger. Fire style. Phoenix Sageflower technique. Naruto sent a volley of small fireballs towards Hu, who quickly grabbed the bow staff and spun it in a circular motion as the fireballs made contact and exploded. Though he managed to survive against as a few, there were 2 more fireballs as they flew around the bow staff and flanked his defense. Naruto was controlling the fireballs as he maneuvered them to bypass his friend's simple defense. They did as commanded and were sent towards Hu, who was still spinning his staff. Looking at the 2 incoming fireballs in slight shock, Hu quickly stopped the spinning of his bow staff and planted his feet firmly on the ground as he swung his staff and struck the 2 fireballs. Turning to face Naruto, Hu noticed the blonde was already charging towards him. Holding his bow staff with both hands, he slammed the staff against the ground and the earth cracked from the impact and broken pieces of the earth were sent in every direction. Naruto slowed down his approach and jumped onto one of the rising rocks and used it as a boost to send himself into the air. In Naruto's right hand was a basketball-sized spiraling sphere with a white core. Hu grinned as he jumped into the air to meet Naruto head-on, his staff ready for the incoming attack. The sphere and bow staff made contact as a small explosion of white formed around the two and soon consumed them. The impact against the bow staff sent Naruto and Hu back respectively, though the two landed on the ground both with grins on their faces. "That Rasengan of yours is quite impressive," Hu complimented as he got up and prepared for another confrontation with his best friend. "It's amazing how you were able to remake it when he saw it for the first time." "Ha ha ha, but that wasn't the complete version," Naruto replied as he stood up and stretched a bit. "Want to get something to eat? I'm hungry." "As long as it isn't ramen," Hu responded as he strapped his staff to his back once more and walked towards the blonde. Seeing his disappointed expression, Hu smiled. "You know those noodles aren't good for you, right?" Yeah, whatever," Naruto mumbled as he and Hu walked out of the slightly destroyed training ground. "Hu, do not anything foolish," Naruto said. His tone and expression turned serious as he looked at his friend with a frown on his face. "We know the devil faction is hiding Habjir Belphegor, and we will find his location. But acting against them is foolish. Though we can and will crush them in a war, it is still unnecessary for us to go into one. I cannot allow blood to be shed when the clan has only so many numbers left." "You're telling me to let the man who murdered my entire village go?" Hu snapped at his friend, his body shaking from the contained fury as he glared at his best friend with eyes filled with hatred. "No, I am asking you to wait a little longer before killing him," Naruto responded as he and his friend continued to stare at each other. "Hu, we do not even know where he is located. Our spies have been able to find traces of him in the underworld but not an exact location. If you go searching for him, then it would take too long and you would be bound to be caught by the devils. Wait a little longer, Hu, and you will have Habger's location. Though I do not believe revenge is the best answer, it is up to you to decide." "Fine." Who responded finally as he grit his teeth in frustration, that bastard managed to escape years ago, it won't happen again. You may go Shinji. Naruto ordered his bodyguard who was situated behind him. Shinji bowed and vanished into the shadows. Walking towards his friend he placed a hand on his shoulder and got his attention. Who? The raiding game is in a few days and I want you to come along with me acting as my second guard alongside Shinji. But please do not do anything out of hand. I need to clear my head. Who said as he left the room swiftly. Naruto looked at the retreating figure of his best friend inside. Shinji. Naruto called out as his bodyguard materialized before him once more and bowed before him. I want you to shadow Who and make sure he does not do anything stupid. If he does, report to me at once. Of course, young master. Shinji responded as he bowed his head and vanished from sight once again. That single piece of information did that to you, huh? Looks like you still hasn't gotten over their death. Who? I hope you do not go after Habjir. Your hatred and anger will cloud your mind, but if you do I shall stand by your side as you have by mine for these past years. Naruto thought as he released a sigh and made his way out of the room. He had a lot on his mind and he needed to clear his head. The upcoming raiding game allowed him the chance to collect some much needed information about the devils, and hopefully end the hatred and pain Who was carrying with him. Naruto-kun, do you know why I called you here? Yasaka questioned as she stared at the seated blonde before her. Seeing a shrug from Naruto, she continued, I am calling you here for some much needed assistance. As you know, with your clan, the Otsutsuki clan associated with Kyoto and the Yukai branch situated here, we could be considered one of the most powerful supernatural groups in the world. Now that we have greater influence, I believe it is time we opened ourselves to the other Yukai branches in Asia. I cannot do it alone, so what do you think about this matter? Why speak to them at the moment? Naruto questioned as he adopted a serious expression and thought about the possibilities that Yasaka was speaking of. Nothing seemed to be a positive for the group aside from a gathered group of Yukai under one banner. Yasaka, do you really believe it is possible for you to command such a large group of Yukai yourself? I am not saying you are not capable, I am merely stating that they would only listen to the ones with power. That is where you come in. Yasaka answered as she smiled slightly, with your support as the clan heir to the Otsutsuki clan, then I can safely hold the position of leader without any discomfort. If the Otsutsuki clan, the most powerful clan, supports me being the leader, then they will follow one by one. So how about it, Naruto-kun? Yasaka, what you are planning is foolish. Naruto began as he narrowed his eyes, though we may be the most powerful clan in the entire world, some of the Yukai still despise us. Being Hanyu does not help us sway their opinions either, and do you expect all the Yukai to simply allow you to rule over them? If you do, then it is foolish. Especially the Usagi Yukai, from the past when we were merely an exiled group they loathed us. And now we rise to the top and they will not allow simple fear to sway their minds. From the beginning they have hated us for being Hanyu with their blood in us, and now since we are the most powerful clan the hate they carry will grow. Face it, Yasaka, having the Usagi Yukai as comrades is far-fetched, they will never associate themselves with us. Those fools are too prideful. Yasaka merely sighed as she now wore a tired expression on her face. Naruto-kun, be logical here. Though the Usagi Yukai and the Otsutsuki clan have bad blood between the two, can't you look past that and agree to come under a single banner? Yasaka, what you are asking is the Otsutsuki clan work with a group of ignorant fools that have been tormenting us for generations. Naruto responded as he was clearly getting frustrated with the nine-tailed fox. My clan may do what is best for the Yukai branch in Kyoto at times, but know this, we will never assist them until they pay for their crimes against my clan. So you will not help in bringing the scattered Yukai branches together? Yasaka asked once more. No, unless the Usagi Yukai are not associated from the group, then we will help. Naruto responded as he stood up and made his way to the door. Know this, Yasaka, if you go through with the plan, then you will lose the support of the Otsutsuki clan. With the loss of our support, and the entry of the Usagi Yukai in the group you are hoping to form, then we will openly declare war. Naruto-kun, please rethink about the offer. We might be able to work something out between the Usagi Yukai and the Otsutsuki clan. I can't take back the offer now, I have already sent it to the groups. No, my decision is final. It was your mistake to do it before consulting me. Make your decision wisely, Yasaka, one mistake will be your group's downfall. Kaguya was seated alone in the train compartment taking them to the underworld. Naruto was yet to arrive, though she would have normally been worried about her son's absence, she trusted her son and Shinji. Shinji was one of the most trusted members of the Otsutsuki clan, he had been with her since the beginning of the clan and was a trusted subordinate and friend. Having him watch over Naruto was one of safest decision for her son, though she wished she could watch over him herself, it was nearly impossible due to her work as the matriarch of the clan. With all the political meetings with the allies, She did not have time to spend with her child as much as she desired. It did not matter, as long as he knew that she cared for him, then it was enough for Kaguya. The compartment door slid open and Naruto walked inside with Shinji and Hu flanking him. The compartment was rather large and could be considered an entire room, due to the devil's wishes for their guests the best service and transportation. Naruto sat down on the seat opposite of his mother, while his two guards flanked the couch where he sat. Kaguya smiled at her son and nodded to him. Her guards were hidden from sight as she did not wish for them to be seen. Not that the two needed any guards, they were capable of defending themselves from any threat, but it was more of a formality for people of high standings to have guards. Know that Naruto cared for such things, the devils did. Being as simple-minded as they were, they valued tradition over anything else, so it would be best to bring guards along. Naruto-kun, when we arrive have a clone take your place. Gather the information that is needed. Kaguya ordered as she took a sip of the tea that the devils had provided in the compartment. Her delicate face sported a slight frown from the taste. Devils. They do not have any sense of taste. This European tea does not compare to traditional Japanese tea. I agree, Ka-chan. The taste if just not there. Naruto responded as Shinji brought him his own cup of tea. Taking a sip, Naruto too frowned slightly at the taste. Ka-chan. As you know, Yusaka has asked us to help in the combination of all the Yukai branches. Yes, that fox has gotten bold. Asking us to work with those damned Usagi. Kaguya responded as she spat the word Usagi out as if it were venom. In due time those damned Usagi will pay for what they have done to us in the past. The audacity of those damned Usagi. In due time, my son. They shall pay for the attempt on your life. Naruto stayed silent when he heard the last part. It was true the Usagi had attempted to take his life when he was only training in the sealing arts. They had almost succeeded, but who had came to his rescue? Who had managed to distract them until Kaguya came with the rest of the clan? Naruto had never seen his mother so angry before in his life when she unleashed the power of her third eye and incinerated them on the spot. They couldn't even defend themselves against her. It was a complete slaughter. I understand, Ka-chan. Naruto responded as he banished the memories to the back of his mind. They will pay. The train slowly came to a stop as the conductor spoke of their arrival to the underworld. Naruto groaned slightly as he got up from the seat. It had been a 1-hour trip and his body was getting tired from the lack of movement. But nonetheless he had made it, and now they were finally getting out of the train. Shinji and Hu led the way as they guided the pair out of the train. The underworld could easily be described as another average city. Like the world above them, they had buildings and all. The only odd thing was the sky was purple. Waiting for them was none other than Seraphol Leviathan. No longer in her magic girl outfit, she was garbed in a black skirt and a long-sleeve buttoned-up green shirt. Welcome, Naruto-kun. Seraphol greeted as she caught sight of Naruto and smiled at him. Kaguya appeared in her line of sight and she continued to smile, but this time it was now a nervous one. Kaguya-sama, it is an honor to see you again. Allow me to be the first one to welcome you to the underworld. Seraphol-san. Naruto greeted with a nod as he and his guards approached her. Leviathan-san. Kaguya acknowledged with a single glance at the devil. Naruto-kun, Kaguya-sama, please follow me, the carriages are ready to lead you to the stadium. Seraphol said as she motioned towards the carriages that were present behind her. That raiding game is going to start soon. Naruto and Kaguya allowed Seraphol to guide them to their carriage while their guards were led somewhere else by Seraphol's subordinates. As they seated themselves in the carriage, Naruto looked out the window as the carriage began to move. The underworld was not really different from the world above aside from the oddly colored sky. The plan would commence once they arrived at the stadium. He had to replace himself with a clone. What was needed here from the underworld was a little bit of one of their Satan's research. Or better yet, Ajuka Beelzebub. Formerly known as Ajuka Astaroth, he took on the name Beelzebub once they had won against the old Satan faction. Ajuka was a genius inventor and his research would help greatly in what he and Azazel were working on. The ride was silent as Naruto was looking out at the window the entire time. Seraphol was quite nervous being so close to Kaguya. Naruto did not blame her. He too would have been nervous around his mother if he had no family relations to her. Kaguya was very intimidating as her pupil-less eyes and unreadable expression, and the best part was she had the power to destroy you with a single glance from her third eye. Hard not to be intimidated by someone like that. Once the carriage pulled up to the entrance of the stadium where the raiding game would take place, Naruto and Kaguya were once more guided away by Seraphol. Their guards were beside them as soon as they reached their destination. As the group entered the building, Naruto excused himself to the restroom. Hu and Shinji both stood on guard outside of the restroom, flanking the door and not allowing anyone entry. Naruto, once he got in, sealed off the room with a few silencing seals and produced a scroll from inside his kimono. Unrolling it, he placed his hand on the first seal and pushed chakra into it. A plume of smoke filled the area and soon a few objects appeared. Naruto made a clone and had it wait for his command as he changed, replacing his kimono with a long-sleeve fishnet mesh shirt and over that a simple long-sleeve black shirt. His sandals were replaced with combat boots as they were one of the most obvious things in his outfit. Grabbing the black cloak he had sealed away, he wrapped it around himself and placed a mask over his face. The mask was a white fox-shaped mask with a few markings. Nodding to his clone, Naruto waited until his clone left and he too vanished. The general knowledge that their spies had gathered had allowed him to stealthily maneuver past the guards leading to Ajuka's castle. It was rather easy as the guards were lazying around doing nothing of importance. Making his way deeper and deeper into the castle, Naruto finally found the entrance to the laboratory. 2 guards were posted there as they both seemed relatively bored, so Naruto decided to do what he did best. Using the simple transformation technique, Naruto changed into Ajuka. Walking towards the guards in a relatively bored fashion, they straightened and bowed to him. "Ajuka-sama," one of the guards called out as he bowed deeply, "You are back from the raiding game already?" "Yes, it was boring so I decided to come home and work on my new project," Naruto responded as he walked past the guards and into the laboratory. Once inside, Naruto moved to the computer located in the furthest corner of the room. Sitting down, Naruto pulled out a flash drive and began working. He only had a limited amount of time to gather the information, and while he was at it find the location of Habjir Belphegor. "What do you mean I'm in there already?" Ajuka yelled as he glared at the guard before realization dawned on him. "Move, someone is in my laboratory." The guards were shoved away by the green-haired Satan as he made his way into his laboratory in a mad dash to find the intruder. Upon his arrival, he found a man with a black cloak wrapped around him typing on his computer. Glaring at the man, Ajuka made his way towards him, only stopping to command a few of the guards to stay at the exit to keep the intruder from escaping. "Who are you and why are you in my laboratory?" Ajuka demanded as he continued to glare at the cloaked intruder. Waiting for a response, all he got was a raised finger from the cloaked intruder as he or she continued to type on his computer before stopping and pulling out a flash drive. Turning around, Ajuka caught sight of a fox-like mask the intruder wore. "Very well then, if you are not going to talk," Ajuka said as he channeled his magic and a large magic circle appeared beneath the intruder's feet. Before his magic could take effect, the masked intruder raised both hands and they were cloaked in lightning. A bolt of lightning shot from the hands and went straight for Ajuka and his guards. Ajuka's eyes widened slightly as he cancelled his magic and focused on building a shield to protect him and his subordinates from the incoming lightning bolt. That was the chance the masked intruder needed as smoke bombs were dropped and cloaked the room in a layer of smoke blocking all sight of the man. The masked intruder burst into a column of fire. Releasing the shield, Ajuka grit his teeth in frustration as he slammed his hands against a table holding his latest invention. "Guards! Find the intruder and bring whoever it is here," Ajuka ordered. Kaguya was pleased. How could she not? Her son had just gathered the needed information that she had desired. With the information gathered, they would finally decide if the devil faction was a threat to them or not. Many years of fighting for survival as the exiled group of Hanyu strengthened her and the rest of the clan, and it also made them wary of anyone with unknown intentions. Though she did not believe the devil faction would try anything against her clan, it was still best to confirm it. Her meeting with the fallen angels had been a success as Azazel had allowed her the use of her third eye to question him. The angel faction was the only one that she did not fully question or investigate, but they were the servants of the biblical God. She would give them the benefit of the doubt for now. The church had provided some aid to them during their exiled stage. So the clan would not question them unless they proved to be a threat. She was currently watching the raiding game. Her son's clone excused itself as it made its way to the bathroom with Shinji and Hu following close behind. "Kaguya-sama, what do you think of the raiding game so far?" Seraphal asked as she tried to strike up some conversation. Without Naruto here, it was awkward as the matriarch of the Otsutsuki clan spoke little and there was nothing they could speak about. "The match is proving to be rather entertaining," Kaguya responded as she spared Seraphal a glance. "I am glad you are enjoying the match, Kaguya-sama," Seraphal said as she put on a nervous smile. It was hard to not be nervous around Kaguya. Her pupil-less eyes seemed to be staring into her soul. It was not shocking that the woman sitting beside her was considered one of the most powerful beings in existence. "What about you, Yusaka Dono?" "I too am enjoying the match, Seraphal Dono," Yusaka replied as she smiled at the devil she sat beside, though she tried to be friendly with Kaguya, but Kaguya did not seem to have been pleased with what she had asked her son to do earlier. The relationship between the Yukai branch of Kyoto was strained with the Otsutsuki clan now due to her choice of announcing her idea of bringing together all of the Yukai branches under one banner. The clan had no issues with the rest of the Yukai, but it was just the Usagi Yukai that bothered them. If she decided to form the group, then war could be declared. If she did not, then the Usagi Yukai might declare war themselves. Either way, they were facing war. Hu-kun, I am glad you could meet me, Yasaka said as she smiled at the monkey Yukai before her. Please take a seat. Hu complied and sat down. Naruto had allowed him to meet with Yasaka. Hu knew what the meeting was about. Yasaka was going to ask for his help about the issue she faced. Looking at the nine-tailed fox seated in front of him, Hu decided he should get the meeting started. Yasaka-san, why did you want to meet with me about? Hu-kun, I cannot meet with a friend without a hidden intention, Yasaka replied as she flashed him another smile. Seeing Hu wasn't even slightly affected by the words, she decided it was time to get to the point. Hu-kun, as you know, the relationship between the Yukai branch and the Otsutsuki clan are strained. Can you somehow persuade Naruto-kun to accept the offer? I cannot take back the offer that I already sent to the various Yukai groups. No, I will not help you, Hu responded immediately, not even thinking further. Please Hu-kun, if you do not, then there could be war. Yasaka pleaded as she looked at the monkey Yukai in front of her with desperation. Don't think of it as helping me, think of it as preventing unnecessary bloodshed. My decision is no, Naruto has stood by me for all these years and he always supported me in any way he could. Hu replied as he stood up and looked down towards the nine-tailed fox with a slight glare. Now I shall do the same for Naruto. If you decide to go to war with us, Yasaka-san, you will face the Otsutsuki clan and the monkey Yukai under my command. Hu-kun, please. Be logical. Yasaka tried once more to convince Hu to change his mind. Good day, Hu said as he closed the door behind him. Ka-chan, will we actually go to war? Naruto questioned as his gaze fell upon the letter he had received from Serafal.
If the situation calls for it, Kaguya replied simply. The rest of the clan had been informed of the situation and they were happy to fight. The treatment from the damned Usagi Yukai were not forgotten and they were itching for blood. Depending on Yasaka's decision, it will decide the fate of the Yukai in Kyoto. Either way, the blood of the Usagi will be ours for what they have done to us. Not only for the torment but for their attempt at your life.
Naruto did not respond as he broke the seal from the letter and opened it. Two items came out of the envelope. Grabbing the most obvious one, the letter, Naruto opened it and began reading. Dear Naruto-kun, it was a shame that we could not spend more time together. Next time you come to the underworld, we can spend some time together. Well, that was all I wanted to say. Hope you enjoy the picture. Keep it with you as a reminder of me. Yours truly, Leviathan. Looking at the picture, Naruto's left eye twitched in a bit of annoyance as he saw the image imprinted on the paper. The image was Serafal dressed in her magic girl outfit blowing kisses towards the camera. What is with that woman? Naruto questioned mentally as he returned the picture and letter into the envelope and shoved it back into his kimono's hidden pocket. It was odd how familiar Serafal was acting towards him. He knew she was childish, but doing something like this seemed out of hand. Naruto-kun. Kaguya called out, catching him by surprise as he fumbled with the letter. Sorry, Ka-chan. Naruto sheepishly responded as he rubbed the back of his head. Kaguya gave him a stern look before motioning for him to seat himself before her. Following her instructions, Naruto sat and waited for her to speak. As I was saying, the devil faction are not a threat from what I have gathered on the information you have brought back. Kaguya began as her lavender eyes bore into his blue ones. Though their past actions are not spotless, they are still harmless to us. Even if I do not approve of the deaths of the Nekomata, they are not of concern for now. Naruto frowned at the mention of the large number of Nekomata killed by the actions of the devil faction, but Ka-chan, they slaughter innocents. I know, my son, but at the moment our main worry is the Usagi Yukai. The Nekomata were neutral in our struggle in the past, so we shall concern ourselves with the situation once the Usagi are taken care of. Kaguya responded. She left no room for argument as Naruto nodded and relented. You know of the actions the Usagi have done to us in the past, and they shall continue if they are not silenced now. In the past they have tormented and hunted us for things we had no control of, and they continue to do so now. Yasaka has made a foolish decision of trying to gather all the Yukai under a single banner. It does not matter if she makes the correct decision or not. The Usagi shall pay with their blood for their actions in the past. One way. Blood. That was all there was in the closely built society of the Usagi Yukai located deep in Mount Fuji. One's blood would determine many things, and especially a place in the system that governed the Yukai residing deep in the mountain. The system of hierarchy was what the founder and leader of the Yukai set up. With the ruling Yukai at the top of the system, and at the bottom was none other than the Hanyu Yukai. Hanyu were filth in the eyes of the pure-blooded Usagi. They were nothing more than simple animals. Hanyus in their eyes were considered to be tainting the blood of the Usagi, though it was highly irrational. The ruling Yukai or the chief simply allowed it to continue as they shared similar views with the rest of the Usagi. Blood was the key factor in which position one would take due to the system of hierarchy the previous chiefs had set up. Those events led to the downfall of the most powerful family in the group of Usagi Yukai. The Riku family, or better yet the descendant of the original chief. Due to their superiority complex, they had allowed the power and fame gained by their ancestor to simply convince them they were invincible. The Hanyu were not pleased with the mistreatment. For years they had endured, but now there would be a breaking point. It was like a balloon. The more air blown into it, the larger it got, but soon once it reached its limit, the balloon would explode. That was what had happened. The Hanyu band together and rebelled when one of the Riku had used his authority as one of the noble families and taken advantage of a Hanyu taking her maidenhood. Though it was nothing new, anger still burned in the hearts of the Hanyu. Being treated like dirt since the establishment of the society had weaved hatred into their hearts. All of their contained hatred from the years of mistreatment had broken out, and it was the driving force in their rebellion. The rebellion shocked the Usagi to a degree they had never expected the Hanyu to rebel, so they were not ready. Result of their negligence and cruel governing, the death count of the Usagi double the amount of casualties of Hanyu. Once the rebellion was over, the group of Hanyu escaped from the settlement and made their way out of Mount Fuji. Hatred from the Usagi Yukai had caused the exiled group issues along the way, being hunted by the Usagi for the lives they had taken. Not only that, but having little to no experience with the actual world due to their isolation in the mountain. Years continued as the Usagi finally caught the wandering group of Hanyus, and a battle would rage between the two groups. Being resourceful with their skills and abilities in Yujutsu, the exiled group managed to escape once more from death, but their leader was killed in the progress. Having to elect a new leader, the choice was anonymous as Kaguya Otsutsuki was elected, taking command. Under her leadership, they would gain a new style of fighting. Fujutsu, the amazing skill, would be the changing factor in their struggle for survival. Though the exiled group of Hanyu were lacking strength, they gained something equally as powerful: knowledge. Without power in their hands, they found the next best thing: knowledge. This new factor played a major role in their future as Kaguya ordered the members of the group to create a portal. It was something she had thought of when studying the dimensional gap. Success with the creation of a portal allowing them access to a new world, the group bid goodbye to their old world and stepped into a new one. How could they not choose this decision? Their old world hated them, and with the Usagi hunting and tormenting them for their very existence, what Kaguya had ordered and created was like a gift from the heavens. Naruto did not know how to feel about it. His clan's elder generation despised the system of hierarchy along with how the devil faction's ruling body. The idea of valuing blood over all did not sit well with them. Naruto knew it was due to their own past. Pain and hatred still burned brightly in the hearts of the Otsutsuki clan, and he could not blame them. Hearing what his mother has told him of the horrific conditions they had to endure and the mistreatment from ones with pure blood did not sit well with him. He loved his clan, they were his family. Kaguya had raised him to value family out of everything else, and so hearing how his family was treated in the past made his blood boil. And to add to the hatred that was building in the clan's hearts, they had made an attempt on his life which fueled the fires burning in their hearts. Having a lot on his mind, Naruto decided to train. It was one way to think clearly. Currently he was going through the motions of Ikeda as his mind wandered on about the upcoming conflict. But that was not only the reason for his training, it was almost time for the ceremony. Naruto-kun, that is enough training for now. A voice stopped him as he stood up straight and turned to face his mother. Kaguya gave her son a nod as she approached him. Though she was no expert, the feeling of uneasiness was evident in Naruto's heart. It was expected. Walking towards her son, she placed a hand on his shoulder, getting him to look at her. "Do not worry, my son. You will be a great clan head. I will be by your side along the way, as an acting advisor if you need me. You are not like your brothers. They were foolish enough to trust the savages from the other world. I have raised you to be better than that." "That is not the reason for my distress, Ka-chan," Naruto replied as he released a sigh and a slight frown formed on his face. "I am just worried about Yasaka. She may have been foolish to do something like this, but she had good intentions. Maybe if we extend a hand to help, she might join our side." "Do not be foolish, my son. That is not how I raised you," Kaguya responded as her delicate features shifted into a slight frown. Looking at her son, she could see his loyalty to his friends. Though they were low in numbers, he proved to be willing to protect them with the power he possessed. "Yasaka must choose if she joins us or helps the Usagi. You are loyal to your friends, and that is a good thing, my son. But you must know that a leader will do things he or she may not be proud of. For the betterment of their people it must be done. I understand a leader must make decisions for that benefit the majority. But I will not give up, though she may be foolish. I shall protect her and Kuno. If I cannot do that, then what clan head will I be? Naruto questioned as he began walking back towards the compound before turning to face Kaguya once more. Besides, you know I will do something rash if it meant I would be protecting the ones I care for. As the Greek demigods possess, you seem to have your own fatal flaw. Your loyalty towards your friends and family will be your downfall, foolish son. I shall crush that flaw if it is the last thing I do. Kaguya thought as she released a sigh watching her son's retreating figure before he vanished into the compound. She walked in the opposite direction. She was needed elsewhere. The issue involving Naruto would have to wait till later. For now she had to meet with the allies and see if they were willing to participate in the upcoming war. Though with extra help it would heighten their chance of victory, but then again the chances of them losing was practically 0%. No help was needed, but it would be best to lower casualties her clan may suffer in upcoming battles between them and the Usagi. Warfare was a horrible thing. In the eyes of Naruto nobody won in a war, both sides lost a piece of themselves when the war would end. Wars seemed like the ideal breeding ground for hatred. Losing one's precious to oneself would bring forth fury from the heart. It was always the same thing, all wars were fought between two sides with hidden intentions. It was expected, after all the victor gained advantages that outweighed the losses in result of the victory. Nobody was perfect as shown through the countless wars that were waged between rulers of different countries, and other wars the ancient Greeks waged against the Trojans. The reason for war in Naruto's eyes was petty, thousands were killed for a single woman. Now it brought him to the topic of possible warfare in this era. His clan would declare war against the Usagi Yukai for the scars dealt to them in the past. He had felt as if he was intruding in something between two people, and it was true. Having not experienced what the elder generation of the clan had been through, he could not judge any of them. Yet he was connected with the situation due to the attempt on his life and simply being born into the Otsutsuki clan. Though he had mixed feelings about their attempt on his life, he did not believe something like that would be enough to convince him to participate in the war. He could not simply not participate either, as it was his duty as the heir of the clan to join in the upcoming battles. It was too late to try and convince the clan to simply stop their preparations for war. They had been whipped into a frenzy and were now calling out for blood of their enemies. It was all too hard. Others would suffer between the clash of the two forces and collateral damage would be high. It was simply a prediction. With the power his clan possessed, it was likely. In the eyes of many, war against the Otsutsuki clan was suicide. Fear was a byproduct of power, yet this factor did not do much to affect the Usagi Yukai as they called for blood. Even if though they stood no chance against the clan that held the position as the most powerful clan, they were still willing to fight. Either it was an extreme amount of arrogance in their combat capabilities, or they had something up their sleeves that would allow them to win against a clan of that caliber. Both possibilities did not sit well with Naruto. Arrogance, he simply hated it in general, but it was the second possibility that he was wary of. If a supernatural group had a weapon or ability of some sort that could endanger a clan as powerful as his was unsettling. That alone would shift the power in favor of a single supernatural group, though it was like that now since the Otsutsuki clan held the title as the most powerful clan. Though they held major influence over weaker supernatural groups, they did not abuse the power. History involving the Usagi Yukai and their leadership capabilities was not so bright, and if one group such as them were given such power and authority, abuse of it would soon follow, repeating what had happened before in the past. Then again many factors played a role in the outcome, and thus he could not conclude history would repeat itself. Though he did not deem them a threat as of yet, it was still astounding how one supernatural group would be willing to face off against his clan. No matter what he decided, he was going to have to participate in the war. Naruto could be considered naive due to he was simply budding and held no experience in the relation between the two groups. Even so, he wished to resolve this another way. Not that he cared for the Usagi, no, he simply did not, but he cared for the Yukai that would be caught in between their bad blood. That was it. He did not wish to drag no one that was not involved with the issue into something that they had no relations with. And worst of all, Yusaka and Kuno were being caught in it. Though Yusaka was being foolish and allowing her ideals to simply bypass logic and reason, she was still a friend. Naruto knew that Yusaka was doing the right thing in her mind, but it simply backfired. Naruto. Yusaka greeted in a slight nod as she sat behind her desk looking at the new arrival with a blank expression on her face. Though she attempted to simply hide her nervousness. The relations between them had been downhill since her announcement of uniting the Yukai branches. Yusaka knew that Naruto would not be fooled so easily, yet she still tried to hide the nervousness building up. "What are you doing here?" Last time your clan had cut off all connections with the Kyoto branch. This is a personal meeting. Naruto responded as he stared at Yasaka with an impassive expression. I am not here on behalf of my clan. I am simply here to meet with you and discuss Kuno's and your future. Yasaka, break the agreement with the Yukai. You will not win against our clan, even with forces such as that Ka-chan, and I can simply wipe them out with a single technique. I do not wish for either you or Kuno to be hurt. Then please convince your clan that it is best to work under a single banner. Yasaka shouted as her blank expression broke and was replaced by a desperate one. No, Naruto immediately responded as his impassive mask turned into a frown. Shaking his head, Naruto sighed. I cannot, Yasaka. Though I do not know how the elder generation of my clan are feeling, I can understand this must be done. Even if I tried, that would not stop Ka-chan from reversing my actions and whip them into a war frenzy once more. You must understand I cannot against my own family, that is why you join us or not at all. You're asking me to simply join you when I have already asked all the surrounding Yukai groups to join under a single leader. Yasaka said to herself as a conflicted look formed on her face. Debating over the issue, she found both pros and cons in both. Her decision had drove a wedge between her and Naruto's relationship and it hurt, but she was the leader putting her. Yasaka shook her head with a forced smile on her face. I have to refuse that offer, Naruto-kun. If I did join, all the trust from the other Yukai would be lost. Not only that, but I cannot simply betray that trust they placed on me. Naruto was silent for some time as he finally released a sigh. Very well then. The next time we meet, pray it is on pleasant terms. You are a friend, I do not wish to have your blood on my hands. Naruto. Goodbye, Yasaka. Naruto taking a walk around the city of Kyoto, clearing his mind as more and more frustration built up inside of his heart. Yasaka was a friend, and if he could help her in any way he would, but if he did it would simply go against his family, which was something he would never do. A frustrated growl escaped his lips as he sent a kick towards the nearest object in his vicinity. His foot impacting against the base of a tree, leaves fluttered downwards from the force behind his kick. As the leaves danced across the calm air, a zephyr passed through and directed the leaves to another direction. Why are you so stubborn, Yasaka? If you had accepted the damned offer, I could protect both you and Kuno from the other Yukai. Naruto thought in frustration as he released another growl and kicked the tree once more. Why must you people be so loud? A voice questioned from his behind. Naruto turned immediately to face the source of the voice, and it surprised him to see who it was. The one who spoke was a cute young girl with long black hair that reached down to her hips and gray eyes and was dressed in a gothic Lolita outfit. The young girl, seeing the slightly surprised look on Naruto's face, spoke. You are surprised by my appearance? Damn it, I let my emotions cloud my mind and someone managed to sneak up on me, not just anyone but her of all people. Naruto thought in frustration as a scowl formed on his face. Reining in his emotions, Naruto took a deep breath and spoke, yes, I am surprised. Ka-chan described your appearance of an old man, not a little girl, Ophis the Ouroboros dragon. Your mother has spoken about my abilities, has she not? The newly named Ophis questioned as she held the emotionless expression on her face, looking at the blonde waiting for an answer. Yes, she has. But what I imagined you to be was an old man. I assume you have changed your appearance since then. Naruto answered as he prepared for the worst. Standing before him was one of the most powerful entities in the entire world. His mother being up there, he was still not her level yet, so in confrontation with Ophis would not end well for him, so he had to play his cards right to avoid and fight. Looking at the emotionless dragon, he decided to continue the conversation. If I may ask, why are you here, Ophis? I am here to give you an invitation. Ophis responded simply. Seeing his curiosity spike, she decided to elaborate. As you see, I am creating a group. This group will help me accomplish my goal and rid my home of Great Red. And what will I get from this? Naruto asked. He would be lying if he said the offer did not interest him. Though a part of him questioned her motives, if she was asking for such a thing, speaking to his mother would have been better, as she was the acting clan head. Either she was trying to convince him to betray his clan, or she had already offered a position in her group to his mother. You will get what you desire most. Ophis said as a snake slithered from her sleeves and onto her hand, visible for the blonde to see. Naruto eyed the snake warily as he thought of the offer before shaking his head in a negative gesture. No, I must decline the offer, but I am curious, what do you believe that I desire most, Ophis? You are a strange one. Ophis commented as she stared at him before she opened her mouth to speak once more. My offer still stands, Naruto. When you make up your mind, come find me in the Chaos Brigade. With those words spoke, Ophis disappeared right before his eyes, leaving him alone with his thoughts. The Chaos Brigade, with Ophis as the leader, then that group would be a danger to us. Naruto thought as his eyes narrowed and he vanished in a swirl of leaves. A teen with pale skin, shaggy white hair, attractive facial features, and 6 Magatama designs tattooed on his collarbone. His eyes were strange as they held enlarged and featureless irides with no pupils. He wore the typical outfit of the Otsutsuki clan. He wore an white, high-collared kimono with a black obi, over which he wears a pale green sash tied to his right shoulder. On the back of his kimono was the crest of the Otsutsuki clan branch family, and yellow crest depicting a sun enclosed in a crescent moon. Beneath the robes he wore black fingerless gloves, long black pants and black shinobi sandals. This was Toneri Otsutsuki, a member of the Otsutsuki clan branch family and surrogate brother of Naruto Otsutsuki. As a member of the branch family, he kept his eyes due to the new law passed down by Kaguya Otsutsuki as they had traveled back into the world of their origins. His eyes were very common among the members of both families. They were the Byakugan. These eyes allowed them 360-degree field vision, except a small spot at the back of the neck above the first thoracic vertebra. It not only allowed the user 360-degree field vision, but it also allowed them to see through solid objects and allowed them to see the flow of energy through the user. His eyes were dubbed as the Byakugan. Toneri at the moment was moving towards a meeting spot that Naruto had set up with him in Tokyo. They were meeting up for some reason, but Toneri did not question him. They always did something crazy once in a while and he would be questioning Naruto if they did not do something crazy. Arriving at the address he had been given, the building housed many apartments and the specific room number that Naruto had given him was at the top level of the building. Knocking on the door, Toneri heard a bit of movement before sounds of locks being removed were audible. After what seemed like minutes, the door opened revealing someone Toneri knew very well. Standing there was Hu, dressed in his traditional Chinese robes and boots as the monkey Yukai blinked a few times before gesturing for the white-haired teen to come inside. Once the two entered, they went to the living room of the apartment and sat down on the seats offered. An awkward silence filled the room as the two glanced at each other without speaking a single word. The silence was broken when a swirl of leaves appeared in the room signaling the arrival of Naruto. Once the leaves stopped and revealed Naruto, the former blonde walked towards the two and plopped himself down beside Toneri. "I'm glad you two got here so quickly," Naruto said quite pleased as he reached into his kimono and pulled out a scroll. Tossing it to Hu, who glanced at it for a few seconds before unrolling it on the coffee table. "As you both know, our clan is about to declare war on the Usagi Yukai. And I want to stop it before there are unnecessary casualties." Hu looked at his best friend strangely before speaking. "Naruto, you know that I will always stand by your side, but how are we going to stop this war? From what I saw, your clan is ready for blood. Not only that, but if we did we would be going against your mother, and I don't know if you noticed but she is scary with her freaky eyes." "I agree with Hu-san. Naruto ni-san." Toneri voiced his thoughts as he looked at the Otsutsuki clan heir with an unreadable expression. "Our clan is ready for the war, and they seem happy for blood of the Usagi Yukai. Naruto ni-san, if you do so, Kaguya-sama would not be pleased with actions to stop the upcoming war." "I know," Naruto responded as he got their attention. Placing a hand on the scroll, Naruto pushed a bit of chakra into the seal and a poof of smoke appeared. Accompanying the smoke was a map of the surrounding area. Unfolding the folded map, Naruto laid a finger on Mount Fuji. "That is why I simply wish to eliminate the enemy before we could begin amassing our forces and before they complete amassing their forces. Mount Fuji, west of Tokyo, would be one of their potential headquarters, and I wish to destroy the settlement there before the beginning of the war." "Naruto, you're crazy. If we destroy the settlement there, then it would simply be an act of war before we have enough time to amass a force to combat their own." Hu said, his voice raised and his face filled with disbelief. "Toneri, don't you agree with me that this is a crazy plan?" "Again, I have to agree with Hu-san, Naruto ni-san. It would not be beneficial for us if we were to attack before we could prepare for war." Toneri tried to reason with his surrogate brother. "Yes, you are correct. It would be foolish to simply attack when our forces are not even ready for warfare." Naruto nodded his head in acknowledgement of the reasons the two had spoke about, "But we are not going as ourselves. We shall go hidden by a disguise, and for extra security, Toneri shall place us under an illusion." "That could work." Hu mumbled as he pondered on the idea. It would be beneficial if they were able to cripple the enemy before the war even began. And the idea Naruto was proposing could be effective. After a few minutes pondering the idea, Hu responded to the proposal with a smile on his face. "You know, I could use the exercise. I'm up for destroying an enemy settlement. Those conditions favor our side. I shall join you two in your task of destroying the enemy headquarters." Toneri nodded his head in agreement as he turned his head to face Naruto. "Good," Naruto said, quite pleased with their decision. Placing his hand on the other seal, Naruto quickly pushed chakra to the 3 other seals and soon 3 masks appeared with the smoke. Grabbing the mask that represented a fox, Naruto held it up for the three to see. These are going to hide our identities. I made sure the material used to craft these are very durable and could survive through fire. Once we place the masks on, Toneri will place an illusion over us as he is the best with them out of all three of us present. So, how are we going to attack? Who asked as he grabbed the bird mask, forcing Toneri to get hold of the rat mask. From the stories and information Ka-chan has told me about the original settlement that the Usagi Yukai created. Located deep in Mount Fuji, they created it so there would be no mortals bothering them. The only issue we would face infiltrating their settlement would be sentries posted around the fort that they have erected around the buildings. We could simply incapacitate or eliminate them. It does not matter which you decide to do. Once the sentries are eliminated, we can simply destroy the headquarters then. Using the surprise from our attack, we will go in and out. Do not bother spending any longer than necessary there. The longer we stay, the higher the chance our identities will be revealed. So basically, when we get rid of all the guards, then we can do whatever we want. Who said as he summarized up the entire operation as a grin spread across his face. Naruto, I have to ask, why bring us along when you can do all of that destroying on your own? To answer your question, I can destroy the base on my own, but I need you for something else I am planning. Naruto responded as he turned to look at Toneri. I need you, Toneri, to scout all of the buildings to find some sort of weapon. Weapon? Toneri questioned. Yes, I have reason to believe that they might have built a weapon that would help them win the war. Naruto answered as his face shifted into a frown. Looking at the map and studying the area around Mount Fuji, who and I shall distract them by destroying their base while you, Toneri, look for anything that might be a danger to the clan. Understood. Both of them said in unison. Naruto, Who, and Toneri were all masked and cloaked under an illusion. They were hidden by the shadows as the three approached the fort situated deep in Mount Fuji. The three shared a nod as they split up and proceeded with the plan. Naruto created some clones, ordering them to take out the sentries while he stayed behind. It was not long before memories came flooding into his mind when the clones dispelled, pushing chakra to his eyes. They soon shifted from blue to light purple irides with ripple eye pattern that spread over his eyeball. Slamming his palm onto the ground below him, a large seal appeared and soon a massive plume of smoke followed. The smoke cleared to reveal a massive dog with multiple heads with all brown-colored fur, black covering its mouths, and razor-sharp fangs. Like him, every head had a pair of Rinnegan. Naruto stood on one of the heads as he mentally commanded the beast forward. Breaking through the wall, the dog destroyed buildings with a swing of its paw. Waves of enemy forces poured out of the buildings as they came to combat the source of the destruction. Screams and shouts mixed with the sound of destruction as the massive dog continued on its path of destruction. Naruto watched the action unfold on top of the summon's head. Naruto's instincts kicked in as he leaned to the side to avoid a blast of magic energy. Turning to find the source of it, his eyes caught a group of Usagi Yukai standing on top of a building. Jumping off of his summon's head, Naruto directed himself towards the enemy group. Hopping over rooftops, the former blonde dodged magic blasts as he finally made his way towards the enemies. Meeting heavy resistance, he used seals to shield himself from more attacks. The enemy continued their barrage of magical attacks until Naruto decided it was enough. Forming a few clones, he had them engage the enemy, providing him with time to go on the offensive. His clones were forcefully dispelled, but they had done their job. Naruto punched one of the enemies and kicked him backwards. Naruto then sent a sweeping kick at an approaching enemy, knocking her to the ground. Not allowing her the chance to recover, he punched her with an chakra-powered fist. You got to be careful, I won't always be there to save you. Whose voice called out towards Naruto as the Otsutsuki heir turned to see Who standing over a few unconscious Usagi Yukai. Please, I could have taken care of them without your help, Naruto responded as he rolled his eyes. So, is this according to the plan? Who asked as he turned his gaze towards the massive multi-headed dog on a rampage. Naruto followed his gaze and looked at the destruction with a blank look. I'd be lying if I said things are going according to plan. But beggars can't be choosers, right? Naruto questioned as his eyes caught the sight of a beam of light blue lightning shoot up into the sky. That's Toneri, looks like he found something of importance. What do we do now? Who asked as he readied his bow staff and looked towards his masked friend, his curiosity shrouded by his mask. We finish what we started, Naruto replied as he formed a hand sign and the multi-headed dog began multiplying and forming separate bodies with singular heads. Who? Let us rendezvous with Toneri before we continue with the destruction. He may have some useful information from his little scouting trip. Who nodded as he followed his best friend across the rooftops and towards the origin of the beacon. Taking out enemy forces along the way, the duo managed to reach Toneri, who was standing in between a group of unconscious Usagi Yukai. Nodding to his surrogate brother, Naruto greeted him in kind as the three regrouped and now were planning their next move. It seems you did not find a weapon, Naruto observed as he looked at Toneri waiting for an answer. Who followed his example as he too waited. Nothing about a weapon. But I did find something that would interest us, Toneri said as he pulled out a sealing scroll and handed it to Naruto, who took it and looked at it curiously before turning his attention to Toneri again. Inside are maps with some of their bases marked and more importantly information about the ceremony for the next leader of the Usagi Yukai. A huge smile formed on Naruto's face as he happily secured the scroll. That is great, good job Toneri. Now we have another advantage. Now let's finish this job before dawn approaches. It was not long before the once proud settlement was reduced to piles of rubble and dust.
That was the sight a force of Usagi Yukai arrived to witness. Not a single living was spotted near the destruction. The ones responsible for this was nowhere in sight. It was not only a blow strategically to them but also it was a blow to their morale. One of their most powerful settlements' bases was wiped out in a single night, leaving nothing but rubble and dust behind. Worst of all, they did not know who or what had done it.
It was the Usagi Yukai, Kaguya said as she looked towards her son with an emotionless mask present on her face. Seeing him lower his head, she decided to continue further. I knew of your actions the previous night, my son. I am proud you would go so far for friends, but you must understand that family comes first. What you managed to do the previous night has allowed us to gain an advantage towards them, but now war is going to unpreventable. We won the scrimmage but there were consequences. Naruto kept his head as anger built up in his chest. The more his mother talked about it the more his anger grew. How could he not? During the scrimmage a party of 5 members of the Otsutsuki clan were ambushed by a resounding force of 30. They had managed to hold 30 of them off but they did not win the battle. Losing, they had been branded with the Usagi Yukai's royal crest and left in the forest to rot. That made his anger spike to new levels. How could he not? Among the small group of Otsutsuki clansmen that were injured and left in critical condition was Shinji, his personal bodyguard since as long as he could remember. Now seeing him and 4 other of his clansmen in critical condition fighting for their lives from the injuries they had sustained had made his anger and hatred towards the Usagi Yukai soar to new heights. Not only that, to add insult to injury they had branded them with their royal crest. Normally he was a calm and collected, thinking before acting, but now his anger and hatred seemed to take control. How could he not? 5 members of his family were fighting for their lives as he stood there. And not only that, but their enemy had branded them as property. Naruto-kun, war is never a pleasant thing, but you must steel yourself and do what is necessary to protect the ones precious to you. No matter what path you walk down you must protect the ones most precious to you, remember that. Kaguya said as she placed a hand on her son before walking out of the room, leaving him alone with his thoughts. Those bastards, it was not enough to simply defeat them or kill them for that matter. But they had to brand them as well, branding my clan as property. Naruto thought as his rage clouded his mind. Walking out of the room, Naruto made a beeline towards Toneri's room. He knew that Hu and him were currently there reviewing the information they had gathered. Throwing the door open, the two residing in the room looked at Naruto, who walked into the room and seated himself right in front of the map. Studying the contents, Naruto's mind worked quickly as plans of action formed in his mind. Naruto-ni-san, are you doing alright? Toneri asked as he and Hu shared a look and directed their gaze towards the visibly angered Hanyu. From what they had heard about the attack, 5 members of the clan had been injured and left in critical condition. Information about the brand that was now present in their bodies was not shared among the people. Taking in a deep breath, Naruto calmed his mind and allowed himself to think clearly. Yes, he was angry, but he had to keep himself calm if he was planning on retaliating against the Usagi. A warrior's mind clouded by emotions, no matter how skilled, would fall in battle. He could not allow his emotions to control him. But Naruto swore he would pay them back for what they had done to his clan. Naruto turned to meet Toneri's gaze and spoke in a calm tone. Yes, I am just angered about what had happened. Let's just continue reviewing this information. Toneri and Hu exchanged another look before sitting down and joining Naruto in his work. The two could understand Naruto's emotions at the moment, for they too would not wish for their family to be in such a condition. Toneri more so due to his relations as an actual member and family member, but he was smart enough to cool his head about, but that did not stop the rage from building in his very heart. Hu was not as angered as the two Otsutsuki as he held not familial relations with the injured party, but he was angered by the audacity of the Usagi Yukai. The trio worked silently, only conversing when the situation deemed necessary. Mixed emotions filled their hearts as they continued to work, all 3 questioning if an all-out war against the Usagi was the better solution. Did everything go as planned? A man asked the group of kneeling men and women before him. Of course, Onzashi-sama. One of them responded as the group continued to kneel before the man. "We have done as instructed, and defeated the small scouting party." "Good, did you brand those that tarnish our blood?" "Hi, Anzashi-sama, your royal seal was branded onto the animals and left for dead in the forest." "Excellent, now that should send a message to those other animals. Good work, now you are all dismissed. Prepare for the ceremony." "Thank you, Anzashi-sama." Once the group filed out, the man stood up from his throne and the shadow that once cloaked his face vanished as light descended upon his face, revealing the mystery man's identity. The man was rather handsome, with shoulder-length blue hair, a round face and brown eyes. Standing above average height, the man was dressed in royal purple robes decorated with gems of every kind. A smirk found its way onto his lips as he continued to think of the news he had just received. This man was known as Anzashi Riku, the last member of the Riku family and descendant of Kazuki Riku, the one who had brought the Usagi together. Anzashi had similar view as his fellow Usagi, common belief among the Usagi based solely on blood, seeing it as sacred. Being the last member of the Riku family, his blood pure, possibly the purest of all, that alone placed him near the high end of the spectrum. Being seen as a member of the founder's family, expectations for him soared to new heights. That was not the only thing that soared. His ego, already large, seemed to swell when he was placed as an official among his people. How could he not? In a society that valued blood, his blood reigned supreme and thus secured his place among the upper class. Anzashi was cruel, there was no other way to put it. Though arrogant, his methods were brutal. Even among his people he was a cruel man. Being on to easily kill off an enemy and friend alike for personal gain, loyalty was questioned among his ranks. But due to the culture's value for pure blood, not one Usagi saw fault in his cruelty. Having blood ingrained into their minds as paramount, they were simply dogs following orders from their masters, no mind to think for themselves. Anzashi knew of the bitterness and resentment towards the Otsutsuki. How could he not? It was spoken of and taught to by the elders. Though Anzashi had a differing opinion of the Otsutsuki, it was not as pleasant. Majority of the Usagi saw the Otsutsuki as disgraces and merely beings that were defiling their blood. Anzashi and a few of his followers thought them as mere animals. Beasts without any real intelligence or sapience, lacking a guide to the world, whereas he was that guide. Feeling no need to destroy them, he wished to enslave them as they were far more valuable alive rather than dead. Not only were they powerful in their own right, but the women in the so-called clan were quite beautiful, like they were carved from marble. Such beauty would be tarnished if it held no purpose in the world. Believing himself to be the one to give such a clan purpose, he sent his men to brand their little scouting party to show his intentions to them as a whole. Naruto bit his lip in vexation as he continued to pummel the training dummy into tiny pieces of wood. When he was bothered or had much on his mind, he simply trained to release the built-up stress. In many situations, training cleared his mind a great deal. It was not odd for him to be found training. The pressure of being the son of Kaguya Otsutsuki weighed on his shoulders as many compared him to her in power, wisdom, leadership, and worth. At a young age he trained a majority of his life, and due to his lack of contact with others, his social skills were lacking a great deal. Being socially stunted, who was the one to fill in that gap, as the perverted and troublemaking monkey Yukai tended to bring out another side of the clan heir. Naruto did not know how to interact with individuals, so he was raised in a secluded environment due to multiple reasons, his status as clan heir playing a major role in his activities outside of the clan compound and also his clan's pride. The Otsutsuki clan held much pride in their status as the most powerful clan in the entire world. Holding such a title allowed their pride to grow, and soon they avoided any people that they deemed unworthy of making their young master's acquaintance. "You know, always beating that dummy up isn't going to solve anything," Hu said as he caught Naruto's attention and stopped him from continuing his senseless beating of the dummy. Naruto looked over at Hu and frowned slightly as he got out of his stance and looked over at his best friend. "Every time something big happens, I always find you destroying a practice dummy. I mean, come on, what have they done to you?" "It helps me lose my stress," Naruto replied simply as he got into his stance once more and readied himself to continue his training. Catching Hu frown slightly from the corner of his eye, he got out of his combat stance and returned his gaze to Hu. "What are you doing here anyways, Hu?" "Well, my friend, I shall teach you the greatest way to relieve stress," Hu said as looped his arm around the former blonde's neck and began guiding him away. Naruto frowned a bit but did not struggle as he allowed Hu to guide him to whatever he had planned. "Do not worry, my friend, once this night is over you shall be relived and enter the ranks of many alike." Naruto had no idea what he was talking about, but his mind still remained suspicious. No doubt Hu was planning something crazy and irrational again, but then again Hu was one of the few that eased his mind when situations like this weighed upon his mind. Looking at Hu once more, Naruto spoke. "Hu, where are we going?" "No need to worry, my friend. When the sun rises once more you will have seen the light. The glory that we shall see will be etched into your mind and you shall join our ranks. Hu shouted in enthusiasm as he began guiding Naruto away. His movements quickened as they headed out of the training grounds and towards the front of his clan's compound. Arriving there, a car was parked in front waiting for them. Hu guided him inside and the door closed behind them. Naruto noticed the other passengers inside the car. Seated inside was Toneri and Hu's right-hand man, Wu. Naruto gave them a questioning glacé but they replied with a shrug. Shrugging himself, Naruto got comfy as he waited for the car to move. It wasn't very long before the car pulled out of the clan compound and was on the busy streets of Kyoto. 20 minutes passed and they seemed to slow signifying their arrival. Hu tossed 2 blindfolds to the 2 Otsutsuki and they sent him a questioning look in return. Put them on, it is going to be the biggest surprise you ever had. Hu said with glee. Naruto and Toneri shared a look before putting the blindfolds on. They were tightened around their heads as they felt the car come to a halt and they were escorted out of the vehicle. Loud music and the cheers of men was audible as they were guided towards the noise. They were halted as the music and cheering seemed to be surrounding them and that was when Hu spoke. You can take the blindfold off now. Taking it off, Naruto's eyes blinked a few times adjusting to the light and he took in his surroundings. Men were all gathered around a stage with a metallic pole attached to the roof and women only in their underwear were dancing on stage as men cheered and tossed money at them. Naruto's eyebrow began twitching dangerously as an overly annoyed expression formed on his face and he spoke in a low and very dangerous tone. This is your surprise? Don't you love it? Now you will join our leagues, the League of Perverts, Hu exclaimed. Joy seemed to be leaking from his very words and actions. Hu quickly placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder guiding his best friend's view of the heavenly place and speaking in a blissful tone. Isn't it beautiful? The lights, the oppai, the women, the oppai, the joy. This is the definition of beauty and grace. You and I have very different definitions of beauty and grace then, Hu. Naruto replied, his tone calm and no emotion seemed to be present on his face. Turning towards his friend, Naruto lifted a fist and slammed it against his head, the twitch still present. I have to ask. What part did you think I would enjoy? That hurt. Hu grumbled as he clutched the top of his head in pain before quickly recovering and directed his finger at Toneri. Come on. Even Toneri likes it, and if your stoic brother likes it then what's stopping you from liking this beautiful work of art? True to his words, Toneri had a trail of blood escaping from his nose and a perverted grin plastered on his face. His eyes were glued onto the dancing women. Naruto just stared at him in disbelief and Hu had a beaming smile. Naruto. There is nothing stopping the perverseness in all males, you must accept it. Naruto was just staring at Toneri with disbelief still present on his face. Shock overcame his entire body as he kept staring and Hu was whispering words of encouragement for him to release his inner pervert. Words were lost to him until he was finally able to form sentences. Don't be foolish, I will not allow myself to fall to such a level. Hu, I am leaving. Come on. A bounty of oppai is there, join the League of Perverts. Hu shouted as he desperately tried to change his best friend's mind. Hu even has a name for his perverted group. Truly shocking. Toneri of all people was a pervert. Naruto thought in utter disbelief. Making his way outside and removing his friend's hold of his body, he walked out and soon a cool breeze swept by and brushed past his skin. Seeing the driver opening the door for him, Naruto motioned for him to stay as he took a walk. The night seemed nice enough for a stroll in the dark. It wasn't as if he was in any danger as not a single soul dared to attack him in fear of his clan's power. Walking through the dark streets of Kyoto, Naruto looked around his surroundings looking for something of interest. This was an entirely new experience for him, so it would be interesting to see what the night had to offer in the city of Kyoto. Much to his joy, only after 10 minutes of walking Naruto came across a ramen stand. Entering the establishment, Naruto ordered a large bowl of miso ramen. Rarely getting the chance to eat his beloved noodles, he would savor it. Though for this moment to occur he had been taken to a strip club and given an invitation to join a society of perverts. There was no normal day with Hu in his life, and he liked the craziness that his best friend brought into his life. No matter what, they would always be friends. That was how deep their bond was and how much loyalty they shared towards each other. Though at times Naruto wished Hu would lose his perverseness, something of that caliber were to occur, then the end of the world would soon follow. Naruto soon was staring at a large bowl of the heavenly noodles known as ramen and a rare joyous smile formed on his face as prepared to dig in. As soon as his chopsticks dug into the noodles, someone entered the ramen stand. Though normally Naruto did not care, his instincts went haywire as he stopped his action and readied himself for a fight. The energy signature was not a devil's nor a fallen angel's, so it only left one faction that would visit Japan at a time like this, angels. Placing his chopsticks down, Naruto turned to face the new arrival. His eyes widened slightly as he caught sight of who had entered the ramen stand. Standing before him was an extremely beautiful woman with curly blonde hair, a voluptuous figure garbed in a white dress that showed off her sizable bosom to the world. Racking his mind for a name, Naruto finally came to a conclusion of who the mystery woman was. What is a seraph doing here in Kyoto? Naruto asked in genuine curiosity. By all means, he was still on guard, and if the angel showed any signs of harm towards him, he would take action and deal with her accordingly. But as for now, he was truly curious to see what a high-ranking member of heaven would be doing in Tokyo and near his clan's territory, no less. Whichever way he looked at it, the seraph was suspicious. You must be Naruto-sama, the beautiful blonde angel said as she bowed towards the seated Hanyu. Naruto studied her for as she continued to hold the bow before righting herself and facing Naruto once more. Naruto tossed some bills onto the counter as he left his ramen untouched and made his way outside, before stopping as he turned to face the chef once more, and he cast a spell on the mortal. Having him know of the supernatural world's existence was a horrible idea. Humans, though weak, would be very annoying later on in the future if they found out that beings with unworldly powers lived alongside them without their knowledge of such. A disaster in the making if such information was leaked to the mortals. Nothing would end well for them, though humans were weak enough to be influenced by illusions, so such an issue would not be a major downside, but simply a downside nevertheless. The seraph seemed to follow Naruto out of the ramen stand. The two stood facing each other as Naruto decided to speak. Again, I ask, why are you here in Kyoto, Seraph Gabriel? I am glad you know who I am, Naruto-sama. The newly named Gabriel responded with a smile once more and decided to answer the question. I am here on behalf of heaven to try to solve the issue you and the Usagi Yukai now face without hostilities. You should have been here before they attacked my people. Naruto replied, voice now laced with a hint of anger. Gabriel did not seem to have been bothered by his tone as she kept smiling, but clearly she was not comfortable with what he had just said. Naruto stared at her for a few minutes in thought before speaking once more. Gabriel Dono, if you are truly here for peace talks, why seek me out when my mother is the head of the clan? The reason for this is simple, Naruto Dono. Gabriel began as she continued to smile at him. Naruto narrowed his eyes, and the growing suspicion in his mind was not going away as she continued to smile before speaking. You, Naruto Dono, are different from the rest of your clan. You are not blinded by hatred and bloodlust as they are now. You are able to think rationally at the moment and have been trying to stop the war before it could escalate to a new level. Naruto kept his surprise hidden as his physical features stayed the same, but inside he was quite surprised that a faction was able to gather that much information on him. Either he was getting arrogant or heaven was quite skilled in that department. Both were not pleasant to him. Deciding to ignore that for now, Naruto gave her a calculative look as he abandoned his previous thoughts in favor of thinking of her words she had spoken. And what do you believe you could accomplish if you spoke with me about this particular subject? And on top of that, what does heaven gain if they stop this upcoming war?
Gabriel's response came as soon as the last word escaped his mouth. Naruto Dono, heaven does not wish for innocence in the crossfire, so we will help in preventing the war from escalating and turning Japan into a war zone.
Naruto's mind raced as she spoke those words. Japan was a major factor in their intervention or indirect intervention. The only thing that would seem to force them to take action would be the people. Nothing else upon the island nation would really benefit or hurt the angel faction in any way except the people. That must have been the reason Gabriel was here for peace talks. Naruto knew the angel faction were most likely ones to protect the innocents rather than fallen angels and devils, but they were also weakened like the other two factions. Though they were the most likely to help the innocents, they were not free from their demons either. The Holy Sword Project was a dark spot in their past, and that was a few of the examples of what they had done. Even if it was only a few members of the church that had taken part of the project, the angel faction was blamed for it nonetheless. The people. Naruto spoke as he came to a conclusion. Looking over at Gabriel, Naruto saw that she shifted a bit and confirmed his assumption. That is the reason you are trying to prevent this upcoming war. You do not wish for your worshippers to get caught in the crossfire. Not the common people, merely your followers. Gabriel did not answer immediately as her happy smile shifted into a sad one, and she replied slowly, yes. Michael does not wish for our followers to be hurt in the crossfire. It saddens me that we are not doing it for the innocents that would be caught in the battles as well. Very well then. Naruto said, catching her attention, you have an hour. 1 hour to say what you have to say before I do as I desire. Thank you, Naruto Dono. Gabriel replied with a smile as Naruto gave her a nod in acknowledgement. Follow me please, Naruto Dono. We shall begin this meeting immediately. Lead the way. Naruto replied with another nod as Gabriel began guiding him away from the ramen stand. It was rather foolish to allow an enemy to guide him away, but he was never one to pass up an opportunity for his own gain, and if worse came to worse he would be able to fend for himself. It wasn't like they were smart enough to attack him. Even if angels were planning on attacking him, he did have a trump card that few people have faced in the world. Naruto was looking over the files that Toneri had found during their raid against the Usagi. They held very useful information containing information about some of the Usagi's bases around Kyoto and Tokyo, but the information that he prized among all of it was the date of the new head of the Usagi Yukai's coronation. Among others, it was what Naruto believed the key to ending a war. Striking the enemy while they were celebrating would decrease morale drastically. Not only that, but the amount of casualties if the attack was successful would favor the attackers. At the moment, Naruto had a mixture of emotions building in his chest. He felt as if he was at war against himself. One side of him wanted to simply crush the Usagi Yukai for what they had done to his clan and end the war before it even began. Then his other half wished for what Ophis had desired, silence. Looking at the history of supernatural groups and humans alike, war was frequent among both, and though the next generation was supposed to surpass the elder generation and learn from their mistakes, wars did not end. It was like a need for humans and supernatural beings alike to simply shed unnecessary blood to quench the bloodlust hidden among all. His brother had attempted to bring peace to the people residing in the other world, but it ended like every other attempt for peace, failure. Nothing could last against the river of time. Whatever was built could not withstand the might of time. Everything would crumble to dust eventually. No matter who or what built it, nothing lasted. Naruto did not understand why. Why did people try to create something that would not last? It was pointless in the long run. Every failed attempt sparked another. Naruto himself was confused about the decisions of many who would try and change the world for the better, but eventually not only time but simple desire would destroy whatever was created. Humans and supernatural beings alike held one thing in common: greed. Desire ran through the blood of all living creatures. It was a flaw in all living were born with, yet the flaw was what allowed them to thrive. That desire to become something more was what built the foundations that Naruto now lived upon, yet that desire was what caused the pain and suffering the lives of all endured once in their short lives. It was like a cycle which drove men and women alike to success or failure, destruction or salvation. It all depended on how much one desired for the success of his or her dream. That fell well with his situation now. He desired for his clan's salvation, but also the ones closest to him, protection. With one against him, he could not help but feel helpless to do what was necessary, though he was raised for it. His desire to protect was great. His mother had raised him to protect his home and family among all. Nothing was to stop him in his path to protect that, yet the connections and relationships he had made with others had taken a place among his heart. Now he had to choose. It was either family or friend, and his choice would affect the outcome of the situation they were in. Family was not an important thing to him, it was his everything. He had a role to fill. As the heir of his clan and future head, he would need to do what he should have done long ago: declare war upon the Usagi. His actions had caused the injury and shame upon members of his family, and now it was time for him to rectify for his actions. "Are they all gathered, Who?" Naruto asked as he studied the map laid out before him. Toneri and Who both stood beside him ready for his commands. Who simply nodded in reply as his eyes drifted to the map and spoke, "Yes, all the members you have asked for are here, and my men are here as well." "Good. Toneri, does Ka-chan know of our actions?" Naruto directed his question to his surrogate brother, who shook his head in negative. "No, Kaguya-sama does not know of our actions." Toneri responded verbally as he thought of it once more and spoke. "Naruto-Nisan, why did you keep this operation unknown from Kaguya-sama? We are no longer acting on our own accord and are working with the clan now, not individually, so why?" "Toneri, Ka-chan must not know of our operations yet." Naruto responded, not removing his gaze from the map, and spoke. "Ka-chan does not have to get her hands dirty anymore. This should have been done sooner than now. It was my mistake on allowing them the chance to strike against our family. Now I am going to fix this mess. Besides, I can't rely on Ka-chan forever. I have to take command of the clan eventually." Toneri nodded to his reasons and decided to stay silent as he allowed his surrogate brother to continue studying and planning the strike. Who mimicked his actions and decided to focus on his part of the operation. His men were stealthier than the Otsutsuki clan members, so they were in charge of infiltration, while Toneri led a portion of the branch family as scouts. Naruto was in charge of the body of the forces. His focus was to strike the important figures and attempt to assassinate the next head. Anzashi was garbed in a beautiful white kimono with his eyebrows now cut short and stood before a sea of faces. The ones present in the crowd ranged from supporters to nobles of the Usagi Yukai. Many from the alliance that had formed were present as well. Yasaka the nine-tailed fox stood there dressed in a golden kimono with flowers decorating it. Other leaders of the Yukai aligned with them were present as well. Though Anzashi did not bother to learn their names, Yasaka seemed to stand out among the others. Waiting for the elder to begin the ceremony, Anzashi licked his lips in anticipation. He was only a few minutes away from taking command of the Usagi Yukai and finally having the power to declare war against the Otsutsuki. Anzashi Riku. One of the elders spoke. His voice boomed across the hall, silencing all conversation and gained attention of all. We the Usagi Yukai see you as fit to become our next head. For your acts of bravery and courage against our enemies, amazing powers in combat, and most noble of blood among us all, we the Elder Council see you fit to lead. Will you Anzashi Riku take leadership among your kin and lead us into glory and prosperity? I do. Anzashi replied with bated anticipation as he saw the elder lift the head ornament and it hovered above his head as the ceremony came to an end. Then by the power granted by the Elder Council, Anzashi Riku stand up once more and become our six. Before the elder could finish his sentence, the large golden double doors acting as an entrance to the great hall were knocked out of their hinges and sent flying towards the crowd. The doors were knocked away by a furious Anzashi as he glared at the area where the doors should have been. Entering from the newly made hole in the wall was Naruto Otsutsuki himself, garbed in his traditional Otsutsuki clan kimono. Ah, I see you were about to start. Naruto commented as if the previous action had not occurred and smiled at the gathered nobles and supports of the Usagi Yukai alike. Seeing the one who was about to be named the next head, Naruto hid his amusement and spread his arms out in an inviting gesture. I have to congratulate you. Today let this day go down in history. On this day gave birth to the leader with the shortest reign, and the destruction of the Usagi Yukai. Bring me his head, Anzashi screamed, his face and tone filled with fury. Directing his finger at Naruto, Anzashi glared at him. His look was filled with so much hatred that it seemed as if he was the embodiment of hatred. Men charged towards Naruto with weapons raised and ready to remove his head from his body. Before they could even reach him, Kanji appeared in front of them and stopped them from moving and held them in place. Confusion rose among the ranks and crowd watching, but the unasked question is answered when a group of men dressed in traditional Otsutsuki clothing rushed into the room and surrounded Naruto and formed a protective stance around him, shielding him from any possible harm. Don't allow these animals to touch Naruto-sama, one of the unnamed Otsutsuki clan members shouted as he brought attention upon himself, and the rest of the clan members readied themselves and prepared to defend their next patriarch from any harm that would come to him. Kill those half-blood disgraces. One guard shouted as his blade was raised, and his men followed his example, and they shouted with excitement laced in their voices. Charging forward, Naruto's men followed their example, and soon two forces clashed and weapons and attacks were exchanged, resulting in damages between both forces, though it was clear the Otsutsuki were more skilled and powerful as they were pushing back the Usagi with ease. The clash resulted in chaos among all individuals present in the ceremonial hall. Naruto stood there protected by his personal guards as they kept enemies from touching him as he watched the chaos unfold. Naruto lifted his head and he made eye contact with Anzashi, and the two stared at each other. A silent message passed. Naruto narrowed his eyes and waved his hand, commanding his guards to participate in the battle and assist their kinsman. Rushing forward, Naruto hopped into the air and landed in between a group of enemies. They tried to attack him, but before they could even land a blow or even touch him, they were taken down by his kinsmen, keeping them from making contact with him. Anzashi ignored the elder's shouts of rage as he rushed forward to meet Naruto in combat. Having his ceremony ruined, he was now enraged by the blonde, and he would have his blood for doing such a thing. Though angry that his men allowed the invitation to fall in enemy hands, it was nothing compared to the rage he felt towards Naruto and his men that crashed his ceremony. I will make you regret ruining my ceremony. Otsutsuki blood will paint the floor where you stand, Anzashi thought with glee as he charged forward. Otsutsuki! Anzashi shouted as he sent his fist forward, hoping to land a blow on Naruto. Usagi! Naruto responded, his voice no different from his enemies. Sending a punch to meet Anzashi's, Naruto clashed his against his enemies. The clash held and they pushed for dominance, neither side seemingly giving up upon the struggle. Naruto saw Anzashi's attempt on landing a hit on him with his free hand, but Naruto raised his free hand and blocked the incoming punch. Naruto sent his head forward in hopes of headbutting Anzashi. Both of them seemed to have the same idea as they both sent their heads forward. Foreheads clashed and they sent each other glares and looks of hatred. A trail of blood leaked down from the spot where their heads clashed, and they held that position for a little longer before Naruto released both his hands and allowed Anzashi's fist to fly by him as he leaned his head to the side. Sending a chakra-powered kick towards Anzashi, Naruto held the advantage and sent him flying back. Utilizing this opportunity, Naruto went through a series of hand seals and needed chakra in his lungs to form fire chakra. Fire release. Fire dragon flame bullet. Once he felt the familiar feeling of fire chakra coating his lungs, Naruto expelled a massive stream of fire that took on the shape of a traditional serpentine dragon, and it shot forward, aiming for Anzashi, who had recovered from the kick Naruto had sent him earlier. Anzashi lifted his arm and channeled his magic through it, and a purple magic formed before his hand and a blast of light purple energy shot out from the magic circle. Both attacks clashed and soon a small explosion accompanied once the attacks clashed and a smokescreen obscured all of their views of each other. Naruto did not let this chance go to waste as he rushed forward and allowed the smoke to cloak him as he vanished and expanded his sensory abilities to their maximum range and scanned for his opponent. Though he hardly trained with his sensory abilities, he could still use it at its fullest even if he was not as skilled as others. Locating Anzashi, Naruto rushed towards his position and began forming hand seals along the way. He was going to enjoy making Anzashi suffer for what he had done to his kinsman. Coating his arm with chakra, Naruto changed it into lightning chakra as he willed the lightning forward. Once it shot forward, it shaped itself into the form of a spear. With the sheer speed behind his attack, lightning was fast, true enough, but with Naruto boosting it with increased chakra, it was incredibly hard to dodge. The technique he was using was called lightning release. False darkness. The technique was supposed to emit lightning from the user's mouth, but Naruto had managed to alter it to emit from his arm instead. This technique added both power and speed together for a very destructive lightning attack. Normally it could easily destroy a boulder without an issue and most likely kill anyone who was foolish enough to allow it to hit a vital organ. Anzashi was not foolish, however, as he brought both of his hands forward and a magic circle soon formed in front of his hands. Channeling his magic through it, an enormous beam of magical energy shot from his magic circle and shot in the general direction of where Naruto had fired his spear of lightning. Due to the sheer power behind his attack, Anzashi had blasted a hole in the smokescreen, allowing him sight of the outside and Naruto a clear sight of him. Earth release. Devouring Earth was what Naruto had set out to use as he channeled his chakra into the earth below him. Enormous jaws made of earth and soil formed below Anzashi. Once they fully formed, the jaws closed and devoured Anzashi in a single bite. Naruto stood there, not losing his guard, as he sensed the earth below him shake, and Anzashi escaped from his technique and shot multiple magical spears towards him. Not even allowing Anzashi's attack to move any further, Naruto formed the Tiger Hand Seal and spat out a massive fireball that could be easily compared to a horse. Fire exploded in various directions as their attacks clashed once more. Anzashi pushed past the flames and directed his punch at Naruto, who easily dodged, and they were engaged in hand-to-hand combat once more. Ducking under a kick, Naruto grabbed hold of it and planted his feet onto the ground and added chakra to his legs and arms as he tossed Anzashi away. Anzashi did not let up as he sent a magical beam towards Naruto, who narrowed his eyes in annoyance and spewed out a torrent of fire from his mouth. Like their previous attacks, they ended with a tie. Neither side won out in the confrontations, much to both Naruto and Anzashi's annoyance. "Looks like we're even," Anzashi commented as he settled onto the ground once more and stared at his enemy with a hint of respect building his chest for this animal standing before him. It astounded him such an animal could keep up with him. Anzashi Riku, most noble of blood and highest standing in Usagi hierarchy, and now it was going to be very enjoyable to beat this animal into submission. "That's what you think," Naruto responded with a smirk on his face as he prepared to enter Sage Mode. Though he knew he could beat Anzashi without boost from his Sage Mode, he wanted to put this arrogant fool in his place and also get some revenge for his injured kinsman. This extra boost in power would allow him to wipe that arrogance right off, and best of all, it would easily allow him to win this fight without that annoying Anzashi to counter his attacks. "But you must understand, foolish Usagi, we are not even in power or status. You are merely an arrogant fool who has led an entire race of egoistic simpletons who have no standing in this world, yet you and your people believe you are above everyone else. Such arrogance. It seems I was correct. You animals cannot hold any sort of civil conversation without lashing out at your betters. You Otsutsuki are truly animals. No matter, we shall guide you. No longer will you roam this world without purpose. After all, what animals don't listen to their masters?" Anzashi replied with a crazed grin sporting his face as he got into a loose stance and stared at his opponent. "Then let us begin then," Naruto responded as he felt the familiar sensation of natural energy fill his body and combine with his other sources of energy. Though he showed no physical changes, his Sage Mode was not flashy like others that were taught by animal summons who adopted traits of their respective summons. His Sage Mode, though, did not change his physical appearance, but it did change his durability to an astounding degree, and also combining natural energy with his chakra-powered attacks simply boosted them to levels that outclassed what he had now. Rushing forward with speeds that Anzashi did not expect him to possess, he sent a punch at him, and with the boost it succeeded and Anzashi was sent flying back. Before he could even recover, Naruto was on the move. Approaching Anzashi before he could get up from his previous attack, Naruto directed a kick at him, but Anzashi was lucky enough to roll to the right, avoiding the kick. Anzashi wasted no time as he quickly got onto his feet and sent a kick at Naruto, who blocked it with his right arm and punched him in the stomach with his left arm. Stumbling back again, Anzashi placed his arms together and a massive ray of purple magic shot towards Naruto, who did not even make an attempt to block it. An explosion followed once the beam made contact and dust was blown into the air, keeping his view of Naruto or whatever was left of him out of sight. Once the dust settled, Naruto was visible to him once more, but his body intact, and worst of all, he was annoyed. Yasaka and the rest of the representatives of other Yukai groups watched as the Usagi and Otsutsuki fought, none of them helping either side. They were all debating which side to help. They all could assist the Usagi due to their signed alliance, but then if they did that, the Otsutsuki clan would consider them enemies, and if that were to happen, they feared for their very lives. And if they helped the Otsutsuki clan, the Usagi would consider them enemies and annul the alliance that they had set in place. Yasaka was in a similar state. She was debating against helping a friend and doing what was best for her people. True, against the Otsutsuki they would surely lose and major losses would come upon her people, but if she went against the Usagi they would lose face among the other supernatural groups as two-faced. That alone could put them in a major bind later on in the future. Both options were damaging to her people, and Yasaka did not want to make this decision. Stealing her heart, Yasaka stood up from her seat and walked towards the fighting taking place a little distance from her and the other representatives. Walking forward, she sent a wave of fox fire towards some Otsutsuki clan members. The sudden attack surprised them, but they countered it with seals, and her flames were gone in seconds as soon as they made contact with them. A pained expression formed on Yasaka's face as she sent another massive wave of fire towards them. They responded with a flurry of sealing tags and retreated from the spot. Though she had steeled her heart, she was still full of doubts from her decision to fight against Naruto and his clan and for the Usagi. That was all the Otsutsuki clan needed to know. She was now officially their enemy. With that, she knew that Kaguya would not hold back against her now. The only reason she could live to this day was because of Naruto. Now that she was officially declared an enemy, Kaguya had an plausible excuse to kill her, and Naruto would not protect her now. She knew he was loyal to the ones precious to him, but she had betrayed that, and now she was going to have to face the wrath of his entire clan. There was no turning back now. For her people she would fight against her friend, and Naruto would now respond with full force. Though she was willing to now face him in combat, she was still no match for him. Yasaka scanned the battlefield and spotted Naruto engaging Anzashi in hand-to-hand combat, and it was clear who was dominating the fight. Naruto did not seem to even allow Anzashi a chance to strike him. Naruto was fighting without much restraint, knowing that Anzashi was the one who had ordered his clan to be branded and that seemingly brought forth Naruto's wrath. From what Yasaka had seen, even if it was minimum, Naruto was ruthless to ones who were no considered family or comrade. And now she had turned her back on him. Yasaka was nervous to face him for two reasons. One was simply fear of what Naruto would do to her once he found out, and she was reluctant to see how he would react. It was painful to think about it. To think about attacking a friend who held her close to his heart was never a pleasant feeling. Knowing it was not going to end well if she just stood there thinking about her situation, Yasaka rushed forward and sent a wave of fox fire towards Naruto, who was busy beating Anzashi to the ground. Nothing stood in his way now. Naruto stood before the beaten form of Anzashi. Holding his fist just a little ways above his head, Naruto prepared to end this thing once and for all, but his senses went haywire and he dropped Anzashi and turned towards the general direction his senses had detected danger. Spotting a wave of white fire aimed straight for him, Naruto narrowed his eyes and held his place. He was very confident that his enhanced form could survive the fire, but decided it would be best to dodge. Though he had a sinking feeling about where the flames originated from, even if he did not wish to believe it, the facts were placed before him and he could not deny them. Once the flames vanished from the battlefield, Naruto caught sight of someone who he did not wish to fight against. Approaching him and Anzashi was Yasaka herself, dressed in her ceremonial kimono and a nervous expression worn on her face. Naruto-kun. Yasaka murmured with a frown on her face as she saw Naruto's slightly shocked expression shift to one of indifference. Yasaka could see the pain that was shown from his eyes. It really pained her heart seeing that pain in Naruto's eyes, but that mask of cold indifference added to the pain she already felt in her heart. Yasaka. Naruto responded, his tone not betraying his outer expression. Yasaka seemed to flinch at his tone, but she kept strong and stood there beside the weakened Anzashi, who was recovering from the ruthlessness that Naruto had shown him in their previous conflict. The two former friends just stared at each other, both with various emotions building in their hearts. It seems you really are helping them. I was clutching onto that small chance of you staying neutral, but it seems my wishes were not answered. I'm sorry, Naruto-kun, but I can't abandon them. If I do, then the Kyoto branch will... Yasaka tried to explain her reasoning, but it would have fallen onto deaf ears, but Naruto did not even allow her to finish. Enough. I have heard enough, Yasaka. Naruto's voice cut her off from continuing further, and she looked at him with the same conflicted expression she wore before. Prepare yourself, Yusaka. I will not hold back. Naruto charged forward, not giving Yusaka to respond. Bringing his fist forward, Yusaka quickly jumped backwards, avoiding his punch. Naruto did not stop there as multiple clones rose from the earth and charged Yusaka. The sudden number of clones allowed them to surprise Yusaka as she avoided blow after blow. Though Yusaka was successful so far on avoiding the punches and kicks sent her way, she could not last any longer as Yusaka felt pain explode from her gut and her eyes widened when she caught sight of a clone's outstretched arm in front of her. Grunting in pain, Yusaka quickly jumped into the air and a massive magic circle appeared in front of her, and soon she released a torrent of flames down at the gathered clones. That attempt was a success, but the result of it was not known yet. Yusaka watched on with bated breath as she was waiting for the fire to die out and give her a view of what had happened to Naruto and his clones. Once the fire died down, Yusaka caught sight of multiple Naruto clones rushing towards her with Rasengans in hand. Though she had little to no experience against such a technique, she had witnessed its destructive capabilities during one of the spars Naruto was present in, and she was not dumb enough to allow so many to touch her. A single hit was all it took for that technique to deliver a devastating strike to the enemy, and without a single thing to counter it, Yusaka needed to avoid close quarters against Naruto. Being a mid-range fighter, she could fight long-range, but in close range she was vulnerable to attacks like the Rasengan. Jumping away, Yusaka narrowly dodged the blue spiraling blue sphere and continued to dodge further attacks sent her way. She knew Naruto was not using his full force against her, and that was something to be thankful for, even though she was insulted that he did not use his full power against her. Then again, Naruto hardly used anything other than his chakra-powered attacks and in some special occasions, his Sage mode, which outclassed her and just about everyone else in her range of power and skill. Even if she did not want to admit it, Yusaka knew she was one of the weakest among the leaders of the Ukai supernatural groups, and Naruto being one of the strongest to ever walk the earth, she was in a major disadvantage. Nothing could prepare her to face Naruto Otsutsuki in combat. Even if he was not fighting with his full strength, his capabilities were unknown to her, and that frightened her to no end. But she could not dodge fast enough as a sphere made of chakra slammed into her gut and sent her flying backwards. Pain erupted from the area where she had been hit, and it was not something that she could shake off either. Yusaka had sparred with Naruto before, but he had never been so brutal in their spars. But now here he was going in for the kill. That was what it felt like. Fighting him when Naruto was holding back a majority of his power was easy. She did not feel threatened, but now when he was not even allowing her a chance to attack, Yusaka felt her life in danger. Nothing could prepare her for Naruto's next move as he sent a wave of fire towards Yusaka, who sent her very own fire to counter Naruto's. Both forces clashed and fought for dominance. Neither seemed to have won in the confrontation, but it did allow Naruto knock Yusaka back onto the ground. Looking down on her, Naruto held no emotions on his visage. Yusaka could not meet his gaze as she laid there in defeat. "You have nothing to say?" Naruto asked as he continued to look down at her without his visage changing in the slightest. "You are not going to beg for mercy or your life?" "Naruto-kun, you are a good friend," Yusaka replied with a sad smile on her face as she finally had enough courage to meet his gaze. They looked into each other's eyes as no words were spoken. "But I will not beg for my life. I will continue to support the Usagi whether you like it or not." "How are you going to support them when I am clearly the winner in our little spar?" Naruto questioned once more with narrowed eyes. He had a hunch on what she was talking about, but he did not pursue it. For now he would simply see what she had to say. He had steeled his heart for this confrontation, and he had fought Yusaka. Though he did not take her life, it was still an option that he had available. "True, you are the winner of this spar, but I won't give up like this, Naruto-kun," Yusaka replied as she channeled her magic all around her and forced it onto the ground. Once she sent enough, Naruto had already sensed her movements and jumped back to avoid the column of fire that erupted all around her body. Naruto cursed himself for his slight arrogance, and he looked around to spot her, but his eyes narrowed and he moved to the side, avoiding a beam of magical energy from Onzashi. Naruto's eyes shifted towards the area where the attack had originated, and he retaliated with his lightning release, electromagnetic murder. This was enough. Naruto had had enough of this. It was time to end this extended battle once and for all. Rushing forward in speeds that Onzashi could not track, Naruto appeared in front of him and sent a punch towards his gut and followed up with an uppercut before ending his attack with a kick. Not allowing Onzashi to get up, Naruto was already on him. Needing chakra in his lungs, Naruto spat out a wave of fire towards Onzashi, who was barely getting up, and added more chakra than he had ever before. Avoiding the flames, Onzashi was able to successfully from the roaring fire, but he was not able to dodge Naruto's next attack. Odama Rasengan was Naruto's next stage of his regular Rasengan, being a powerful attack that doubled in size of his regular one and simply doubled in power as well. Being roughly the size of a basketball, it was very powerful. If it hit in a specific area of the body, it could easily kill a man. Slamming his attack against Onzashi's chest, Naruto drove his enemy down onto the ground, and a plume of smoke surrounded them when they made contact with the ground. Once the dust settled, and the two were visible once more, Naruto stood before Onzashi with a Rasengan in hand. "Goodbye, Onzashi Riku," Naruto said as he sent his arm forward in an attempt for the Usagi's life. Yasaka's eyes widened when she saw the position her former friend and ally was in. She did not have time to think as she pushed herself in front of Onzashi in hopes of protecting him. Hoping to utilize Naruto's protectiveness over his friends, she prayed to whatever deity that would listen to her and help as she stood there looking at the incoming sphere of blue chakra with wide eyes filled with fear. Much to her relief, it stopped just a centimeter away from her body. Naruto looked down at her with rage and confusion adorning his face, his mask of indifference gone. Not a single word was spoken as they stared at each other, different emotions in both gazes. Onzashi took this time to channel all of his remaining magic into his final attack. This attack was different from his others. Yasaka had told him of their senjutsu, and so he had made an attack just for senjutsu users. That attack was like his others' attacks, beams of magical energy, but it had other properties. It added with a good portion of yang energy. With extra properties of yang energy, it allowed the beam to penetrate harder physical surfaces, even if it was reinforced. Jumping back when he sensed the magic charging, Naruto's eyes widened when he saw a dark purple beam of energy towards him. The density of that beam of magical energy was great, and it could easily kill multiple men, and Naruto did not know if his defenses would hold up against the attack. Before he even do anything to deal with the approaching issue, Hu appeared before and shoved Naruto out of the way, allowing himself to take on the attack head-on. Naruto could not help but watch in horror as the beam of magical energy shot right through Hu's chest and his best friend collapsed onto the ground. Everything else was lost to him as he focused on his fallen friend. Naruto could only stare, his entire body frozen by shock. Getting up slowly, Naruto walked over to Hu and crouched down to his friend, and he placed a shaky hand over the wound left by Onzashi's attack. Lifting his hand, Naruto spotted the blood seeping from the wound and he stopped moving. His mind had shut down. What had happened kept replaying in his mind, over and over again, until a single emotion took control both his body and mind. Standing up slowly, his hair had shadowed his face, not allowing anyone to view his visage. "Naruto-kun?" Yasaka asked, nervousness and fear lacing her voice. "Who is he? Don't you dare say his name!" Naruto screamed, his voice filled with rage and hatred. The shadow that had hidden his face vanished as he glared at Yasaka and Onzashi with pure hatred. No longer were his eyes blue, they were now shifted into the Rinnegan. Shinra Tensei, heavenly subjugation of the omnipresent god. Naruto raised his hand and an invisible force shoved both Yasaka and Onzashi backwards, though unlike his previous attacks this one outclassed them by far. Not only did it shove them back, but it also tore the earth apart as where they once occupied as well. Yasaka and Onzashi both felt pain from all over their body as they landed roughly against the ground. Not only was there pain all over their body but his head as well. Head ringing. Yasaka tried to stand up, but the pain from her head restricted her movements and she stared up at the approaching figure with blurry eyes. Naruto had already sent for his clansmen to retrieve the wounded and get them out of the area, as he was now releasing all of his powers. Not wanting any of his cared ones to be caught in the crossfire, he now had free reign with his powers. His first use of Shinra Tensei was weak and now it had already been 5 seconds, so he could freely use it now. Shinra Tensei. Naruto added more chakra to his attack this time. His previous attack was weak, but this one's range covered the entire building. The massive wave of gravitational force blasted the entire building into rubble and sent said rubble into various directions. Nothing was left standing after his attack. People inside of the building was unknown. But they could not fool him. He not only could sense their life force and energy, but his eyes caught sight of them as well. Chibaku Tensei, heavenly body bursting from the earth. Naruto clapped his hands together and the rubble and earth rose from the ground and clashed together, forming enormous satellite-like constructs. The ones that were still alive from his previous attack could only stare in shock at the massive constructs floating above them, threatening to crush them in a minute's notice. "Die for me!" Naruto yelled at no one in particular as he willed the massive constructs floating above him to fall. Crashing into the earth, they caused massive craters to form in their wake, and not only that but dust rose into the sky, clouding the survivor's vision of Naruto, who stood there in the middle of the chaos with a rage-filled face. After a while, the dust settled and Naruto could finally see his surroundings. The enormous satellite-like constructs that he had created ravaged the land they were set loose upon, and massive spheres made of earth decorated the once beautiful mountainous area. It was amazing that someone could survive that, and Naruto could now see who that was, though he had an idea already. Walking towards the faint energy source not too far from his position, Naruto spotted the battered form of Anzashi. Laying there in a pool of his own blood with dust covering most of his body, Naruto almost felt bad for the guy, but he buried those emotions down as he reminded himself it was that man who had injured his friend. Looking down at Anzashi, Naruto did not say another word as his eyes held a cold edge to them as Naruto reached into his robes and pulled out a kunai that he kept along with his sealing supplies. In a swift motion, Naruto sliced the dying man's throat, ending his life without a sudden thought. Looking down at his handiwork, Naruto felt the anger drain from him seeing his enemy's dead body. Now he felt no anger in his body nor mind as a new feeling seemed to wash into his system. Naruto was tired. The battle had taken an emotional and mental toll on him, taxing him during the entire battle against Yasaka. "I know you are still alive, Yasaka. Show yourself," Naruto said as his tired eyes studied the destroyed battlefield all around him. Yasaka had indeed survived, though how she did not know. It may have been dumb luck that saved her, but she stood a little ways away from Naruto. Sensing her unease, Naruto decided it would be best to deal with her now and spoke. "Yasaka, you betrayed my friendship. And because of that who was injured, though it was partially my fault, you still allowed this to happen to him. I will not forgive you, Yasaka, but I will not kill you either. Do make this clear that it is not for our dead friendship, it is for Kuno. I do not wish for her to grow up without a mother, but remember this well, Yasaka. For what happened to Who, I will forever." War was a horrible thing. Death and famine followed after every clash. Hatred was bred on the battlefield as enemies fought against each other for their own selfish reasons. Neither side won in the end. The death of comrades would take a toll among everyone present in the war. Not only emotional but physical pain was inflicted as well. In the end, a war could change anyone, and Naruto was no different. Having witnessed his closest friend injured for his own foolish mistakes, Naruto's virtuous acts had come back to haunt him. Now the heir swore to himself that he would never allow harm to befall his precious people anymore. He would vanquish everything that threatened their safety. Nothing would stand in his way. Naruto was currently sitting outside the emergency room brooding over the events that had occurred not too long ago. Toneri sat to his right and his surrogate brother held the same dark look on his face. The two had been there since Hu had been sent into the room. Neither of them spoke a word since Hu's entry, and both were having similar thoughts. Naruto could not stand it to see such a good friend of his hurt and much less fighting for his life. It pained him to see Hu in such a condition, and what hurt the most was that Yasaka had been involved. Though it wasn't common knowledge, Naruto was quite fond of Yasaka. In Naruto's mind, it was that weakness that had made him hesitate in battle. It was also the same weakness that was the mainspring of his friend's injury. Toneri was lost in his very own thoughts as he was too reflecting on the previous actions from before. Though he and Hu did not see eye to eye at times, he, like his brother, was quite fond of the perverted fool. Toneri and Hu did not have the best relationships, and the only reason they did not kill each other was because of Naruto. For the blonde, they had tolerated each other since their first encounter, and over time they had befriended one another. Now seeing his newly made friend was left in a horrible condition, it saddened him to see Hu in such a condition. "Ni-san, why did you let Yasaka live?" Toneri asked with a frown adorning his face. Naruto was silent as his eyes still held that saddened look. Toneri waited patiently for his surrogate brother to answer. No matter what happened, Naruto always seemed to have a reason for his actions, and Toneri learned to never doubt him. "I don't see how letting her live could be beneficial. She played a part in this," Toneri shouted in rage. "Toneri. Truthfully, I don't know why," Naruto answered in a tone lacking emotion. Naruto, like his words had said, he did not really know why he did not end Yasaka there. It was the perfect chance to have killed Yasaka, but he had let that chance slip away from his grasp. "Why?" Toneri asked in a pained voice. Naruto too wondered the same question. Why did he allow her a second chance was beyond him. The only explanation for his irrational actions would have been his fondness for Yasaka. That emotion had been a factor of his decision. Naruto knew that it was the best decision to kill Yasaka, yet his emotions had overruled his logic and reason. The only way to do such an act was simply have someone else do it for him. "Toneri, I may have not been able to kill Yasaka because of my emotions towards her, but I will not allow that to persuade in my decisions as a leader anymore," Naruto said in a detached tone. Toneri was quite surprised by his surrogate brother's words, but nonetheless he nodded his head in acceptance. Naruto spoke once more, but this time, his damaged tone vanished, leaving behind a passionless tone. "Toneri, I hope you would never have to fight a loved one." Kaguya Otsutsuki was considered a goddess, a benevolent woman of great beauty that possessed divine power. She had sired 2 sons before her third son. Both had an active role in their clan's history and would have caused the Otsutsuki clan's downfall if she had not awakened from her slumber. Her third son was a success thus far. he had been able to carry out acts that would bring pride to the clan. All three of her sons all held strong emotional attachments to others that would later bring pain and suffering to them. Kaguya had not been there for her previous two sons, but now she had opportunity to help her third son. Watching her son suffer pained her. For any mother, seeing their children suffer was heartbreaking to them. Approaching her son, she gently placed a hand on his shoulder and caught his attention. Once she looked into his eyes, she spoke in a gentle tone, "Naruto-kun, do not worry. I will make sure who will survive." "Thank you, Ka-chan." Naruto replied with a smile, but the happiness that he had expressed in his words never reached his eyes. "Ka-chan, I failed to protect him. I hesitated, and who paid for my mistake? How can I lead a clan if I can't even attack a single person?" Kaguya didn't respond right away as she brought her son into a hug and brought him close. He was hurting right now, and all she would do whatever she could to comfort him. Though she did not speak at all, Naruto did seem to calm down, even if it was at the slightest. A mixture of emotions seemed to be felt by Naruto as he continued to think in his mother's arms. Her actions had surprised him to a certain degree, but he brushed it off as motherly love and continued to think. Suddenly a thought entered his mind and he decided to speak his mind. "Ka-chan, I want to ask you something." "What is it?" Kaguya asked as she and Naruto broke their embrace, and she looked at him with a curious look on her face. "I want more training." Naruto answered simply. Kaguya seemed surprised by this question. How could she not? Naruto had broke off from her training years ago and was simply training himself. The only time she had a role in his training was during his young age and when he unlocked his Rinnegan. Other than that, he preferred to train himself. "Naruto-kun, as your mother I will always help you, but I have to ask, why now?" Kaguya questioned her son. Though she knew the answer already, it helped if Naruto confirmed her answer instead of assuming it. Naruto was silent at first, but he found his words and spoke. "The true powers of the Rinnegan. Ka-chan, I got the Rinnegan from you so you would know all about it. I have only mastered 2 of the 6 paths and I need help with the other 4. Your brother was the expert on the Rinnegan." Kaguya replied with a frown marred her beautiful face. Whenever his elder brothers were mentioned in any conversation, Kaguya's mood always seemed to dampen no matter what circumstance. And this time seemed no different as Naruto waited for his answer. Kaguya had truly cared for her sons, but they had disappointed her deeply. Both of them were accomplished warriors, even if they did not enjoy fighting, but it was what they had done afterwards that had disenchanted her. Hagoromo, the eldest of her 3 children, had given up his position as heir completely in favor of trying to help the savages that lived in their old world. Hamura had taken the position, yet he was not a leader, and thus his actions had caused a civil war among their own clansmen. All in all, Naruto was the only son she was actually proud of, and even speaking about her eldest sons left a bad taste in Kaguya's mouth. Her disappointment was logical. From what she had built up, it only took a century for her sons to ruin, completely forcing her to reconstruct the clan into her image. "But it does not mean I can teach you one of the most powerful techniques in my arsenal." Naruto was silent as he nodded his head and responded with a hint of happiness hidden in his tone. "Really, Ka-chan?" "Of course," Kaguya said as she stood up and held out her hand. A black sphere appeared in her hands and she showed Naruto. Watching her son's eyes widen in fascination, she decided to elaborate. "Naruto-kun, this is the truth-seeking ball. 1. It was a technique that I created centuries ago that is formed with a combination of every element as well as yin-yang release. This technique was taught to your brothers and now it is your turn to learn it." Naruto looked at the sphere in wonder as he truly questioned if it was as destructive as the rumors had said. Having been kept away from her mother's private business, Naruto had never been in contact with such a technique, and he had only learned about it was from some of the clansmen who had told him of it. From what he had gathered, a single sphere could easily turn anything that came into contact with it into dust, and it wasn't the only ability the spheres possessed. They also held the ability to shapeshift and from useful tools for combat, such as metal poles that could allow him to pin enemies and restrict their movements. As you may have heard from some of the clansmen, a single sphere can cause massive amounts of destruction. Kaguya spoke up once more. Naruto looked at her in shock. It was astonishing that his mother knew so much, and it kinda creeped him out as well. If Kaguya knew such a small detail, then Naruto wondered what she didn't know. By adding chakra into it, the user can will it to expand and shrink in size as well as shift the sphere into a tool for combat. With the right amount of chakra, it could easily destroy the entire world, so be careful how much chakra you add to it. "The entire world?" Naruto asked in a dumbfounded expression. It would have been astounding if he was not surprised by the sudden revelation. A technique that could wipe out the entire world where he inhabited was indeed shocking. So much power in his hands, it almost felt as if he was beyond anyone's reach. Such a technique would easily wipe out any enemy he had. "Ka-chan, how does it hold so much power?" The truth-seeking balls are made from elements that create everything in all of existence, so much accumulated elements in a singular mass allows it maximum power. Kaguya explained, but her visage then shifted into a serious one as she sat her child down. Though the truth-seeking balls are indeed powerful, they are not without weaknesses. For one, the spheres can only reach a maximum of 70 meters and cannot be replaced in battle when lost. But its most prominent weakness would be senjutsu. Truth-seeking balls are created with every element. They could still be affected by nature energy that is included in senjutsu-based attacks or the only thing that could destroy them in combat. What about this world's senjutsu? Naruto asked in wonder as he thought of the differences between this world and the other's senjutsu. Senjutsu in this world is different from the elemental nations as those savages now call it. In the elemental nations, senjutsu is utilized by using the nature energy and combining it with the chakra the savages already possess. Senjutsu in this world allows the users to access chakra to some extent, but it relies on manipulating the spiritual energy of the user in whole. Overall, senjutsu here only uses the yin half of the body, unlike the savages in the elemental nations who utilize both yin and yang. So senjutsu here is severely weaker than the elemental nations? No, both of them hold their own respective powers, but the elemental nation's senjutsu is more offensive and this world's is supplementary.
This world's senjutsu allows the user to manipulate some hidden parts of living things and utilize it. Being able to manipulate the flow of ki in a living being's body, the user can damage the enemy without much contact. But they do not consume nature energy in their body to power their attacks. Ki manipulation only affects living things, so in a sense this world's senjutsu has little effect on the truth-seeking balls.
In other words, the attack is invincible in this world? No, Naruto-kun, nothing is invincible. No matter how powerful a single being is, there is always something above them. Though there are little abilities that could destroy the truth-seeking balls, do not become too reliant on them. If you do and they are destroyed later on in battle and you cannot replenish your supply, then you will be at a major disadvantage. Understood, Ka-chan. Good. Now I will show you how to create a single truth-seeking ball and you will continue on from there. Kaguya summed up as she moved a palm forward and Naruto leaned forward with a curious expression. A black and white sphere formed in Kaguya's hands as fire consumed the black and white sphere and burned it for a few minutes. A moment later, the burning sphere was engulfed in a layer of lightning and the two elements mixed and combined. Once a successful combination of elements occurred, water swirled around it and drowned the sphere for a few minutes later before a dome of earth concealed it and a solid sphere of earth was now in Kaguya's hands. Finally a spiral of wind devoured the sphere of earth and cracks appeared on its surface. When the wind finally stopped, a sphere of pure black mass was in Kaguya's hands. Levitating itself into the air, the sphere flew towards Kaguya's back and situated itself there. This requires absolute concentration, Kaguya said in a serious tone before it shifted into a warning one. If your thoughts stray even for a second, the sphere will collapse on itself and implode and destroy itself. There is a high possibility to take your arm along with it. Never use this in combat. Do you understand, Naruto-kun? Hi, Ka-chan. Naruto responded with a nod of his head before he held out his own palm and began to concentrate. Nothing seemed to happen at first. Kaguya seemed amused and Naruto grunted in annoyance as he kept pushing his chakra into his palm, but instead of a black and white sphere it turned into his regular Rasengan. Minutes passed and nothing happened. Naruto had gotten rid of his Rasengan and tried again and again, but it came out with the same result. Naruto-kun, so impatient you didn't wait for Ka-chan's instructions, Kaguya said as she placed a hand on her cheeks and released a sigh. Naruto grumbled at that and stopped his attempts and directed all of his attention towards Kaguya once more. The first step is easy, Naruto-kun. Instead of focusing on both yin-yang together as one, split it into two. Into two? Yes, just like you're using Banbutsu Sozo no Jutsu, creation of all things. 2. Split yin and yang into both hands and combine them instead of combining two elements into a single hand. Combining yin-yang into a single hand will not work since you had no experience using it. So combining them when they are separated, your chances of forming a single sphere is higher. Kaguya explained as she showed her an example by forming a black sphere in one hand and a white one in the other. Yosh! Naruto shouted in determination as he formed a black sphere in his right hand and formed a white sphere in his left. Combining them together, Naruto added more and more chakra into both spheres as they successfully combined and formed sphere of black and white in between his palms. Taking in a deep breath, Naruto poured fire chakra and set the sphere on fire as Naruto moved on to the next step. Kaguya watched on with pride swelling in her chest as she witnessed her third son attempting to form her prized technique. Turning in the other direction, Kaguya stalked off without another look. She knew that Naruto would complete the technique, No matter what obstacles that stood in his way, Naruto would surpass it no matter what. It was in his blood. Once Naruto set his mind onto something, he would never give up. Kaguya didn't know if it was a good thing or a bad thing, but she could only say this: there was nothing in this world that could stand in Naruto's way once he had set his mind to a goal. In a dark room, Kaguya sat there in the shadows, pondering on the events that had occurred. Kneeling before her was none other than Toneri Otsutsuki, Naruto's surrogate brother. Studying him with an impassive expression, Kaguya reached into robes and pulled out a scroll. Tossing it to Toneri, who caught it and looked at it curiously before he turned that look towards Kaguya, who still held the impassive expression. Deciding it was best to elaborate on this, Kaguya spoke. Inside that scroll are directions to Yasaka's location. I want you to locate her and eliminate her. Toneri's eyes widened in shock and surprise as his eyes darted towards the scroll once more before responding in a shocked tone. Kaguya-sama, are you sure? Naruto-sama decided to leave her be? Yes, I am sure. Kaguya replied instantly, her pupil-less lavender eyes narrowed as she spoke her next words. That failed leader has allowed herself to lose face among the Yukai, and not only that, but she has betrayed our clan. The most important reason I am having you rid of her is because of Naruto. Though my precious son will be a great leader, he was quite fond of that woman. That fondness had influenced his decision to kill her, and thus her life was saved. I will not allow her to live more than the generous days that Naruto had given her. You will take a force of clansmen to rid this world of a pathetic leader. Will Naruto-sama approve of this, Kaguya-sama? Toneri asked as his shock did not die down completely. Though it was still present, it was less noticeable in his features. The orders he had just received from his matriarch were something shocking indeed. What she said about Naruto was true, and Naruto himself had confirmed those words when they were outside the operating room. Naruto-kun is too soft towards his beloved ones and is willing to go through great lengths to ensure their safety. That is a great trait that all mothers would wish for their sons would have in them, but this situation it is completely different. You will follow through with my orders, Toneri. It is for Naruto's own good. My son does not have the will to kill anyone that he holds preciously in his heart, and if he does not, then he cannot become the patriarch of this clan. Kaguya said with a tone that left no room for argument. Toneri got the hint and nodded his head. Toneri could not argue with that reason. Naruto was too kind towards the ones he held dear. It wasn't a bad thing, far from it. That was one of the traits that Toneri found best about Naruto in general. Someone so loyal to his loved ones was a great person indeed. But that love excelled in many cases, and it would cause issues in the future such as this one. His love for Yasaka had influenced his decision involving her life. A good leader did not hesitate, and Naruto had just did. It was something that could later on prove to be disastrous for any leader if they hesitated.
Hi, Kaguya-sama, Toneri responded with a bow of his head. Kaguya responded with another nod as she closed her eyes and gave him a hand gesture. Walking out of the room, Toneri moved swiftly down the halls. His goal in mind was finding some members willing to participate in the assigned mission, though he doubted anyone would have turned it down to get a blow in against a traitor and someone who had hurt their next clan head.
Naruto had done it. After hours upon hours of constant practice, he had completed 9 truth-seeking balls. What his mother had said about absolute concentration was spot on. Those hours he spent trying to form a single one had taken a toll on his massive chakra reserves. Now that he had completed all 10, Naruto, which was the maximum number of spheres available, he was now ready for practice. Though he doubted using these required much experience, it would be best if he had done a few test runs to experiment with his new tools. The first thing Naruto found out about the truth-seeking balls were that they levitated behind him in a circular formation, and they seemed to react to attacks that were sent his way. Though keeping in mind the maximum radius, they were only able to reach up to 70 meters, which was not bad for such a powerful attack, but it also forced him to move towards targets once they were out of range. That was nothing Naruto would complain about, though he did like having 10 spheres of mass destruction protecting him all the time. It felt better to move instead of being limited to a single spot. It just didn't feel right to be rooted in a specific position while a fight was happening. It just made Naruto feel vulnerable when he was staying still in the middle of a battlefield. The first thing Naruto tested was willing his spheres to move around. They were quite useful as they followed his will, and it didn't require a single bit of chakra to move them. But expanding them took some chakra, but it was something he was willing to do. Experimenting with said ability, Naruto had been able to mess with the chakra receiving ability the truth-seeking ball possessed. Sending a minimum of 3 spheres before him, Naruto had been able to create a technique known as Kaminari no Tate. A scutcheon of lightning. 3. The technique basically generated electricity from each individual sphere and formed a barrier in the area where said spheres did not connect. The size of the barrier all depended on distance of the individual spheres, but as said barrier grew weaker if it grew larger as more energy spread around did not allow maximum amount of it in all areas. For all the time Naruto spent tweaking with his newfound technique, Naruto created more than one technique depriving from the truth-seeking balls. Sozo no Yari, Spears of Creation. 4. By using Shinra Bansho, all things in nature. 5. Naruto transformed 5 truth-seeking balls into spears and launched them at his targets. Coating the spears are all 5 basic elements allowing Naruto to attack the enemy with multiple attacks. Though it was one of his more simple creations, it proved to be effective as he had tested it on a boulder and the results was a pile of rocks raining down on him. Lastly, his final technique that he had created was called Hokori no Kimusho, Prison of Dust. 6. This was by far his simplest technique he had created yet, but still one of his most effective. 4 spheres are sent towards his target and expand, and when connected they trap the intended targets in a rectangular prison. Everything trapped inside would be turned to ash as Naruto would then will the rectangular prison to shrink in size, thus killing anything without senjutsu defensive properties. A truly devastating technique, so simple yet effective. That showed what these black spheres were truly capable of, being able to simply turn whatever touched them into dust. They could kill anything if used correctly. Naruto was now laying on the floor panting softly as he had tired out his reserves of chakra and now was left weakened like a mortal. Naruto wasted so much chakra on creating techniques and forming the truth-seeking balls. New techniques were truly devastating for anyone's chakra supply. Forming something entirely new would require much chakra to perfect and practice. And it had taken Naruto nearly half of his entire supply already to form the spheres. It was truly hard to form the truth-seeking balls, and forming one already took him hours, so he would need to avoid using his spheres as it took quite a while to reform. Groaning in pain, Naruto finally pushed himself off of the ground and sat up with another groan. Rubbing his neck, Naruto got up slowly and began walking back towards the clan compound. He had completed his work for the day and it was a fulfilling day, having created 3 techniques in all and also mastering one. He was quite proud. Moving inside, Naruto navigated through the maze of hallways and he found himself sitting outside the room where Hu was getting treated at. Moving towards the window, Naruto looked inside and his mood shifted immediately as he reached forward and placed a hand on the glass. Looking at the weakened form of his friend, Naruto gained a sad smile on his face as his failure from before quickly returned. I promise Hu, I won't ever hesitate again. No one else will be like that if I can do something to stop it. Buddy, if you can hear me, then know that they're reopening the hot springs that you always loved. Once you recover, let's go together. A few minutes passed and Naruto continued to look at his friend before he released a sigh and moved on. He would visit Hu tomorrow. Right now he needed to get some rest or he wouldn't be of use to anyone. As he walked through the darkened hallways, Naruto never noticed the form of his mother hidden by the shadows. Kaguya watched her son walk away. Releasing a sigh of her own, Kaguya walked in the opposite direction of her son and headed towards the front gate of her home. Now she had some duties to attend to and her son would hold down the fort. Kaguya knew that Toneri would not fail and Yasaka would be dead without a doubt. There was nothing else to worry about. Dedication was what all Otsutsuki clansmen had. Others would call it a natural obsession, but that was just a mere detail. Not many people in the world could compare to the Otsutsuki clan's dedication to whatever goal they set themselves up for. Though unsure where it came from, Naruto concluded it was from the days of slavery and the time running away from their slavers. Every generation was not left out in this trait. Every member had unnatural dedication towards any interest they pursued. Onto the subject of Naruto, Kaguya had given birth to monsters. That was plain and simple. Her first 2 sons held much power. In fact, one of the Hagoromo was revered as a god in the elemental nations. Her second son was not too far behind. Born with her eyes, Hamura took over the clan and grew up to be as powerful as Hagoromo himself. But Naruto had something they did not. Both brothers were truly talented, but Naruto also held something far greater than talent: the stubbornness of a mule. Toneri was not spared from this trait either, as he too was quite stubborn if he set his mind to a goal, and Toneri had. The young Otsutsuki's goal was not something like Hagoromo's, which involved bringing peace to a world filled with violent people. Or even Hamura's, which was quite simple, but his was to be a follower. Naruto had shown traits of being a worthy leader, and Toneri swore his loyalties to his surrogate brother and he would do whatever was necessary to protect him, even if he would have to kill someone that his brother was once close to. Such loyalty was hard to come by from pretty much anyone. It was very scary how loyal the entire clan was to Kaguya and Naruto. Toneri was moving through the trees with a group of Otsutsuki clansmen trailing behind him. None spoke as hand gestures were used as they navigated through the forest and headed towards Kyoto. Locating the temple where Yasaka used as a base of operations, Toneri had ordered the other members to knock out the guards or to kill them. Either way, it did not matter. Moving through the entrance, Toneri added chakra to his eyes and began scanning every room trying to locate Yasaka. Quickly speeding through the halls, Toneri finally found his target when he arrived in her office. Opening the door, Toneri walked inside without a hint of emotion on his face. Yasaka spotted him and she didn't react right away. Reaching into his robes, Toneri grabbed hold of a kunai and walked forward. Yasaka didn't even make a sound as she watched Toneri approach. Speaking in a tone that did not betray his face, Toneri directed his words toward the Kyuubi. Yasaka, you have betrayed the Otsutsuki clan and for such crimes your life is forfeit. Do you have any last words? No, Yasaka replied in a plain tone. She had already knew this was going to happen. I knew Naruto-kun sparing me wouldn't have mattered anyways. It merely bought me a day or so to finish saying my goodbyes to this world before death would consume me. Go on ahead, I have been ready for this. But do promise me one thing. A pathetic traitor like you dares to for a favor in such conditions? Toneri sneered. Yes. Yasaka responded once more. My daughter Kuno, please take her to Naruto-kun when I have passed on. You have every right to ignore my final pleas but won't you grant a dead woman's wish? It is not up to me, Toneri said as he brought his kunai up and slashed downwards. Now goodbye Kyuubi no Kitsune. Fresh blood decorated Toneri's blade as he gained a grim look and turned away from his handiwork. The other members would clean up her body and now all he had to do was finish up here and head home. Toneri lingered outside the hall for a few seconds before calling for a clansman. Locate the Kyuubi's daughter and find her. She has no information about her mother's death as of yet and she would prove to be useful to us in the future. Hi, Toneri-sama. Like that the man was gone in a flash as he set out to complete his newly assigned task. Toneri walked away with 3 clansmen following him once more. The group exited the temple and now were moving into a few trees for cover. Along the way Toneri thought about his surrogate brother, Nisan. It doesn't matter what you think or say, but I will protect you from the shadows as you lead in the light. Naruto had finished speaking with the doctor who had worked on Hu and a smile seemed to permanently stay on his face afterwards. Having received news about Hu's condition, Naruto could not help but be happy that his friend was going to make a full recovery. It was the best news that he had heard so far. Relief and joy filled his heart so a majority of the day that massive smile did not leave his face. Hu, how are you doing? Naruto asked in curiosity as he on the chair that was provided. Looking at his perverted friend Naruto spotted that lecherous grin that he held on his face and released an amused sigh. I'm gonna say you're doing fine. Of course. Hu responded a cheerful tone as the shameless pervert ogled a nurse as she carried a tray of food out of the room. Naruto couldn't help but smile at this. Even though he wasn't very fond of Hu's perverted tendencies, it was better than him dying. Hu, I never really got the chance to thank you for saving me back there, Naruto said as he looked at his friend. A mixture of emotions were playing around in his heart and Naruto couldn't decide what tone was best to use to address his friend. He was stuck between thankful and regretful. Well, now you said it, there isn't really much to talk about. Hu responded with a shrug of his shoulders and looked at Naruto with a questioning gaze. Seeing his best friend mentally at war with himself, Hu decided to put him to ease. Naruto, you know the reason why I chose to save you? Naruto stopped his mental debate and turned his full attention towards Hu and gave him a shake of his head in negative to his question. Hu answered with a smile on his face as he directed it towards Naruto. I saved you because you were willing to give up your life for mine. No matter how much time passes, I will always keep that promise we made. Besides, what sort of friend would I be if I had let you take that attack? Naruto's eyes widened in surprise as he recalled that promise he and Hu had made with the Fenghuang feather that was gifted to Hu. A promise to always stand by his side no matter what. It was that single promise that had sparked their friendship and over time, it grew to be more than a promise. It was now Hu's oath to his best friend. A smile found its way onto Naruto's face as he said, but nonetheless, thank you my friend, for everything. Hu quickly got up from his seated position and headed towards the door and Naruto flashed him a curious glance. Hu decided to answer the unspoken question. The hot springs are open today. I've been stuck in there for so long, I forgot what a pair of opai look like. I need to regain my youth. With that last part he had ran off. Naruto shuddered slightly as he heard that part about youth. Something inside of him feared that word for some unexplained reason. Getting up, Naruto hurried out of the room without any other thoughts on that subject. Heading out of the room, Naruto made his way towards his unexpected guest. Truth be told, Naruto had not really thought his mother would have been kind enough to even take in Kuno. His actions of sparing Yasaka's life did not receive a position reaction from his clansmen and Naruto understood fully why they did not favor his decision. Eliminating anything that had to do with their horrible past was top priority and he wasn't willing to do so. Losing some favor from his clansmen, Naruto knew that Kaguya would have sent someone to kill Yasaka. In fact, it didn't even surprise him. Kaguya was willing to do whatever was necessary for her clan to succeed. Being her son, it was a shame Naruto was nothing like his mother. His mother's ruthlessness would have been a big help on the battlefield. It was a shame that he had not developed that trait, as all great leaders were ruthless towards enemies. It was part of being a good leader. No matter what, a leader should never be merciful towards his enemies. It was a risk that no leader would take, as allowing enemies to live would threaten the lives and safety of his subjects. Reviewing the situation, Naruto knew the risks he was taking. Allowing Yasaka to live had given their enemies a chance to fight back and an opportunity to take more of his clansmen's lives. Not allowing her to live did the opposite. It showed that even if someone was a former friend, the Otsutsuki clan was willing to cut them down if they ever betrayed them. Naruto did not just represent himself, his actions reflected upon his clan as a whole. Naruto knew deep down he was wrong for allowing Yasaka to live, yet his fondness of her had swayed his mind. He was still weak. Naruto knew he was not strong enough to lead. It wasn't physical powers, he had plenty of that, but he was lacking in the mental powers. Naruto did not possess the mental capabilities to steal his heart and kill off former friends and loved ones that threatened his clan's safety. That was his Achilles heel. Naruto still held his precious people too close to heart, and it was conflicting with his mind as a leader. Banishing those thoughts to the back of his mind, Naruto resumed his movements towards Kuno's room. Arriving there, Naruto slid open the door and entered the room. "Naruto ni-san," Kuno greeted as she rushed over to Naruto and hugged the blonde. Returning the embrace, Naruto looked at her with a sad smile on his face. "Kuno-chan, how are you doing?" Naruto asked as he was dragged towards the table where Kuno once sat, looking at the drawings that she had worked on from before. Naruto couldn't help but wince slightly as he looked at the drawn pictures. "Those are some amazing drawings." "That's Okawa-sama and me," Kuno said as she pointed towards the childish drawings of a woman with fox features and a child in her arms. It was painful to think on that subject. He was angry at Yasaka for helping his clan's enemies, but she was still a friend. His mind was conflicting over these issues, and it seemed that neither side was losing any ground. Naruto was snapped out of his thoughts when Kuno turned to him and asked a question. "Naruto ni-san, will I ever see Okawa-sama again?" "I don't know, Kuno. I don't know," Naruto said as his eyes hardened to a degree. Naruto had accepted Yasaka's reasons for her betrayal and decided it was no longer in his power to do anything but do one last favor for Yasaka: watch over Kuno. "What did you want to see me about, Gabriel?" Naruto asked as he looked at the beautiful blonde seated in front of him. Having been asked to meet with her, Naruto had decided to go. He needed something to keep his mind off of Kuno and Yasaka, so meeting with Seraph would help in this situation. "Naruto-sama, I have called you here for a business meeting rather than a social one," Gabriel said as she smiled at Naruto and reached into her robes and produced a file, handing it towards Naruto, who began reviewing it with a critical eye. "There has been a theft of our Excalibur fragments. One of our rogue exorcists has taken the fragments and are currently in Kuo City as far as we know. Heaven is requesting entry into Otsutsuki clan territory." "How many are you sending?" Naruto asked as he looked over the pictures provided of the 3 stolen Excalibur. Finding another page, Naruto looked over the information of one Xenovia Quarta and Irina Shido. "As you can see, we are sending 2. Gabriel answered as she continued to smile pleasantly. "Both of them are holy sword wielders. They also possess their own Excalibur fragments. Their objective is to capture or destroy the stolen Excalibur fragments." "Why are you telling me all of this?" Naruto questioned her with a calculative gaze. "We simply wish for permission into your territory, and if you could provide it, assistance in retrieving the Excalibur fragments." Gabriel answered as she looked at Naruto, who seemed to be pondering over these. "Tell me, Gabriel, what's stopping me from denying you access to my territory and taking those fragments for myself?" Naruto asked with a blank expression. Though Naruto would have done this as a favor and taken one in return, he still wished to see how this played out. "Naruto-sama, nothing is stopping you from doing so. Heaven does not have the power to fully engage the Otsutsuki clan in a war, nor do we have enough power to stop you or Kaguya-sama," Gabriel answered with a shrug of her shoulders. Naruto looked at her for a moment as he thought about her words. It was true, heaven was weakened after their god's death, leaving Naruto to wonder why she was placing so much trust in him. No sane person would simply give out such valuable information without trusting the other party, or they were not using something. But in this situation, Heaven was losing all 3 Excalibur fragments with the information Gabriel had just given. "Michael-sama, simply wished for this to be a simple mission without informing you." Gabriel was interrupted when 2 shrieks ranged boldly across the cafe the 2 were seated in. Turning his head, Naruto spotted 2 idiots that he did not wish to see today of all days. Standing side by side and shrieking together were Matsuda and Motohana. Both individuals along with Issei Hyodo made up the perverted trio. Matsuda was a bald pervert with an average height and average build and was the same age as Issei. Motohana was a bespectacled male pervert with short black hair and was the same age as his Matsuda and Issei. Gabriel gave them a confused look and Naruto wanted to slam his face into the table. These two idiots were going to annoy him. That bastard Naruto. Matsuda screamed in rage as he pointed a finger at Naruto, who was shaking his head in utter annoyance. How come he scores such a beautiful woman with such amazing opai? I can't read her sizes. Motohana said in shock as he stared at the voluptuous blonde seated in front of Naruto. Looking towards Matsuda, he spoke in urgent tone. Matsuda. We have to stop that bastard from getting another beauty to follow him. Right. Matsuda replied as both Motohana and Matsuda rushed forward in hopes of ruining the supposed date Naruto was on. Seeing their actions, Naruto got out of his seat and walked towards Gabriel and sat beside her and spoke in an overly annoyed tone. Those idiots go to my school, do your best to ignore them and they will go away. Naruto had been attending school with his new hair color and not a single soul had questioned it. It was most likely he had cast an illusion over everyone that was not a supernatural being and tweaked their mind about his appearance. Looking at Gabriel, Naruto spoke in a more composed tone. Gabriel, for the time being will you follow me along in my act? Of course Naruto-sama. Gabriel responded with a gentle smile as Naruto and her both waited for the arrival of the two perverts. Not that Gabriel knew they were massive perverts, and Naruto didn't think that she knew much about them from the previous encounters with Gabriel. Naruto knew she was a major airhead and seemed to ignore all common sense. Naruto Teme. Motohana shouted as he sat himself down on Naruto's previous spot and Matsuda sat beside him. What are you doing with such a beautiful woman? Yeah, Teme. Matsuda agreed as both perverted teens sent Naruto a glare. What are you perverts doing here? Naruto asked with a bored look as Gabriel continued to smile. Women here have amazing opai. Matsuda stopped himself before he could finish his sentence and shouted in an enraged tone. Don't play your pre-boy mind games with me Naruto Teme. I know how they work, now tell us. Can't you see I'm spending some time with Gabriel-chan here? Naruto asked as he placed an arm around Gabriel and brought her closer. The seraph blinked in confusion but decided to go along with it as she smiled and nodded her head. Yes, Naruto-sama, we were having a great time. Gabriel said as she drew attention to herself. Her voice seemed to captivate both perverts as they looked at her dreamily before her next words shattered them, just like those nights from before. Matsuda and Motohana both had looks of shock and horror mixed onto their faces. No words could come out of his mouth but something did come out. Both perverts released random words that had no relations to this situation whatsoever. Naruto wanted to slap his face, he truly did. How Gabriel phrased it seemed as if they went through sexual intercourse. Normal people would have been confused but telling both perverts had an instant reaction. It seemed whatever words were spoken they related it to anything sexual. Releasing a groan, Naruto got up from his seat and offered a hand to Gabriel which the seraph gladly took and the two were gone. Leaving behind the two perverts that were having such hard times coping with this information, it always shocked Naruto that two massive perverts couldn't some words from a busty blonde that implied an action they had participated in. This is going to be a long day. Naruto thought as he began guiding Gabriel out of the cafe, forgetting the fact that their hands were still interlocked. So, we have some holy swords to find? Toneri asked as he sat back and drank the tea that was prepared for him. Naruto had called for a meeting between the three of them and now they were in their favorite location, Naruto's room. Why they chose that room to talk about all their important tasks was something not a single one could understand, but since Naruto was an heir, security was pretty tight around him room. Well, that was his reason. Truth be told, Naruto was just being lazy that day. Yes, our goal is to find the 3 Excalibur fragments and assist the 2 exorcists being sent to either retrieve or destroy them. Naruto said as he looked at the map of his territories. Thinking about it, Naruto turned to Toneri and spoke to his surrogate brother in a commanding tone. But that is not your task, Toneri. I have another one that will need your attention. What is it, Ni-san? Toneri gave his brother a questioning glance as he looked at what his brother was staring at. That territory used to belong to the Usagi Yukai, Naruto said as he traced a finger around a major portion of Kyoto and all of Tokyo. When the treaty between Yukai crashed, many of them withdrew to their own little traces of land and are now building armies to fight for that massive portion of land that is left behind after the destruction of the Usagi. Toneri nodded his head in understanding as he watched his brother grab a pen and circle the Otsutsuki clan territory. Naruto then continued as he pointed a finger at their clan's compound location. This is where our base of operations is. The black border is all of the land we control, including Kuo City, the location where we received from Sears X Lucifer. Toneri, now that there is a major plot of land available, I wish to expand. Ni-san, shouldn't we speak to Kaguya-sama about this first? Toneri asked as he was beginning to see what Naruto was telling him to do. I already spoke to Ka-chan about this subject and she agreed to it. Naruto answered his brother's question before directing a finger towards Kyoto once more. Without Yusaka ruling over Kyoto, we have the chance to obtain that land. I wish for you to capture Kyoto City and bring it under Otsutsuki clan command. There are many smaller territories surrounding that area, but we will worry about that later. But there will be some minor battles between leaders inside the city trying to take control of the city since Yusaka is dead and Kuno is with us. Capture Kyoto City? Toneri asked as he looked at Naruto in shock. Yes, once you complete that task, we move on to the rest of the unclaimed territory. Naruto replied with a nod as he drew a circle surrounding every piece of land and territory Japan controlled. Once that goal is over, we will do what Yusaka failed to do. We will bring Japan under a single banner. That is our main goal. Naruto Ni-san, want the other Yukai rebel? Toneri asked as he thought about the information his surrogate brother was giving him. I mean, the Otsutsuki clan rejected the invitation to join the alliance and now we all of a sudden begin a conquest. Don't you think they'll think bad about us? I believe so. Naruto responded with a nod of his head and continued speaking. We may not even have to conquer their lands. A simple alliance shall bring them forward. After all, no matter which era we live in, power is the only thing that everyone understands. Toneri, by doing this we will strengthen our hold of Japan by an astounding degree, and our clan can finally have a place to call our own. What of the three factions? They will not have any trouble. Ka-chan has already spoken with the devils and they did not seem to mind, and even if they did they could not do a single thing to stop us. I spoke with the angel faction and as long as their believers are safe from harm they have no intentions of interfering with our business. Along with this, the fallen angels Governor General has agreed already to this. Ni-san, why would they agree to something like this? They wish for peace. What? Think about it, if we do not interfere then the smaller groups of Yukai shall wage war for territory. In hopes of gaining power from land, more blood will be shed for that selfish desire for power. If we do not interfere there shall be another war much larger than the last one and more blood shall paint the earth red. We must rein them in before the war breaks out or else there may be some unnecessary losses of life. What about these islands here? Who has taken the liberty of sending some of his men there to bring them under our command? Once this plan is complete, Japan shall be under our rule. The other Yukai, what if they do not agree on an alliance? We leave them alone. Ni-san, why? Even if none of them agreed to our alliance, we would have a control of a majority of Japan already. If they prove themselves to be a threat or simply try anything that will be harmful towards our clan then we simply wage a war on them. Though that is a highly unlikely scenario as they fear us simply for how much power we hold. When do I start? Immediately, we do not have much time to waste. Armies are being amassed for a war fought over a dead man's land. Our priority is to gain whatever advantages we could from the aftermath of our previous war. Understood, Ni-san. Good, now go. Naruto studied the map with a critical eye. For hours he had been studying a map of Japan. At the moment, the Otsutsuki clan held the most power and territory, but the Usagi held a good portion of Japan as well, thus leaving a gaping hole in Japan without a Yukai branch controlling it. Smaller territories began moving ahead and claiming whatever land they could before more powerful branches moved in to stake their claim. No matter how he looked at it, without their clan's interference this could likely spark another war, but this time much longer than the previous one. Greed would drive leaders to push their people into new lands and soon an all-out war would ensue. Though Naruto wished to stay neutral he knew it was going to be impossible. The Otsutsuki clan compound was located near Kyoto and thus very close to the battlefields if a war were to take place. Even if he had managed to convince himself to stay neutral, Naruto would have been outvoted by his mother and elders. Power came with territory and his elders along with his mother were obsessed with claiming more power for their clan. Kaguya's view of this was that she wished to simply build a powerful clan for her son to take over once she stepped down. With that power it would prove to be useful in the future as power in any world solved every issue. The elders on the other hand, wished to finally make a place in the world for their clan. Being born and raised as slaves in their past, gaining something like a true home was major. Naruto could not understand the elders' reasons nor his mother's as he was never in a role such as theirs, but he respected their reasons. But involving themselves in this war would bring more positives than negatives, so he was not one to deny them that. Naruto was still confused why his clan did not take that territory in the first place, but he simply chose not to overthink this situation. Choosing to think of it in another perspective, Naruto knew the advantages of allowing other Yukai to initiate a war. By doing this, his clan would have been able to give a show of power by dominating other Yukai in a war. Shaking his head, Naruto pushed all those thoughts to the back of his mind and focused on the task at hand. No matter which way anyone looked at it, the Otsutsuki clan would gain the most out of this entire war. Where are we supposed to be doing again? Naruto asked as he looked towards his perverted friend. Naruto and Hu were both seated on benches inside a park. Naruto had no idea why he was here, but Hu seemed to. Looking at his friend, Naruto got a bit annoyed by the perverted grin plastered on Hu's face. We're supposed to meet them, those exorcists, aren't we? Hu questioned as he turned to face Naruto, who nodded his head confirming his words, and Hu continued. The church is not too far from here and we can relax. It's not like we're devils or anything, we can enter churches. Naruto said as he followed his friend's gaze and saw him ogling a woman who was taking a jog through the park. Sighing, Naruto patted his friend on the back and spoke, never change, buddy. Change? Hu said as he turned to Naruto and gave him a disgusted look before continuing, why would I change? I would never stray from the path of Oppai, only a fool like you would do something like that. Shaking his head, Naruto headed towards the vending machine not too far from their position to buy some drinks and turned to Hu, do you want some coffee?
Who needs coffee when you have Oppai? Right. Naruto walked off without another word, and in the corner of his eye, Naruto spotted two cloaked figures walking towards the church, and he immediately headed in their direction before he stopped walking and turned towards Hu.
Seeing his friend was still fascinated with some woman's breasts, but instead of simply using his eyes, he now had binoculars to spot his beloved Oppai. Sighing, Naruto walked over to Hu and grabbed him by his collar and began dragging him towards the church. No complaint was heard from Hu, and Naruto for a second thought something was wrong with his friend before a wolfish whistle was released from Hu, and Naruto gained a dry look before he continued his actions. A young woman with chin-length blue hair with a green fringe on the right side of her head and dark yellow eyes. Her outfit consisted of a black skin-tight, short-sleeved unitard with pauldrons, matching fingerless gloves that extended to her biceps, and thigh-high boots. This young woman was named Zenobia Quarta, a holy sword wielder and a holder of Excalibur Destruction. Next to her was her partner Irina. Irina held the appearance of a beautiful young woman around Naruto's age with long, chestnut hair and violet eyes. Her hair was tied back into two twintails. Like Zenobia, she wore a similar outfit. Zenobia and Irina both possessed a Excalibur fragment each. Both of them were currently inside the abandoned church facing their help for this assignment. Naruto-sama, it is an honor to meet you, Zenobia said as she and Irina both bowed her heads slightly. After a few seconds, they stood straight once more and Naruto gave them a nod in response. Zenobia-san, do you have an idea of where you wish to search for the fragments first? Naruto asked as he nudged Hu to stop gawking at their outfits. Though Naruto was quite shocked about their attire as well, he had the decency to not openly gawk at it. But seeing the church's battle outfit, it did raise some questions in Naruto's mind. Having such a skimpy outfit to battle enemies was quite shocking. We thought they may have been at this church, but we came out empty-handed as we searched this place before you and your partner came. Zenobia answered as she looked around the abandoned church once more before returning her attention to Naruto. Naruto-sama, do you know any place we could stay for the time being? We cannot stay here in the church as it is in this condition. Of course, you may stay as my guests in the clan compound. Naruto answered before he turned around and walked out of the church with Hu, Zenobia, and Irina following him from behind. How about we get some rest before we begin searching, or do you want to look for it immediately? Both exorcists' stomachs growled as both of them blushed in slight embarrassment, and Naruto released an amused chuckle. Continuing forward, he spoke in an amused tone, we should probably get some lunch first before we do anything. Thank you, Naruto-sama. Zenobia answered as she recomposed herself and followed the yokai down the path. Hu had stopped looking at the exorcist's body and was busy thinking about their current predicament. They had no clues to go off of, and trying to find a single person in an entire city was going to be tough. After eating, Zenobia and Irina both were ready to discuss their information with Naruto and Hu. Speaking in her usual serious tone, Zenobia began speaking about the information they had been given. What the church has told us is that the one who stole the 3 Excaliburs is a man named Fried Selzen. He stole the Excalibur fragments rapidly, Nightmare, and Transparency. And what all we know about his location is that he is somewhere in Kuo City. In my territory, huh? Naruto mused as he thought about it and studied the map of Kuo City. Nothing was coming to mind. The church was the most likely spot where Fried would have been situated, but they had met there and he did not even sense anyone else there. Hu, what do you think? Well, from what I gathered, we do not have to waste our energy trying to find him, Hu said as he caught everyone's attention and took that as a cue to continue. From what you told me, Naruto, there is a much larger plot at work here and we do not need to waste precious energy trying to find him when he will eventually show himself. After all, there has to be a reason why he is in Kuo of all places. Kuo Academy. Naruto said as Hu nodded his head and directed a finger towards the academy and spoke. Kuo used to be territory ran by devils. Before you took over and freed is plotting something that involves these devils. No matter how we look at this, it is the most likely situation. So we just have to wait for him to show up then take back the fragments? Irina asked as she thought about Hu's words. Exactly, we currently do not have enough information to locate him, and even if we try they will know of this and stay in hiding. Hu explained further as he took a sip of his tea. All we can do now is allow them to do whatever they are planning and can only stop them before they can finish their little plan involving those devils. Very well then. Naruto said with a nod, we shall do that for now. Zenobia-san, Irina-san. You both are welcome to stay as long as you wish. Now before we end this, anything else to speak about? Zenobia and Irina both shook their heads in negative. Hu raised his hand and directed his words towards Zenobia and Irina and spoke, what are your 3 sizes?
Naruto face-palmed when he heard those words, no matter what Hu would always surprise him. At one time he could be serious and smart, but in a few seconds his perverted tendencies would take over, and this was the result. Even though Hu was an idiot at times, Naruto smiled at the question. It was good to have his perverted friend back. No matter what he said, the perverseness was what made Hu himself. That was a trait that Naruto would never change, even if it annoyed him to no end at times.
Hu was sent flying courtesy of Irina, and Naruto ignored it in favor of drinking his tea. But if one looked close enough, a small smile decorated Naruto's face. It was just good to have Hu back. His perverted actions always lightened up Naruto's day even if he was not willing to admit it. Kaguya could not help herself as a cold sneer stretched across her perfect lips. Yasaka had predictably made her way to the East Yukai faction, which allowed her to openly declare war on Nurarihyun and the 5 principal clans who inadvertently give shelter to an enemy of her faction. Naruto played his part splendidly, with Kuno adoring her son as her own personal hero for showing Yasaka mercy. She would be key in bringing the Kyuubi. Once she destroyed the East Yukai faction, she would slaughter the 5 principal clan if they would get in her way. Knowing them, Kaguya no doubt knew they would submit to her rule. No matter how tough of an image they displayed, their power was limited. Even the Shinto gods that supposedly had supreme rule over Japan would be nothing more than mere obstacles in her way. After all, if they stepped out of place, then they would be replaced. Pondering her plans, Kaguya smirked at the thought of finally ridding her foes and firmly placing Japan in her control. Sipping on the tea set for her by her attendants, Kaguya waited patiently for her next appointment. On K, a large flash of light illuminated the room Kaguya occupied, and out appeared a young child with cascading green hair. Though appearing harmless, Shiva was anything but. Kaguya knew the Hindu gods were not to be trifled with. Shiva, Indra, Brahma and Vishnu were dangerous in their respective rights, making the Hindus among one of the more powerful faction of gods. She however did not consider them too much of a threat. If the Hindus and the Otsutsukis battled, Kaguya knew her clan would come out on top. What she was worried about were the potential losses that would come with their victory. You are as beautiful as they say, Princess Kaguya. Shiva began, his sharp, calculating eyes studying the beautiful woman. I am surprised you would invite me to Kyoto after the little issue you had with the other Yukai. Kaguya merely nodded and offered Shiva a seat. Now, what do you want? Finishing her cup of tea, Kaguya smiled thinly and motioned to the beautiful view of Kyoto home offered. An alliance. With Kyoto and Kuo now firmly under Otsutsuki rule, I believe an alliance with you would be beneficial to our 2 factions. Just me? Not the rest of the Hindu gods? Of course I would be open to an alliance with the entire faction, but you are not unified. From what I have gathered, you and Indra have been warring amongst yourselves. Ho? Has our dirty little secret been exposed? No matter, Indra is not a threat to me. I see. Then what is it that you want? Pondering Kaguya's words for a moment, Shiva grinned and shrugged his shoulders in response, hoping to bring a reaction out of the emotionless woman. His actions were in vain, however. Kaguya remained stoic in their discussions. Shiva smiling once more before finally arriving at the heart of their meeting. What does the Otsutsuki clan have to offer me? What is it do you desire? Interesting things rather than a mere war. For Naruto, he found Azazel amusing. His mother on the other hand wanted nothing more than to wipe Grigori and Azazel off the map. Considering some less than formal comments he initially made towards Kaguya, Naruto half expected her to turn the fallen angel to dust. To the outside world, Grigori and the Otsutsukis were neutral. No one other than the respective leaders of both factions knew of their alliance. Grigori needed strength if war ever broke out between the other biblical factions, whereas Kaguya desired Azazel's obscure knowledge of sacred gears. Their agreement demanded mutual defense of both parties. It did not however allow Azazel to appear unannounced, which the Governor-General liked to do, a lot. In this instance Azazel was seated inside Naruto's bedroom shamelessly looking around for blackmail material. Not again, you perverted old man. Naruto groaned aloud. Oi, where do you hide your porn, brat? Azazel asked, ignoring the incredulous look sent his way. After another minute of searching for incriminating magazines only to come out empty-handed. With a sad, disappointed sigh he turned to the annoyed Naruto, patting him softly on the shoulder. Don't worry, I brought enough porn for the both of us, you can thank me later. You are impossible. Chuckling lightly Azazel replied ever so cheerily. I will turn you into a fellow pervert, just you wait. Why are you here in Kuo? I heard you took over the city from the devils and had to see it for myself. More like you're avoiding Shemazai again. Not bothering to deny the accusation, Azazel grinned before an unusually serious expression crossed his face. Kokabiel is planning something. He's been gone from Grigori for weeks now. You want me to find him? No, I have Valley looking for him. I just wanted to warn you in case he attacks. Right, of course. I really came to warn you, I am. Take me seriously. Azazel demanded, aiming an annoyed glare at Naruto. He continued to do so until he crossed his arms in indignation, before grumbling aloud. Brats these days. Seriously though, how are you even the leader of Grigori? I'm surprised Valley isn't a psychopath with how you raised him. The attack was super effective. Azazel recoiled as if he had been struck, laying down in a fetal position, softly whispering a response. You act like you don't enjoy all the porn I gave you. Oh, I burned those. They were limited edition magazines. Azazel roared, jumping up and throwing an elbow on Naruto's neck. How can you do such a thing? Naruto simply gave him a deadpan stare. You owe me a favor, you brat. They were part of my special collection. Do you know how rare those were? Looking over the report Georg sent him, Sao smiled to himself. When the little struggle between the yokais became common knowledge, he wanted to send some help to prevent the Otsutsukis from killing Yasaka. Once he found out they spared her, Sao ordered his plan to seize control of the Kyoto ley lines to begin early. He at first wanted to strike when Kyoto's defenses were weakened, but he held off until he managed to capture Yasaka. Now with her in his possession, he would begin to lay waste to the city in order to summon Great Red. All he needed now was fully mobilize the hero faction to capture Kyoto. He was a hero after all. As a descendant of one of China's greatest warlords, he would wipe out all of threats to humanity. The years of planning and preparing would finally come to fruition when he summoned Great Red. Hey, he could see it now. Once he wiped out the yokai, he would use his Longinus to defeat Great Red. Thinking about his plans only made Sao's smile grow ever bigger. Yes, soon all the evils that threatened humanity would be destroyed. He would destroy them, Sao. Soon. Thanks for watching here friends, see you next video.